Buddies, here we are. We are live at Circa Hotel in Fremont in Old Vegas as we get set for the watch party for the first round of the NHL Draft 2024. It is Stinky in the Brain, Ryan Pinder from Barnburner, alongside the managing editor of FlamesNation.ca, Ryan Pike. It is a huge day, Pike. We're going to be joined over the next 3-4 hours by all kinds of pals. We've got lots of time for your comments and questions. We'll get into the Great Clips inbox in the next 5 to 10 minutes as we are underway at the Sphere, where we are not. But there's a beautiful pool with some Copa America going on behind us. And I know they did have to drain the one pool that we were in that day, but they've since refilled it, and a wonderful place to be. Fully endorse stadium swim here at Circa Hotel.
Yeah, we've availed ourselves of the facilities, and highly recommend it if you have the ability to get to scenic downtown Vegas. Stadium swim and Circa in general, very nice people, very nice place.
All right, let's get to it. Our special watch party today is brought to you by our great partners at Village Honda, Betway, and McLeod Law. We're also going to get into that Great Clips inbox. I'll remind you to get into the comments, questions, and thoughts. I imagine we'll get rolling on the draft floor pretty quickly here from the Sphere, but until then, we've got lots of time to react to your questions and comments. Regarding the draft, regarding the Flames, who are set to select at number 9 and number 28, Ryan. There's some interesting speculation on the top few picks of the first round already. And it should be a ton of fun. A reminder, Great Clips inbox. Normally, you just send us an email at greatclipsinbox@flamesnation.ca, but today you can just jump into the comments as well. That probably is the easiest way to go. With more than 4,400 hair salons throughout the U.S. and Canada, Great Clips is the world's largest hair salon brand and the official hair salon of Ryan Pike. Just kidding. The NHL. The NHL. That's what it is. The official hair salon of locally owned and operated 7 days a week. Your time is valuable. Go get that Great Clips check-in app. See the wait time. Check in on your phone and get your haircut when you want. You can opt in to receive that ready next text alert. Check a box. Don't waste your time. You can see what the wait lines look like around. 15 minutes here. Hey, we're ready for you, bud. Come on down. 15. Beauty. Love it. Great Clips will get to that. This is not hyperbole to suggest this will be one of the biggest 24-hour stretches of Craig Conroy's managerial career from now through tomorrow's rounds 2 through 7, Pike.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been in with the gig for what, 14 months, 13 and a half months.
Sure.
And you can make a short list, and it'll be a very short list of GMs that have had more to do in their first 14 months. I mean, he's had to basically deal with the ramifications of the house of cards that Brad Treliving put together to keep a contention window open. And then when the window looked like it was slamming shut, you got to deal with some falling cards.
Yep.
And as we saw one get dealt with yesterday. I think probably a little bit less than 24 hours ago, with Andre Mangiapane becoming a Washington Capital, more draft picks hitting the Flames way. And, I don't think they're done, but I'm very curious what the next 24 hours looks like, because there's a lot of different things they could do. And, we could be sitting here this time tomorrow saying they just made 9 draft picks, or we could be talking about a whole lot more.
Yeah. We had this conversation, Boomer and myself, yesterday, as we did that emergency podcast following the Mangiapane trade. And I believe Boomer is hanging around backstage, so we can bring him in whenever he's comfy, RJ. But the thought being, you've got a high quantity of picks. Can you turn it into more high quality picks? That sounds very serious and sportsy. Let's get to our Prairie Insider live from a small town in Manitoba. Boomer, how are you, buddy?
How do I sound? How's my levels? Check level. How are we doing out here? Sound all right?
So good.
The Prairie Update brought to you by Barnburner Blonde, Orchard Brewery. I mean, it's Friday. Let's get after this, boys. Toast to the draft. Little Origin draft. No,
I'm jealous. And
all I have is coffee.
Yeah, there's lots of beverages about 14 floors below us, Dean. That's where the beverages are hanging.
That's maybe the best one I've ever had. This is maybe the best beer I've ever had in my life.
Origin Brewing, Dean, our partners, the Hiltons are 5th generation family farm, and they just said, "Hey, look, like we're growing this barley. People seem to like it," and then they're like, "Shoot, we may as well make it into malt. And people like the malt, and they're like, well, shoot, maybe we'll start brewing our own beer. People seem to like the malt, and then people like buy the beer. They seem to like it. And now we got a beer with them. I feel like we've lucked into some good power.
And you know what? I'm here all night. I've cleared the decks. I got
No.
23 more of these sons of bitches
Are
too.
you
So let's
serious?
get this Pike. Let's get crazy. All right, let's get her going. Now, are you at the? Is that the sphere? That doesn't.
It's more of a rectangle, if we're going to be honest, but it's huge. What, 147 feet?
It's
120.
more of a
I didn't measure it, but
sausage.
I watched a lot
Yeah.
of golf on it this morning.
It's quite something, It starts at 8, and there is a bass thumping on all 55 floors of the hotel if it faces the pool until 11 p.m. every single day.
Yeah, I had somebody
It's
message me after our Manjapani thing last night. He's like, "What? Did you have the radio on? Like, what was with the music?" I'm like, "Pinder's by the pool."
The whole place vibrates. What can you do?
I'm not
It's
sure
like-
what to tell you.
You don't set your alarm. It's just the window starts vibrating at 8 a.m. to the EDM.
Yeah.
So what's your
So-
setup? Tell us where you're at. What you got a screen on over there?
I can't tell you that. I can't divulge, but
Right, fair.
suffice to say, I am watching it on there's a television screen. I
Okay.
have my setup here. I've got my notes, which will
Good,
pale in
yeah.
comparison to Mr. Ryan Pike and everybody else.
Sure.
But we'll get through this son of a gun.
What's
As
happening
we
on the old
sit here,
broadcast?
before number one.
Yeah.
Tej at 9 or no? Around the horn.
Please, hockey gods.
You're saying yes?
I'd love to see it. I think it's possible, but I also just think that this is one of those things where if we build it up to be so huge, and then we're reminded that it is the Calgary Flames, and it's been 2 years where nothing nice seems to have happened to them.
Yeah.
Are they
Pike-
due or are they cursed? I don't know, Pike.
I guess there's two things, right? Is he there for them at 9, and do they take him? So
If he's there, they take him. That's
Yeah,
my
okay.
bold prediction.
If he's there, if he's there, he's wearing a Flames jersey.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of different permutations and combinations of possible picks. There's some rumors kicking around of how the first 3 or 5 could go.
Yeah.
All I know is every player that's outside the consensus group that goes before 9 makes it more and more likely that Iginla is there at 9.
Yeah, well, and let's start right there. I know we've Frank Seravalli had a prediction of the top 3, and he said, "Look, this is the time of year where people are going to try to hoodwink you," and subterfuge is a word he used. Other words, I don't know what they mean, but I think it has something to do with espionage.
It means, you know what? Malarkey.
Oh, malarkey.
bunch
There's a
of
bit of
it's
malarkey.
malarkey,
Yeah, throwing people off the scent, things like that. But his prediction is that at 1, of course, Celebrini goes to San Jose. 2, Levshunov to Chicago, which is interesting. Defenseman, not the winger. Good beer. Really good beer. That's our first overall pick. And then at 3, he's got the huge stunner it's not breaking news, but if Frank's reporting it, it's definitely not just wild speculation. Beckett Sennecke, who has been a really, really late rising guy who I believe grew 4 inches this year and has been shooting up draft boards all season. He has the Ducks hypothetically taking him at 3. And as Pike said, the more non-consensus guys you see jump into the top 5, the more likely it is a guy that like Tej can slide to 9.
Yeah, and Sennecke, he's one of those guys where, I didn't have him in my consensus top dozen, but it also means like Anaheim's list is the only one that really matters at 3.
Right.
And this is the kind of year, I had conversations with Craig Conroy about the 2012 draft, which is one of the first drafts he worked really intensely on.
Yeah.
And 2012 was one of those drafts where they had a clear 1, and then after 1, it was just pure unabashed chaos with pretty much every team having a different 2 through 20. And that's kind of what this one feels like. It feels like, everyone's going to have the same top 1, maybe 2, and then just utter chaos. And
Okay.
if you're the Flames, chaos might be your best friend right now.
Yeah, so if we do see Sennecke in the top 3, that's good news for the Calgary Flames, unless they really wanted Beckett Sennecke at number 9. But it does mean that some of the consensus guys that you thought would be top 8 guys might suddenly become a number 9. And with Anaheim, I've always sort of felt they were a wild card. Pat Verbeek's got a nice stable of prospects already. And on top of that, that really flush D core of prospects they have, they could have complemented with the 6'7" defense first Silayev, who skates really well, but maybe it's the winger. So I guess we got our first pick in, no surprise. It's Macklin Celebrini to the Sharks.
Yeah, there he is. They brought in big Joe Thornton's still hairy, hey? After all these years, he's still
Is that
going
right?
with the beard.
Yeah.
They brought up big Jumbo Joe to make the pick. So what do we know about? Obviously, it's one of those drafts where you're so focused on everybody 2 and 2 south. What's the calling card for Celebrini there, Pike?
He's good. I mean, he played as a teenager in
Just
Hockey East.
Breaking news, guys. He's good.
He's good.
Okay.
But yeah, just the idea, like, playing in that conference against grown-ass men is tough, and playing a regular shift at BU at any age is tough. It's a very good program, for good reason.
Never mind dominating, right?
Yeah, and yeah, he went into one of the tougher places for a teenage boy to play all but professional hockey against grown-ass men, and he didn't just survive, he thrived. And there's a handful of guys in this class sort of in that mold, guys who were true freshmen thrown into the deep end of college hockey and basically told, let's see what you can do. I'd say arguably more than probably most guys in the last quarter century. Celebrini just went in and just took the bull by the horns for the whole season.
The comp we've heard a lot is Jonathan Toews. Not that he's the exact same player, but he's just that incredibly well-rounded player with no weaknesses that can give you offense. He's not necessarily a guy that's going to win Art Rosses, but he's a guy that you could just count on to be around a point per game, all situations. A very, very complete hockey player is kind of the word, Dino, and he is really young to be doing what he's doing. Vancouver kid, grew up playing in the San Jose area. His old man works for the Warriors in I guess sports science. Is that correct, Pike?
Yeah, I think he's like their strength coach or something to that extent.
Yeah, so interesting guy, but he's been around pro sports before. Sharks are happy. Last year they obviously get Will Smith. Now those are two elite centers to build around for the next decade and a half in theory.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Sharks have another pick in the top 15.
They got 11. They moved up. They had 14, I believe, the Pittsburgh pick from the Carlson deal, and then they swapped with Buffalo, moving up 3 spots on the board. So there you have it on the left, our draft board that cuts Pike and I in half, but there it is. Nice. Celebrini goes at 1.
I look good, though. You get all of me. That's all that really matters. You know what I mean?
It really is. Yeah.
That's all that matters. So that everything according to script. Now,
so far,
we've been talking about this for months.
Yeah,
let's get her going. Don't disappoint us. Let's have some real action, guys. In the teens, going in the top 5. Let's really get after this now. So, is it Demidov? Is that
no? This is the expectation is Levshunov. I would love to see it Demidov, but the sports books, the number keeps getting shorter and shorter on Levshunov here. It's highly expected that they go defense here, which is interesting because I don't think you can argue he's the best player, but he's certainly very ready and well-rounded. And D versus winger is an interesting decision for the Hawks here.
Yeah, and a kid that went into Michigan State and played very, very well in a tough environment. So, it's one of the things where, I mean, looking at the consensus list, Levshunov is a 3, Demidov is a 2, but the gap between them isn't that big. And most of the books that had, Demidov at 3 had Levshunov at 2, and vice versa. Like there's not a lot of separation between them in the minds of the scouts.
And again, the consensus rankings are that. But the one list that matters is the team at the podium. Chicago, everyone seems to believe, as you talk to people in Vegas over the last 3 days, that they're going D here. In fact, Mark Lazarus, who writes for The Athletic and covers the Hawks very well, essentially said they're taking Levshunov, but here are the reasons I wish they would take Demidov. That's kind of the storyline in Chicago, Boom.
Yeah, no, I did see that. And in Chicago, you watched Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, but more specifically, you watch Patrick Kane and the Breadman. Could you
Breadman for sure?
Could you be doing that again here with Demidov and pair him up with Bedard? I don't know. It feels like if you want to go for the upper decker, go for Demidov here, right?
I agree.
It's the all-world talent. It would be the exciting pick because then if you're looking at Anaheim, or I don't want him going to Columbus. You know what I mean? I just think it'd be awesome to find 2 real high octane, high end offensive players that young.
And it's just fun because you look at these teams that you consider good enough to theoretically be a dynasty, and it always feels like there's just a tandem. There's a pair of forwards. They're running mates. You said it. Kane and Toews. We've seen Crosby and Malkin, albeit not on the same line all the time. Draisaitl, McDavid, the same thing. Like it feels like if you get a chance to get these 2 dynamic pals, like the bunk beds, best friends, win for a decade, this is their shot. But you know what? Like D's important too. It's not nearly as sexy, Ryan, but you need D.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, if you're Chicago, like I like some of Chicago's done. Like they got Korchinski, who was a really good pickup. They have a lot of guys who are gonna fill roles.
Vlasic, a really nice development this year for them, came out of nowhere, kind of.
Yeah, but they still have a lot of gaps in their system, and like you know, they were deficit spending to keep their contention window open. This is probably gonna sound like music to a lot of Flames ears, and it's a song that we've been hearing around here. But you know, deficit spending to keep your contention window open, and all of a sudden, when that window slams shut, you look around and you don't really have a lot in the system, and it takes a while to recover.
Yeah, and
you know, if you're Chicago, I still think they have a long way to go. Even if they do, they could get the best possible player. They could have gotten Macklin Celebrini at 2, and they still would have the gigantic gaps in their system.
Right. Yeah, there's just needs everywhere. So we'll see. The expectations Levshunov, Boom, but I'd love to see them go Demidov. It would be kind of fun, like Batman and Robin, right?
I would love it, and I would also love it because then Lazarus looks like a jerk. It's like, hey, listen, I'd love it to be somebody other than Levshunov. So and we'll watch it here. The pick is about to come down. Why is Levshunov ahead of the pack? Because there's so many high-end D here at this draft. Why is Levshunov, at least in the eyes of Chicago, I guess, the guy at the top of that heap?
My suggestion is that he's the most well-rounded and complete. The other guys have elements to them, but they're not as well-rounded. Like when you talk about Parekh, it's very offensive first guy that it's going to have to learn the other side of the puck. Silayev's the exact opposite. I don't know that how you'd compare and contrast Buium, but they both played NCAA hockey. And the other thing with Levshunov is he's played in 3 different leagues the last 3 years, and he's come over from Belarus. Like the human has to be very, very good at everything to make this work.
Yeah, like if you're someone in a scouting department and you're trying to poke holes in Levshunov's game and you know his whole demeanor, it's like, okay, well, can he do it against men? Yeah, he did it against men. Can he deal with changing circumstances? Look at the last 5 years of his life and ask me if he can deal with changing circumstances.
Right, yeah.
And so like just the adaptability and the maturity in his game, I think is what a lot of teams like about him.
Are they picking Connor Bedard again? What are we seeing here?
No, it is Levshunov at number 2. They were right. Yeah. The Belarusian 6'2", 205 playing in Michigan State. So
yeah, and do you think he can step right in? I mean, he has played against men. It is a growing Chicago team. There's no pressing need in terms of an extra year. He had a hell of a year as a freshman.
A lot of players could step in and play in Chicago that might not have been able to step in elsewhere. Right. I don't know if it's the right move, but I think he's the kind of guy that you bring into your summer camp and you know get a good look at him and how I think that's if I'm Chicago. That's the thing that I look at as a big benchmark, because if you have some of those guys who were in Rockford last year and you bring in Levshunov, and if he's at least, you know, close to as good as the guys you have in the AHL, screw it. You might as well sign him and bring him in because those developmental reps this year are going to be huge for him.
The other thing, Boom, we've seen change in the last 10 years. There used to be that huge fear about burning year one, but the entry level, but guys are getting paid right at entry level now anyway. And so if you're going to sign a guy to a second contract when he's a year younger, it might not be as expensive, if you know what I mean. Rather than like delay it, you get it out of the way, and you might be putting them on a second contract before they really start to peak. Teams aren't worried about that as much anymore. I don't know if you sort of feel the same way.
And for them, it's not as though they're in a, you know, cresting towards being a team where they're going to have contracts. We're going to have high-priced guys. Maybe by next week they will if they go to market and sign a bunch of guys. But yeah, I don't think at this point there's any real concern about just let him cook or he's good enough to play for us, but we'd like to maybe save this year. I don't see Chicago in that spot.
Yeah. And the nice thing, if you're Chicago, just looking at the central scouting list and birthdays, Levshunov is an October 2005 birthday, which means based on the quirk in the slide rule, if Chicago happens to sign him before the end of the calendar year, they can park him in the AHL and his deal slides until his 20-year-old year, until he plays 10 games.
There's some pike bomb shit
so,
right here.
Like if there's a lot of these guys, like you saw the Flames did this with Connor Zary, you know, his year, you know, Connor Zary has another year left in his entry level because they basically signed him to a 4-year deal that they burn 3 years worth of. So if you're Chicago and you want to have your cake and eat it too, you can sign him, bring him in. If he's great, you can keep him on the big club. If he's not quite there yet, you can have him in Rockford, and he can be making his money, and you can be developing him, and you're not really harming your flexibility at all.
Yeah, he's in their hands with the people they're paying money to do, that they think they're the best at grooming kids to play in the NHL. It's a good point. Okay, so this is where I'm really curious, because we've said the draft starts at 2, but this last 3-4 days, the cat was out of the bag. It was going to be Levshunov, and it is. So now the draft is incredibly interesting. Pat Verbeek is in his second or third year as the general manager of the Anaheim Ducks. He apparently works with a closed door and minimal hours of sleep. The guy is insane in terms of I think it's a silo there. He wants to do things his way. He's not going to be, you're not going to be hearing a lot about what he's doing, kind of the Stevie Y, Lou Lamoriello school, because of course he worked under Stevie Y. That's sort of what he was groomed, how GMs operate. And here it could be anywhere, Dean. It could be the huge D man. They already have a huge stable at D. It could be a center. We're now, Frank has suggested it's going to be Beckett Sennecke. This is where things get very interesting for me. Number 3 with Anaheim.
And who knows what's coming up with them with potential trades too, right? I feel like they've got some good young players come, but you're going to, if Zegras moves, is it a pick? Is it another young player? Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see how this Ducks team, because they're going to turn the corner here at some point. They've got some very good young defense and young players, and we just got to the point where we didn't hate the Ducks anymore. The Flames snapped that curse going into Anaheim. They could finally win in Anaheim, and then all those jerks get out of there. It's like, okay, well, I don't hate you as much anymore. Now they're going to start running over people. But
so you've got Leo Carlsson last year at 2. You add to Mason McTavish you already had, and they had the Defenseman of the Year in 2023 in this WHL, OHL, and the QMJHL. They have lots of prospects.
Watching Zellweger this year, I was blown away.
Yeah, massive talent.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I can never remember the name of the Q guy. So OHL is Pavel Minchikov.
Yeah.
Obviously Olin Zellweger in the dub.
Yeah.
And I forget the name of the guy in the Q. But yeah, if you're trying to build from the ground up and you're trying to build the net out, you can say what you want about what they have in that, because they're working on it. But that blue line group is just,
it's elite.
If one of those guys pops the way you think he's going to, you're ecstatic. And there's no way that all 3 guys regress. Someone's going to be great.
And it was kind of how they were good. I think they won 5 Pacific divisions in a row, Dean. Like when the Flames couldn't win there for their lives, it was the D-core. It was Vatanen and Lindholm and Hampus and Cam Fowler.
Well, and they also
had Montour, and it was a really good blue line. They even had Shea Theodore as a youngster before Vegas took him. I mean, when they were good, it was a lot of, they had the stars up front, but the D-core was very elite for a long time there. You're ahead of us as well, Dean. So you let us know.
I'm a smidge ahead of you. I need 2 things. Do you guys really not have any beers there? Like, that's some bad planning. This draft goes for hours. You're in Vegas and you don't have.
There were some afternoon beers. We could get some
Pinder.
beers going here. What's
in that
guys? What's in the ice over there? Is that just Aguas?
Yeah,
just okay. Well, where's that intern guy? Get the kid on the case. Let's go. I'll slide him.
And number 2, I don't need. Here's some radio broadcast. They have what's called a cough button. So if you're here and you press it, it'll automatically mute. I need a burp button on this end. So if you hear my mic go quiet, chances are that's what's happening there. So
little ball of hate's at the podium here. What do you see?
Well, they're selecting a player.
Okay. Excited for
it's Sennecke.
Wow, it is Beckett Sennecke, right winger from the O, who had a monster finish to the season and grew a ton this year. Was he a 4th round selection in junior, and then grows 4 inches, and he's a man now with great handles apparently, Dino, and good speed on the wing, it sounds like.
On Stephen Ellis's draft rankings, he was 14th. That's not to mean that he's not a good player. There's very good players throughout the first round. It's just to say that's a divergence. Looking at the various draft rankings from our dear friends throughout the hockey world, the highest ranked he was on any list was 9th on the Elite Prospects ranking.
Wow.
So this is Pat Verbeek's guys betting that they know better than the consensus.
Yeah, and like you said, it's Anaheim's list. That's the only list that matters here at 3. Wow.
And came through in the playoffs. You know how GMs like that. Plays in Oshawa, 6'3", just under 200, right winger. had 27 goals in 65 games in the regular season. Then in the postseason, 10 goals, 22 points in 16 playoff games.
Wow.
You just dream on that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Boy,
Wow,
I'll tell you what,
Teej.
3 is high.
It's
right?
very high.
That's
You
a
could have
high
the
pick.
second best forward or second best defenseman here, and instead it's like, okay, they're rolling the dice on a winger. You could have moved back to theoretically 9 here, Dean, and got Sennecke, I would venture to suggest.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I wrote quite a bit about the 2016 draft class for the Flames, and some of the guys turned out quite well, some of them not so much. But in 2016, that was the year the Flames got Nicholas Backstrom. He won 2 games in net for the Flames, which hurt the Flames draft lotteries rankings. Right. They lost the lottery ranking, and then it turns out they got Tkachuk anyway because one of the teams ahead of them picked against the consensus. Yeah. And the Flames got the player that they were coveting the whole time.
Was that the defenseman in Vancouver? Or was it Puljujarvi? What was the?
I think it was Ulevy, wasn't it?
Oh, Ulevy. That was Olli Ulevy in Vancouver. Okay, interesting.
So, I mean, this is the kind of thing that happens in the draft, and this is the kind of thing where 5-10 years from now, you could be looking at Beckett Sennecke, or you can be going Beckett Sennecke. It could be something that if you're a Ducks fan or a Flames fan, you look back on and however long and go, that was either the smartest move they could have made or a move that made someone very good fall to a divisional foe.
Whew. Mom is surprised. She is.
Yeah. Mom's leaking.
You know what she is? She's misty right now, guys.
Mom wasn't getting push alerts from Frank because Frank tweeted that half an hour ago, and he's top 3. He's nailed it. Do you have the Cam Robinson tweet there? Because I know last year we were in Nashville and we had Cam Robinson on from Elite Prospects to do the mock draft earlier this week, Dino. But last year at the draft, Cam's a huge personality, tons of fun. He's got the huge flow. He's always wearing the bandana in his hair. He looked at me after Bedard went 1 and winked and said, Carlson's going at 2. And no one thought that was the case. It was going to be Fantilli. He nailed it. He also had Beckett Sennecke in his crazy suggestion just 20, 30 minutes ago, going number 3 to Anaheim after Levshunov to Chicago. And here we go. We talked about it. No way there's much consensus amongst the top 10 teams.
They showed the replay, and you guys will see it. They're stunned. Dad shit his pants. Mom is like, what? And even the kid is like, holy crap. It does not look like they had the intel that they were going at 3. Which is
the way Pat Verbeek rolls, right? He's not telling anyone if he's doing it.
If they knew, they did a good sell job that they didn't know.
So what's the verdict on these orange jerseys?
I was going to say, we got the young people. I love them. I think that I don't know that it would always work, but in 2024, I think they bang right now. Those are deadly.
I showed the NHL put out a tweet after all the reveals. And they had sort of all the home jerseys sorted by division. And I showed it to my wife, and she's like, hey, look, all the divisional guys in the Pacific are all different colors. That's kind of fun. Yeah, I mean, it's a distinct color palettes at least. I mean, if you're who else has orange league wide?
The Cleveland Browns,
the Flyers, I guess.
Flyers for sure. Maybe a little Islanders, Oilers, but yeah,
those jerks up the road. It got some orange in there too.
What do you think, Dino? I need the Dean Fashion reaction to the.
I'm okay with it.
Reset.
It's what, it doesn't wow me and it doesn't disgust me. I like the Kings. That was my favorite when they went to those silver and blacks back when Gretzky went there. It was like, wow, those look so good. And you know what's weird? I feel like they look better in person with the socks, the whole kit. The whites look so good. The lettering and that, it's going to take a little getting used to. And of course, it's got the whatever Beckett insurance or whatever on the chest. It's like, geez,
McGillicuddy Industries.
Yeah, if we could get that off of there, it'd be all right. But no, I think it's all right. I wondered if they would go back to more of those original, whatever it is, purple, plum, plum, totally. Green, gray, or whatever they had in there. But probably orange is a little bit more. You're going to sell more orange than plum, perhaps, to the kids nowadays. So.
Well, and I just think it's always cyclical fashion, so they're going to go purple in 5 years, right? Let's go back to that at some point. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that. How many more curveballs do you need here now before 9 for there to be?
You've talked about it, Pike. If the next 2 picks are huge, because Columbus and Montreal definitely should have some forward interest here. If you get teed through those 2, I really think the odds of them getting to 9 are much better.
Yeah, I have Iginla sort of in a ledge with sort of Sam Dickinson and Berkeley Catton, and then the guys above them in that ledge that are left are Demidov, Buium, Lindstrom, and Parekh.
Yeah,
and you get one or two surprises, and all of a sudden there's, if you're the Flames, you could have a tough choice in the sense that if there's any more surprises, you could be having to pick between the son of the best player you've ever had and someone from that upper ledge that slides.
Yeah.
Caden Lindstrom goes to Columbus.
Which makes sense. Huge center, all kinds of talent, powerful. Just a great athlete, and injury-marred season, but a guy that you can dream on with his size and strength and physicality.
Yeah. Number 5 on my consensus list. Not allowed to say it, like he's center, probably the best center available outside of Macklin Celebrini. Big, mean. He had some injury issues this year, but I saw him early in the season playing against the Hitmen, and they did not like playing against him because he's big and he's mean and he's talented, and he knows that he's big and mean and talented and is not afraid to be it. I mean, I know the Flames, when they drafted Mark Jankowski, the big refrain was, oh, he's got the skill, but he doesn't use his size very well, and he's not mean enough. And the fact that Lindstrom is so damn mean allows him to use his skill so well. Like he's just a wrecking ball out there at his best.
They, I guess, asked at the combine. We've been chatting with a lot of the people that are just prospect draft nerds here, Dino, over the last week. And at the combine, one of the things they'll always ask guys is, we'll keep your name private, but who's the hardest guy to play against in your league? And Lindstrom was far and away the most common pick you heard from the Western League.
Yeah, and guys, you talked about it, Pike. He's mean. It's that compete level. The guy it's almost like it's just intuition. He doesn't even think it. He's just going nonstop. I'm going to get that puck. I'm going to go through you. I'm going through the wall, whatever it takes for me to get that puck, to make this play, to get this goal. He's going to do it. So to some extent, I know some guys were saying almost maybe to his detriment, because he may injure himself. He puts himself in tough spots at times where maybe you pull back a little bit and not take the big hit, but he doesn't really know it any other way. But 6'4", 260, chiseled from stone, competes, plays hard. I wonder how he feels, because you have Chicago, Anaheim, Utah, Montreal, all kind of in a sandwich around Columbus there. Not to say anything, sorry, Columbus, just the way it is. I wonder how he feels about getting Columbus and maybe not Montreal or Chicago at that point. I do wonder, because I see that I might be by myself now. I saw the boys drop out from the feed. Hey, you know what? Oh, there we go. I see one guy. Can't hear him, but we can see him.
Check. You got us now? Do you know?
We got you now, big buddy.
Okay. Yeah, we lost.
What happened there?
Did
RJ fall off the bed, or what happened?
He's drinking all the beer. He's not sharing, so he's hammered running the show back there. I think
they got room service in Vegas, or
we're in this weird industrial undeveloped floor. There's actually a couple podcasts, like 100 paces to our left, and then Denver and Chicago podcasters are live streaming the draft as well. I think what we're doing is unique, and there's just people like us in other cities.
I kind of like it. This is my kind of cold industrial environment. It's got a vibe to it.
Ryan, I need to come to you for your expertise.
Let's go.
Here, I'll lift this up. I wonder if you can. I'll put my mic.
Okay. Oh, look at this.
I've got some raspberry.
This.
I've got the Rockyford raspberry, some more Barn Burner Blonde. Yeah. I've got some iced teas in there.
Yeah.
I think I've got the Mexican lager, and maybe there's a homegrown in there as well. Lots of Barn Burner Blondes. But I just crushed a blonde. Pardon?
Yeah.
He said, "What? What's the next? What's the go-to now?"
So your wife's okay with you crushing blondes in the basement? I would say if you want something a little sweet, you would hit in the Rockyford raspberry, which is unreal. I like doing the sweeter, tastier ones early, and then get into more of your staple lagers and the Mexican. So I would go with just a little treat on the tongue for you here for your second beer.
Stand by.
Yeah, very good. By the way, Frank Seravalli tweeted a few moments ago that Montreal is indeed keeping their pick. They will make the selection at 5. This is a huge decision, Dino, for Montreal. They did not select Matvei Mishkov last year when they had the chance to, and they went David Reinbacher, and it is not what I think people wanted them to do. It certainly doesn't look like they got the better player. They didn't know how long it would take Mishkov to come over, and now they're faced with, do we get this Russian player, and does he want to be in Montreal? Demidov is just falling to them at 5. Feels like a dream.
Well, it's interesting. They're still sitting at the table. There's Kent Hughes sitting at the table by now. Usually the GMs had started to make their walk. You wonder if Demidov being there at 5 or whomever, I suppose, but you wonder if, especially after seeing what's going on with Mishkov, like you say, in Philadelphia, well, maybe this guy, what if it's only a year? What if we don't need to worry about him coming to North America or us getting him here? And you know what? I think he won some people over. There was that media, kind of the media availability 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. I think everybody came away, if not blown away, extremely impressed. The guy speaks better English than we thought. He's more engaging than we thought. He wants to be here. This is a guy that wants to be in the NHL and in North America. So I wonder if maybe Montreal is making the walk to the podium now, but I see somebody's complaining. I came here for the draft picks, not Boomer's picks. Hey, listen. Shush.
This would be unreal. I expected to be Demidov, but man, they've done a really good job getting some pieces on the blue line, and you add arguably the most dynamic winger in the whole draft class at 5 here. Make no mistake, if Ivan Demidov is named Jim Smith and he's from Saskatchewan, he's gone already. They didn't get to see a lot of these guys. Teams didn't get to go and watch them play best on best. Russia's in the penalty box, so to speak. They don't get international play. And he also played in an inferior league, the MHL, their junior league, which is really crazy league. He didn't get KHL reps, which you usually see for a prospect of his type. Different universe, different passport. He's probably gone already. This is a dream for the Habs.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where we have a stereotype in our mind of the Russian athlete. Thanks, Rocky 3. But, Demidov, I think he's had to fight against that a little bit. I think a lot of the guys in this class have. And, by all accounts, it sounds like he's willing to come and excited about coming. And, teams want players that are excited to be here.
Do you know what's the word?
They're bringing Celine Dion up to the podium to make the pick for them. So mixed review at the Sphere, it sounds like, for Celine, all due respect. Everybody loves Celine. We know that there are some challenges, but in Vegas, they're not sympathetic, apparently, to those challenges. So Celine Dion is going to make the pick for the Habitant here.
The heart must go on. Here we are. All right, Celine. So this is becoming the NFL draft we're seeing. Hey, Dino, where it's like celebrities now make picks, and we're gonna have teams in their war rooms next year. I'm curious to see what next year looks like. This is kind of our transition year.
During the pandemic years, didn't the Flames have Lanny announce a couple picks? So I mean, it's not without precedent. I mean, at a certain point, you're basically we're gonna run out of legendary or quasi-legendary figures, and then we'll be like, here's the assistant equipment manager from the Montreal Canadiens.
Who does Seattle run out? Like, what are we doing here? It's Marshawn Lynch? I don't know. You're ahead of us, so let us know when you know.
I'll be okay with Marshawn Lynch. Ken Griffey Jr. can announce a couple of picks.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Ivan Demidov is a Montreal Canadian.
It was too good of a fit not to happen. It really was. Just to give you a little, I guess, run a show here, Dino. We'll go live with this right through the Flames pick at 9 and a big reaction to the pick at 9. After we've done our piece on 9, we're going to throw to Mike and Kent, who are back in Calgary. They'll kill about a half hour for us as we can find some beers here. You're going to need a potty break at some point. And also, we'll have all kinds of time.
I just went now. I just pissed my pants.
Just adult diapering it. Okay.
Yeah. Why bother?
Yeah, you just
quit. That's a sponsorship opportunity that we really haven't explored.
It really is. Yeah. And oddly, Origin doesn't want it. They want no part of it. So it's up for grabs.
And we've got, I believe, RJ's starring comments. We will get to our Great Clips inbox once we get past the Flames pick at 9. I think it's probably the way to do this, Dino.
Nice. Hey, I'm just here for the beer. Yeah.
And
right.
Next up, the first ever draft pick for the Utah Utes, or what are we calling it? The hockey club?
They aren't a rugby club. So
I'm not sure why are they needing a year for this? A year.
So there's two theories I have. One is that they want to do a really good job and you don't want to rush it. And then you've got to get the whole supply chain and get things made. And I kind of believe it, but not really. And then the second part is you watch what the Washington football team turned Commanders did, and you're just fleecing people for an extra $300 a year later. And they'll, hey, oh, this is the year one jersey. It's a collector's item. And this is the jersey we actually have. Like, you're just really reaching into people's wallets. And to be fair, Ryan Smith and the Utah crew, they reached in pretty deep. What was it? 1.2 billion, 1 billion they paid for the
1.2.
So
yeah, I guess when
you
you
relocate, like maybe they can sell a couple jerseys and the people in Utah will be okay with it.
Yeah, and from Bettman's, so you want to take a little extra time? You go ahead. Whatever you need.
Sell some
Ryan
merch.
Smith. Yeah,
Hey,
whatever you need there.
It's all about the HRR, baby.
Yeah. By the way, can we please have, like, I know there's been lots of like investigative journalism on the topic, but can we have like a comedy remake of like the Morello era in the Coyotes? Like, I just absolutely thought that was fucking hysterical how that came to an ending last week. It just sort of went out with a whimper, like, yeah, I'm not going to be pursuing the club after all. Apparently I'm a Richard and no one likes me here.
I feel like the last 3 years of the Coyotes' existence have been like a bad episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Totally.
Where it's basically, they're like, Alex, you got to have the zoning dealt with so you can buy the land. You should have asked about that 2 years ago. And then he just shrugged, and then it just
music just follows him around everywhere he goes.
Totally.
As someone who sat through a lot of zoning meetings the last 2 years, just handle that first.
Yeah, get the people that know what they're doing, you billionaire idiot. Like, what are you doing? And Gary Bettman's like, we have a guy to bury to announce. Like, he just absolutely took this guy to the woodshed. Like, get rid of the team. Don't have to go into this legal entrenchment with them. And yeah, we knew he wasn't going to get the rink done. We don't have to deal with this turd anymore. We got a nice guy in Salt Lake with tons of dough instead.
Hard to know with Utah here. Levshunov goes off the board. Lindstrom's off the board. Obviously,
they get their pick of D here, is my guess. They need a puck-moving defenseman that can get the puck to these skilled forwards they've been collecting over the last few years. I don't know if they like Parekh or Buium or Dickinson, but if you had told them that, I mean, where are we at? We've had one defenseman taken in the top 5.
Yeah,
they're going to get their second favorite defenseman at worst, maybe their favorite here. Dino is my guess.
And if you're looking from a Flames perspective, there are 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 4 picks, 3 till the Flames. And so if you're the Flames, you got Buium, Parekh, Catton, Dickinson, Iginla, Silayev, Helenius hanging out. You're going to have your pick of 3 or 4 of them.
And I guess we kind of knew that, but now that you kind of get into it, and Lindstrom isn't going to fall like some people thought, and Sennecke definitely seems to go higher than maybe people would have expected.
Absolutely did. Yeah, that's the surprise.
So now it does become a little bit more real when you start rolling out those names. There's 3 more names to go, so the Flames are getting one of the following 4 or 5 packs. So I wonder if you'd love to pump truth serum in. So was this working for you, Conroy and the Flames? Is this working in your favor, or did you have Sennecke as a wild card, or did you have?
I had heard they like Sennecke, but I also think him going that early allows better players to be available to them at 9. Like, I don't know that they're heartbroken Sennecke's gone, because they're like, oh shoot, we're gonna have some options at 9 here.
I mean, there's the ledges I was informed of are basically around 12 and around 18 to 20, depending on what scouting group you talk to.
Yeah, and Todd Button we had on what was it, yesterday? He wasn't hiding the fact that they think there's a ledge at 18 and back channeling in the organization. That's not them throwing people off the scent. They do believe that 18 and lower numbers that's where they think there's a significant drop.
Darren Dreger from TSN reporting on the social medias that the Flames were considering moving up from 9, but it sounds like they're staying at 9 right now.
Yeah, I mean, when Columbus made the pick, the news was them keeping it. I know I saw Elliott tweet that definitely was in play. But if you're Connie and you see Sennecke at 3, you're like, okay. I mean, our chances of getting the guy we like might have gone up just a bit. Interesting.
So Gary is at the mic, and it looks like he's going to make the official introduction for Ryan Smith and the group. And Ryan, it's he and his wife. It's the team. Anytime you hear him refer to it, it's the Smiths. It's their their enterprise. So do we know, did the front office, the brass, did they do all the same suits, or did they leave that in Arizona?
The bell thing, I don't know. I just thought they had better suits. I like the idea. I just thought they looked like, it's like, oh yeah, we got to rent tuxedos for this wedding. It's really quick. Hurry. I don't care if they fit well. You could do it a little better than they've done it. But I don't mind the idea. It's kind of cool. Thank you, Smiths, for saving us from that disaster.
Ryan Smith says, he says basically, come on, why aren't you booing us? You got to start booing us. Going for the rivalry already.
He's fun, hey? Like,
Yeah.
I think he's they really wanted to get him into the club, so to speak.
Oh, I remember the last presser with Alex Morello, how he just sort of seemed like he was being dragged, kicking and screaming to be a sports owner, whereas it seems like both Smiths just really enjoy just the fact that they're in the club and they get to talk up their hometown as much as they do.
Yeah, they've done a great job with the Jazz. What are you hearing, Dean? I know you're ahead of us. I don't want to miss this.
It ain't good. If you were wanting Tisha Iginla in Calgary, the Utah, whatever they're going to be with their first ever pick in franchise history, select Tisha Iginla at 6.
And a rivalry is born, gentlemen.
Holy. So interestingly here, in a draft class that mid-season we talked about all the D, one gone in the first 6 selections. It has been the story of the forwards and the late rising forwards. Sennecke and
a great
Iginla,
point,
two of
man.
the highest risers.
Right? This was going to be the year of the prime high-end, top-end D at the top of this draft, and one guy has gone through 6 picks.
And still, I do believe it's a very good class of D, but when we talk about Sennecke and Iginla especially, these were guys that just kept getting better and they kept climbing draft boards. In Sennecke's case, growing 4 inches doesn't hurt him at all. It helps a ton. And in Iginla's case, he finally just got ice time. He was a healthy scratch last year in the playoffs for a Memorial Cup team. They both exploded and they've kind of forced themselves above these very good defensemen. But I think the D run is coming here, Dino.
Well, it's basically got to be right now, unless what are we looking at? Catton, or I'm just trying to think Connolly, who are some of the guys left? Because
Connolly too soon.
You've gone through a lot of these guys here in a hurry, but I do wonder, and there will be some Flames fans. Some are relieved or whatever. What would they have taken him? We'll never know. He didn't get there. He actually was not close. There was a couple more teams to pick. I wonder for Jerome, from a father perspective, is there relief? Is there disappointment? I wonder what his emotions are. You're obviously thrilled. Utah, you're going to love the owner, the ownership. It's great. It's not Arizona. That would be an interesting feel if it was 6-8 months ago, right?
No
but
kidding.
You got to feel good about where the franchise is going, but with the chance for him to be in Flames colors, I wonder what the emotions are.
If you're Papa, though, I mean, A, eldest boy's got bragging rights on you. You're not going to hear the end of that for a while. And B, assuming that Jerome's based in Calgary going forward, it's an easy flight to go visit your son and see his games in scenic Salt Lake City. So, I mean, it's I assume that he's going back to Kelowna for at least one more year, and then he'll be pushing for ice time, especially based on how deep Utah's prospect group is. Yeah. But I mean, if you remove the last name aspect of it, on paper, this is a really good pick for Utah for what they need.
Interestingly, Dino, the Iginla to Salt Lake, I mean, they've got a lot of really good young forwards. I think it's just we could use a D, but we can't bet against the ceiling of this high rising kid. He's one of the youngest kids in the entire draft eligible to be taken. And you just saw him get better and better and better. And like, how hopeful are you that he could go back and even be a centerman in Kelowna? We're hearing that the Rockets have lost a couple centers. They might try him out there. He might be more than a scoring winger that, can really dominate games. If he becomes a pivot here, you have to take him. He would just be the type of player you can build around for a decade.
And he's got to develop and he's got to turn into that player, obviously, but you can see what the Smiths are trying to do. He is an engaging kid. If you've heard him talk, he's like his old man. It's smiles and personality. And all of a sudden in a way, this guy becomes partially the face of your franchise, the first ever draft pick. And you can imagine now they are going to trot him out in Salt Lake. It's going to be quite the launch, the Iginla launch in Salt Lake. So it's great for the kid. It would have been a cool story. I just kind of watching the way he developed and slowly moved his way up the draft boards because it wasn't
Yeah.
really a rocket ship, right? It was slow and steady.
Yeah.
I thought that there was a chance. I thought there was a really good chance. I did think we'd be talking about Iginla. But now it's wild to look at this and think of the D. What about, you know what? The other name, and I'll ask you, Pike, because you're the guy here out of Spokane, Berkeley Catton. This was another guy. A lot of fans were saying, again, we get it, but Catton's the guy you want here. You want the center. Yeah, he's undersized, but this guy has high octane skill and offense.
Yeah, and is he a center? I mean, he is now, but the size suggests it's not a slam dunk. He is
one of the better centers in the Western League last couple of years, though. I mean, he's taken. I did a thing comparing him and Tej. He's taken. I think maybe 3 players in the Western League have taken more center or faceoffs than Berkeley Catton in the last couple of years. He's won about 53% of his faceoffs while scoring a metric crap ton of goals. He's one of those guys that just. We talk about size all the time, and size is always an issue unless you have it. He's the kind of kid who has been able to progress and really work against the perceptions of what he should be able to do. There's not a lot of like 5'11", 6 foot centers in the NHL. It tends to be the land of giants. But I mean, Connor Zary played center in the Western League. He's starting to transition to that role. I mean, the Flames, I think at some point would love to add sort of a bigger body, like true stereotypical center. But if the choice is grabbing, Mark Jankowski's or smaller guys with a bit more dynamism to their game,
a lot more dynamism.
It feels like the current regime will veer towards the Cattons versus the Jankowskis.
Yeah, and so maybe he's like a Giroux, Boom, where he can play wing and center, but he's just a high skill player that's electric, and it doesn't really matter whether he lines up to take faceoffs or not. But there just aren't many guys his size playing center. It's more of a Braden Point, Suzuki type situation that you're hoping for, or he's just a dynamic, awesome winger that could pile up points.
Are you ready for another one, Ben? Are you ready for another curveball?
Here we go.
Ottawa at 7 takes Carter Yakemchuk of the Calgary.
There it is.
Ooh.
We knew he would go higher than the consensus rankings. There's enough tools there, Pike, that someone was going to fall in love. We kept hearing that from the scouting community.
He's big. He can take over games. He's a right shot. He can do a lot for you. The only qualm I have with this game is sometimes he tries to do too much, but he tries to do too much because he can do a ton.
And because the team was bad, right? There just wasn't a lot around him. And he's like, I'm not passing it to some duster. Like, I'm going to just try to go end to end again. So they have a backlog at left D. It's Shabbat, it's Sanderson, and it's Chychrun. And the thought is they're going to have to move Chychrun. They needed a right shot guy, and Yakemchuk fits the bill there long term.
This also means that if you're Craig Conroy and your scouting group, amongst the names still available, it's Buium, Zane Parekh, Berkeley Catton, Sam Dickinson, Anton Silayev, and Konsta Helenius. That is having your pick of those 6 guys, or 5 of those 6 guys at 9th overall. You're probably not going to be too unhappy with.
Yeah, you could move back to 11 and still be very happy with guys you thought might not have been there at 9. They could have their favorite defenseman of the group, Dean. I will say this. I had heard from a scout from another team. He said, we think the Flames like Iginla, Sennecke, and Yakemchuk. So it is possible that their 3 favorite guys are off the board now.
It's
and that's speculation. You never know this time of year, right? But it was from a scout. He said, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, that Yakemchuk would be the second D out of that group off the board. And again, you talk to people. You see him the odd time he'll make the mistake or he'll get into a brain cramp. It's because he's got the puck all the time, and he's just that damn good at this level. He can make plays. He can take chances. We're at the next level. Okay, you're not in junior anymore. Stay within yourself. Stay within your game. That'll end up being really good for his game. But at that point, when you're 17, 18, 16 years old and you can do whatever you want with the puck when you're out there, chances are you probably do it. So 30 goals for a D-man is in the Western League is something.
Incredible stuff for a 17-year-old season. Do you see Phaneuf vibes here, Pike, in terms of the skill set? Like Phaneuf's brain was never exceptional, but physical, shoots it a ton, absolutely fearless, chaos creator.
Yeah, I would say the things that I like about Caden Lindstrom's game up front in terms of just being physical and being like, I am bigger than you and I'm just going to push you around because I can. There's some aspects of that in Yakemchuk's game too when he's doing it. I think the challenge with him is like, he's a guy that, I think might not try to get too physical at the Western League level, simply because if you take him off the ice, what the heck do the Hitmen really have, at least last couple of years? But if you're in a pro environment where he doesn't really need to, for lack of a better term, use so much oxygen and be Mr. Everything, does it allow him to sort of engage a bit more, a bit differently than he has in the Western League level?
So now,
Dickinson's there, Buium's there, Parekh's there. They're elite defensemen that will be there for the Flames. At least two of those three, depending on who Seattle selects here ahead of them.
Yeah, Seattle's the wild card here.
Of that group, I'm curious, Pike. Who did you think there's no way that guy's going to be available? And he may not be, because there's still a pick to go. But is it Buium? Is it Parekh? Who's the guy that you thought it's nice to dream on that, but there's no chance he gets to 9?
My feeling was both Dickinson and Buium would be gone. Like Dickinson, because he's won he was just everything he touched turned to gold last year. He was a key player on a couple extremely good hockey clubs in very different circumstances, at Denver winning the national championship and at Team USA winning World Juniors. And again, Buium, yeah. as an 18-year-old, and Dickinson, I mean, Stephen Ellis has written a lot about him over at Daily Faceoff, talking about, he uses the term safe, and he uses the term safe to describe, like, he's so good at everything. Like he can play with anybody. He's so calm. He's so good at everything that Dickinson does not look flashy in any way.
Game looks easy, right?
Yeah. And so if you're the Flames, like, if you have all those defensemen that have, for lack of a better term, warts on one side or the other of their games, Dickinson could smooth out a lot of rough spots for a lot of different players in a lot of different ways. Yeah,
I've heard that it's sort of somewhere between Hanifin and Pietrangelo. Like, maybe not a pure power play number 1 defenseman, but big minutes, all situations, power play 2 at a minimum, 25 minutes a night. And interestingly, Ellis and some of the other draft guys that were with us here from our network were saying, very similar scouting reports on Evan Bouchard. He was viewed as a safe pick, and it's taken some time, but look at the explosion of offense we've seen from his game. And a lot of the things we heard about him out of the OHL are similar to what we're hearing about Dickinson, who I think just feels like the pick at this point. Also, if you want to be afraid of Americans, that helps too. That, he played in the O. He's not a guy that DU.
Right. What about because we talked
Silayev's the other, by the way. Yeah.
I was going to say, and on the other side, when you go international skaters, Silayev is out there. And I was going to ask you about Consta Helenius, because he's a guy, he's a center. And Craig Conroy, when we kind of pressed him, his situation, what kind of position he needs? Well, you'd like a center. So you wonder now, is Catton, is he enough of a playmaking centerman? Helenius is the center. We'll see. We're a pick away here now as Seattle's up at the podium. Yeah,
they're very different players. Like, I would see Consta Helenius as like a Koivu type guy. Like, he'll be a number 2 center that could wear a letter. You build around, everyone loves him, but he's not a superstar offensive player. Where I think Catton's more of that, like Claude Giroux, like, wow, bring you out of your seat. But number 2 centers aren't sexy, Ryan, but all good teams have them.
Yeah, the big knock on Helenius is just, it's more of a ceiling thing, but the folks I talked to are basically using the term very high floor. Ceiling's probably not that high from his floor, but like, he's played pro hockey against a good league against men since he was like 16,
Seattle?
17.
Yep. Sorry, Pike. Seattle takes Berkeley Catton, another forward.
Wow.
So 2D in the top 8 of this D heavy draft.
And not the second D that you thought you'd see. Yakemchuk, a lot of people had as the 6th group. Maybe he's not quite in that top 5 royalty, but the next tier, we have Buium, Dickinson, Parekh, and Silayev, who was rumored at times to be going 3 to Anaheim, available for the Flames to select. Silayev's interesting, Dean, because we don't know exactly what he is, but what we do know is that he's 6'7". He skates incredibly well, which is rare. I mean, that's a unicorn, and he hits. Again, it's not as sexy as points, but NHL GMs love that.
They do. They also, in one of their draft number 2 for Craig Conroy, this is a high pick. This is a top 10 pick.
Chase some ceiling.
I just wonder if, because I feel like with Silayev, there's still that we don't know. He is growing into his body, and where are we going with this guy? I mean, he's playing with men. He is a monster. If this is Zdeno Chara, then you race to the podium.
Yeah, and get but it might be Jamie Alexiak. That's the problem here.
Yeah,
and they haven't got a lot of eyes on him. He hasn't played internationally. That's where the Silayev is so interesting.
Yeah, and what if Silayev just turns into what he is in the K? In the K, he's been a very good defensive defenseman, and his offensive abilities haven't really shown through yet. He didn't really have showy offensive numbers at lower levels of Russian hockey either. He had respectable numbers, but traditionally the guys who turn heads offensively at the NHL level are the guys that have turned heads offensively at lower levels. So, it's it's a very unique situation.
So here we are.
Sorry, I was going to say, is there any way in your, as you would go over all these lists, Pike, and you take all the different outlets and the places that do these, is there a consensus now? Is it Buium over Parekh? Is it Parekh over Silayev? Have you seen a consistent one of these guys ahead of the other?
No, everyone's a little bit different, and that's when we talked to Craig Conroy yesterday. That was one of the things that he brought up. It was odd because I asked him a question, sort of asking just how does this year feel compared to other ones, and he sort of remarked that the interesting thing this year is that all the defensemen are a little bit different, and so you might have guys in a certain list, but you might go, oh man, based on the guys available, this guy might have an aspect of his game that you like better, or you feel like fits your team's needs better. So, they could go off the board in a sense at this point because they have different guys with different traits.
Look at that. We got a stranger that just joined us here. Who's hanging in the shadows there? Is this the defenseman the Flames select at number 9, Dean, that you've queued in here?
It's that steady stay-at-home defenseman.
That's right. That's what they need.
Who on cue falls out of the feed. There you go.
It's got to be D here, doesn't it, fellas? Like, I know that they could do something else, but there's no way they thought they'd have the pick of these 4 defensemen we're talking about in Buium, Parekh, Dickinson, Silayev, and they desperately need defense guys. Like, there's 2 years left on Rasmus Anderson's deal. He'll be 31 in the first year of his new contract. They've got a lot of guys that might be second pair guys and a whole lot of guys that could be third pair guys. They've got no one in the system that is a lock to be a top pair guy. You can select one here.
Yeah, they have a lot of guys that fill roles. Like they have, we've talked about this extensively. The 3 or 4 guys that project as shutdown, Mavericks, and guys that position as the guys that are on your power play. And outside of maybe Mackenzie Weegar, organizationally, I don't know if you have a lot of guys you feel comfortable just throwing out in any game situation. And, they could get one here.
It looks like the feed from the Sphere took a dump. So they're kind of killing time here all of a sudden from the looks of things. Kind of like our feed with Retro there. He was there and then he was gone. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Interesting with
comments on the D. Just a thought on the D and the needs here. Do you know?
I mean, it's so hard, right? You look at Buium, who was on an elite team in Denver. They win a national championship, but at the same time, this guy is a rookie, gets 50 points in 42 games, and is a contributing guy on a very good team, one of the best in the country.
The national
you
champs.
Look at. Right, 50 points. Parekh, Saginaw, 33 goals, wins the Memorial Cup, wins Defenseman of the Year in the Canadian Hockey League. You feel like you're in a really good spot here if you're Craig Conroy. I don't know who you put ahead. I'm sure this is all the stuff that if you sift through it, that this Parekh kid is a genius. Like, graduated high school at 15 years old. He's been taking university courses. It's crazy. Whether that translates into being a high-end hockey player, I guess we'll find out, but they're headed to the podium here, man.
Yeah, and it'll be a high-end offensive defenseman is what he is, whereas Dickinson's sort of that more well-rounded all situation. So you got the quickest feed. You get us up to speed here, on what you're seeing.
He's thanking all the fans and Boomer and Pinder and Pike. Oh. That's what he said.
Right on.
Hands on his hips. They're going with Zane Parekh out of Saginaw.
Sheer coincidence. Do you know who the Flames just invited to their development camp at the end of the week?
His brother, who
his
plays
big
for
bro,
the Nanaimo Clippers. How about that? There'll be 2 Parekhs at Flames development camp. Tell us more on Parekh, Pike.
He's the only defenseman in the Ontario Hockey League with better offensive output than Hunter Bustevich, and he's 14 months younger.
Yeah, 2 seasons. That's considerable. Wow. Right shot, point producer, elite offensive player, and the knocks on defense, Dean. People think that they saw a lot of improvement this year from him, and that, it's not that he won't be good defensively so much as he's just going to figure it out because he's figured everything else out. This is a really, really high ceiling offensive defenseman.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? He checks a lot of boxes. That's a lot of points. 96 points, 33 goals, D-man of the year, and on a very good hockey team. I often wonder how that translates, because you can get some good players on bad teams and good players on really good teams. Well, were you part of why they were really good? And I would think that Zane Parekh was a part of why.
Yeah, the point totals would suggest he was the straws during the drink, not just a guy. And they went all the way. Were they hosts of the Memorial Cup, if I'm correct, Ryan? And he,
I believe so. They lost in the final,
and like a big contributor on a team that was loaded, that was hosting the Memorial Cup. To be a rookie and have a role on a Memorial Cup team really is, pretty exceptional on its own. We saw Tkachuk do that the year that it was hosted, in Red Deer, I believe, but you don't often see the 17-year-olds leading the way. I know that the Seth Jones, Nathan McKinnon year, and Duran, and that was a fun one, but it is exceptional to see. And this guy is a defenseman. The numbers are just gaudy.
Well, and this guy's a defenseman. He's gotten back into the feed. It's Rhett Warner, who
you got retro there,
who's standing by here. We'll get him in. Not sure if we can get him in. I thought I put him in there. I see him. You can hear me.
Yeah,
I can see him. It's going to sound like a shot. This is not. There he is. This is not a defenseman cut from the cloth of Rhett Warner necessarily. Yeah, it's not.
It's gonna get.
It's not. We try. You try.
You just take a shot at him. He's gone. You can't do that. Dude.
Yeah, take a shot. Take a shot. And you'll ask them, hey, so with how this first round, how it shook down, all these forwards going before defense, what did you see? Where did you have? Oh, we had him ranked so high. We had him.
We love this guy.
This is the guy we wanted all along. We were going to move up if we could, but that's what you're going to get. But at the same time, years down the road, you'll maybe look back and forget the context that we're in right now. These all seem like unbelievably talented, smart, good young players. It's hard to look at the credentials here that this guy boasts and feel like there's holes in his game or there's a reason to stay away from him at 9. He was defenseman of the year in the Ontario League, in the Canadian Hockey League as a draft eligible kid.
It's wild. That's so impressive. And you talked about it, like done high school early, like elite brain. Those are the people I like to bet on, that they're really smart and succeed at everything they try. That's
graduated high school 2 years early, has been taking courses from the University of Toronto since he was 15 years old.
Wow.
And despite the fact he played on an American best team, he's a good Canadian boy.
When was the last time they had a dynamic offensive defenseman? I mean, I know Gio
maybe Dion
became something close, but even Dion, it wasn't huge points so much as there was the big
20 goals
there. Right, but it was yeah. I don't know that we looked at Dion and said, "Oh, look at that's a power play savant." Like what this guy is more than that. Dion wasn't an elite distributor. Dion just could rip it from the point, right?
Yeah, I guess just in terms of who would be the last guy. Dion could do it all, right? He was physical, great skater, hard shot, all of that. I don't think that this guy's calling card is physicality. I don't think.
No.
This is really more from this is the today's vintage of a young defenseman, isn't it? Pike, we're seeing it, and it's everyone's going to compare guys to Quinn Hughes or compare guys to Cale Makar. It's heady praise for sure. But these are the guys that they're emulating. These are the guys that the youngsters are watching. And I think Parekh probably is the high-end skill, higher than Dickinson. Is that fair to say? Dickinson seems to be the more safe, all-around,
I totally
play in
agree with
every
that.
situation, kind of a thing. Whereas this is high-octane stuff.
I'll interject into read some notes from Jordan Harris at Jobber Prospects. This is, I think, a very succinct explanation. Quote, he's the most dynamic offensive creator in the draft and can put up points in a multitude of ways. Parekh has a wicked shot with a quick and deceptive release. In addition to his shot, Parekh is a fearless player with the puck on his stick. He attempts passes others do not, and he converts on a lot of them too. His entire game is built on deception, and he creates space for himself using impressive four-way mobility, edge work, head fakes, and look-offs. Parekh can play with too much confidence and try to stick handle his way out of sticky situations. He can afford to show more urgency and dish the puck off to a teammate or simply make a clearing attempt. There's almost no physical game with Parekh, and his difficulties defending are real. He's used to playing in a free-flowing system, which gives him a lot of autonomy, but he'll need to play more structured and compete harder in the NHL. The offensive upside with Parekh is undeniable. He should easily become a PP1 player who puts up a bunch of points, even if he plays down the line with even strength.
New Jersey has taken Silayev.
Wow.
That sounds right.
That feels right, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, they got Hughes,
defenseman.
They've got Hamilton. They don't need the offensive defenseman so much as who can be our wet blanket that's mean. Who's our shutdown guy? When you got Hamilton and two Hugheses, I guess one defenseman. Like they're not chasing offensive ceiling.
If you were the New Jersey Devils web crew, their website team, now you have a ready-made web show. You have the surly Russian and Dougie Hamilton going around having adventures, checking out museums, going on road trips. That just writes itself. Dougie Hamilton trying to make a Russian guy smile. I'd watch that.
It's interesting. He played with men all year in the K. I wouldn't think we wait too long to see him in the NHL. He's already 6'7" and skates brilliantly. Like he's 210 now. He'll probably play at 230 when he's done growing.
What's left for him to learn in the K? Well, is he going to get better in the KHL?
You want him over if you're New Jersey. Like there's no question you want him with your people rather than like Nizhny Novgorod or wherever the hell he's playing.
Sorry, what is that team? What is it?
Nizhny Novgorod?
Torpedo Nizhny Novgorod.
If that's where he is. They get the reindeer logo. Yeah.
It's torpedo. You just say torpedo. That way you don't have to learn Russian words.
Fair. Okay.
So this was supposed to be the Flames pick that they got for Markstrom, right? This was supposed to be Flames go back to back, right?
You go get the offensive D and pair him with the stalwart defender. That'd be kind of
cool.
Yeah.
And you know what? Red always wanted to get Tej and somebody else. So it's you got the somebody else. How's that work? Is that going to be good enough?
No, you just got to get Tej. I mean, geez, you know, these Canadian-born kids that go to America when they're 6, who knows if they're even going to report to Utah? I mean, pull Adam Fox, get back to Calgary.
So now San Jose at 11. They sneak in here with this Buffalo pick.
Yeah.
Buium at 11.
Makes sense. They got Celebrini at 1, and now they added defenseman to the group that they added Will Smith to last year. They got some prospects now, Dean.
San Jose. And there's no guarantee they take them, but that's a pretty nice. I guess when you have 2 of the top 11, you're going to feel really good about how you're picking, but you get obviously the guy you wanted at 1. I'm surprised. I wonder if is it just different tastes for teams, why Buium is the guy who now has fallen out of that crop. Is there anybody else that we're kind of missing now, Pike, in that group? It feels kind of like, as far
Dickinson?
as the defense.
Dickinson's the other
Dickinson,
guy.
I guess, but was he not always kind of a little bit a step or 2 behind where Buium was?
There's just no consensus, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Dickinson was the second D on a lot of people's boards and 4th and others and 5th here. I mean, Buium, Parekh, and Dickinson, you could pull a name out of a hat going rankings to rankings. There's no consensus there that I saw.
And like, I don't know, Dickinson, maybe because he's the quote unquote safe pick, he's the least sexy. I mean, he's got the least variation in his game. I think he's probably the least likely to, if you were going to show up at a London Knights game, you know, because it's the London Knights, maybe he gets less credit for being as good as he is because he's playing on such a good team. But he's also kind of guy where if you pick a game out of a hat to go to, I don't know if he's going to be much better on any other night because he's so consistent.
Yeah, whereas Parekh might make a play that you're like, holy shit, like I've never seen that before. Yeah.
Parekh might pop off for like a 5-point night if you show up on the right night, or there might be nights where he doesn't do much of anything offensively. So I believe we're a commercial break here. You're probably close to back there, but coming back. But you're Buium was not the pick. You're just saying he's there if they want.
No,
him, right?
he is not the pick. They did go to a commercial break. I'll let you know. So who, if not Buium, then maybe
Dickinson.
Dickinson,
or you see Helenius.
Where's Cole Eiserman? Maybe the best pure goal
Yeah.
scorer, the best pure shot, right? He passes Cole Caulfield for the U.S. development team goals. It's one
Pure finisher.
guys just love his shot, which is important. Last time we checked for all teams, no matter how many friggin' goals your team could score, but
he's going to be
in 57 games is a lot of freaking goals.
It would not be a surprise to anyone if he's the highest scoring player out of this draft class, but it's very one trick pony-esque. And look, it's the hardest thing to do in the sport. He scores goals easily. He almost, you mentioned the gaudy goal totals. He slid from a top 5 pick into the teens while scoring that many goals. Like he's not a complete player, but God, can he shoot the puck?
Sam Dickinson to San Jose at 11.
There you go.
So they go with the D, but it's not the what Pioneer? Is that what you are when you go to the University of Denver?
That's correct. Do you?
Yeah.
Is that David Carl's old team?
Is that what it is?
Dickinson.
I think so.
Did I say Dave Dickinson or Sam?
I think it's
I've got
Sam.
Sam. Yeah.
Okay, because it would
Dave's a little old. Yeah.
Overager.
I think he could defend pretty well.
No, I've had a couple origins, guys. By now it's a mistake I could easily make.
I think we're probably close to this ledge that we've talked about, Pike, where it's sort of like 12 to 13. Like maybe it's Helenius or another guy, and then you're into the more just another layer of the draft that goes to about 18. Some people have suggested. At some point, we can throw over some links to Kent and Mike, and they can jump in and give us thoughts on the Flames if we need a little break. But maybe a pick or two, we get over this ledge, and then let those fellas jump in for a bit.
I got lots of beer. I mean, it's
well, we don't,
whatever you
so
want
we're
to
gonna have to solve the problem here.
Yeah, well, that's bad planning. That's and really, of all the guys, I did not think you'd be the guy.
There was a lot happening. This was an empty room not long before we started shooting. There's gear everywhere.
Hey, I was working upstairs and I was just told go meet Pinder at the elevators. I thought he was going to kill me. So this is a better outcome, but I still wish there was beer.
Not yet, Pike. But yeah, well, I'm not going to kill you, and I am going to get beer. So good deal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So Philly was. I know that there was sort of the drum beat was, geez, man, if they could get a guy like Catton to slide to them. Catton, who played in the Pacific Northwest, kinda goes to Seattle. What does Philly do here? This is interesting.
Yeah,
I guess Buium's the last of that top D class, and Helenius
feels like they could use everything too, right? They're kind of in that mucky middle. There's not much there. In a way, Cole Eiserman, right? The American goal-scoring kid feels like a guy that would be a Philadelphia Flyer.
Yeah. Sure. Helenius, Buium, or Eiserman to me would make a lot of sense. And to your point, there's needs everywhere.
Was it you that brought up Michael Hage the other day, Pike? When you were on with, because here's a guy injured pretty much all of last year, elite hockey sense, big, powerful skater, and comes through with 75 points in 54 games with a really good club. I wondered if maybe this is a guy that might jump him into that next ledge as some guys maybe continue to fall.
If I'm
Flyers
a guy,
like big, powerful guys.
If you have multiple picks, easily you go after Hage. And if you need everything, or you don't really, you're basically going, let's fill some holes. Hage he's progressed so well. And, he's Scott Wheeler over at The Athletic wrote a feature on sort of the off ice challenges he's had. He had shoulder injuries. I believe he had some family tragedies as well. And he went to a foreign country. I mean, it's America. It's a different country than he grew up in, to pursue his hockey dreams amidst all that. And with all that noise and learning all the stuff he needed to learn, he's been just flat out phenomenal in the USHL offensively. So the stuff that you can't teach, Michael Hage is good at. The stuff that you can teach, he's also very good at. And if you're a scouting group, you look at what he's been able to do in Chicago and go, imagine him in like another 2 or 3 years with an NHL organization's resources behind him.
And sorry to change gears a little bit here, but there's one slide that's happened right now. When we went on Betway and looked at projected pick slot, Zeev Buium was 7.5 over under. We're now looking at pick 12. There's no one else that we thought could be in the top 7 that's left here. I don't know that Philly thought they could make the pick of Buium. Whether they like him or not, I don't know. But there's always one guy that we're like, it's Buium this year that slid, the DU defenseman that put up 50 points as a freshman. That's the one to watch here for me.
I'm trying to look kind of the same way. It felt like Yzerman from the midterm to the final rankings, his slide had already kind of taken place.
Yep.
It felt like you wouldn't have been shocked if it was Buium at 2 or 3, right? If he got picked, be that's a great pick, and that he's still there 10 picks later is kind of stunning.
Yeah, the over under, like the betting, the sports books, just you trust it. That's the unbiased what smart people think are happening, and 7.5 was the line, and that's many picks ago. They picked 4 or 5 guys from that point already. You had Yakemchuk at 7, Catton 8, Parekh 9 to Calgary, Silayev the monster at 10 to New Jersey, and Dickinson at 11. And we've had now for the last 5 picks our defensemen. This was the run we thought would happen in the top 10. It's just sort of happening from 7 to 12 potentially. If we see a defenseman here, that'll be 5 of 6.
And this is me jumping around a bit. Plug our pal Stephen Ellis at Daily Faceoff. You know where he had Zane Parekh in his final rankings? 4th.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And then again, this is what we talked about for months. From 2 to 12, you could pull names out of hats and say, yeah, like that could be a team's list. Like, it's just, what do you like? They're very, very different things. Which aisle are we shopping in? Do we want the defensive defenseman? Do we want the offensive defenseman? Do we want the trustworthy center? Do we want the one-dimensional goal scorer? Like, there's so many different players here.
Curious if there's maybe a trade happening here, as Danny Briere is still at the table and they're showing a shot of some other gentlemen in suits furiously and vigorously writing things down on a sheet of paper. So we'll
was there a more famous 2 men with suits at the draft table than what was it? Brian Burke and was it Brian Murray in Ottawa when it was the Cowan Kadri back-to-back picks?
Yeah.
I think Berkey was mic'd up. That was a famous one. I love that one.
You guys want to hear a juicy quote about Zane Parekh from Stephen Ellis?
Let's hear it.
Quote, Parekh was far and away the best defensive defenseman in junior hockey this year, and I think the upside of him being a devastatingly good point producer will allow him to go early. I just enjoy the phrase devastatingly good.
Yeah. No, and they had the clip of him solving the Rubik's Cube. Like, this is a sharp cat. These are the people you don't bet against, right? Like, who was it? Was it Tatum that was just hanging out at NASA for the Boston Celtics? Like, I like collecting people like that rather than the puck go in net. Like, this is he's using his brain to be successful here.
I'd be very happy if they make a trade here, because you know what it would do? It would allow us to have Pinder do as Gary Bettman, we have a trade to announce thing.
That would be good.
Before we got on, I was complaining to Pinder that second year in a row, our pal Craig, we got to talk some sense in this man. So last year during the writers' party, he does the Toffoli trade. All of us had to scramble and sober up and find our way from wherever we were in Nashville to our laptops. And then this year, as seconds after that, the awards are done, before the shine had even gone off some of the awards, they announced another trade. So it's 2 years in a row. He could have teed up Pinder for we have a trade to announce. Yeah. And 2 years in a row, Craig just flagrantly withheld that joy from you.
Yeah, Pike and I were crushing high noons in the pool at 42 degrees, and we had to hop out and do Mangiapane reaction. Thanks, Craig.
Yeah. What's your favorite high noon? What's your go-to there?
Watermelon? I like them all. The watermelon's good.
Pineapple?
The peach they have here, I'm not the biggest fan of. I do like the lime. Don't mind that. They're giving them away too, really cheap in the pool, by the way.
I bet they are.
The semi-retired models and bikinis that.
How many do I get?
I don't know. Just take it for
That's
free.
For one of these. Okay, great.
Just take the credit card and leave me alone.
I'll say this: after the auto grad of 20%, a breakfast burrito and a round of drinks was $95 American.
Okay, since we're talking about the possibility of a trade, we'd be remiss if we did not mention that specifically. Todd mentioned to you, Pinder, about the ledge at 18 that maybe they were trying to get over. Yesterday, Craig mentioned to us in his avail that they have a group of players they like around 28 in that sort of later first group. And I think the phrasing he used was, "Oh, we might have to move up to get one of the guys we like." So as we move forward here, every time Dean alerts us to the presence of men in suits whispering about potential trades, I wouldn't rule out with the Flames having an insane amount of picks in the second and third and fourth rounds going forward.
Yeah.
the possibility of them doing something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that they can get it done, but they'll be trying for sure. Go ahead, Dean.
There has been a trade. We'll find it out here.
Oh, beautiful.
See, if it's Calgary, I'm going to look very smart.
It would be wonderful. Who are the men in suits walking around? Anyone we recognize? Do we see any Todd Buttons or Craig Conroys or Dave Notices or? So if someone's and Minnesota is one pick back, so they're only moving up one slot here. This maybe you take a third to move back one, or Minnesota calls like, okay, well, if you're not taking this guy, we'll move back one.
Sounds like it's 12 for 13 and a third in 2025.
So they move
moving
up
down gets
one
you a third
spot.
Rounder in a couple years or next year. So Minnesota is on the clock.
And it wouldn't be crazy, Dean, for Minnesota or anyone else to have Zeev Buium as their second or third favorite defenseman. And they're just like, no way is he available at 12. Okay, we just have to go get him now. So
feels like that's got to be the natural here. Where
he's
no
just
one really
slid so far, right?
And you're at 13. Hey, Danny, defense or forward at 12? What are you thinking? What do you? I don't know what we're doing. I'm not sure what we're gonna take.
And I think it's an easy conversation.
I'll give you a third if we could swap picks here. So,
well, tell me who you're taking. Okay, we'll do it then. Yeah,
yeah. And if Briere didn't have Buium in the chamber, then he's like, "Thanks for the free third round pick."
Exactly.
Craig Button told me a story when I was doing research for the draft. I didn't use it in the book. Just the thing. Remember in 2002 when the Flames got Eric Nystrom at 10th?
Yeah.
The Flames originally had 9th, and a team basically, I forget which team it was, called up Craig and was like, "Hey, we're worried you're going to take the guy. We'll give you an extra pick if you move down one." He's like, "Okay." He had no intention of taking the guy that they're worried about.
Right.
He just said, "Okay," and just took the pick and moved down one and took Nystrom anyway.
So Bill Guerin on the clock here at 12, swapping with Philly, who moved back to 13. Interesting. Third rounder for that.
And he gets a fresh clock too, right? So now we're just watching Billy Guerin sit there.
I do need to give you a little background on what happened at the 6th selection when Utah selected Iginla. I believe RJ's face went straight into both palms, elbows on the table, and motionless for upwards of a minute. Also, we've got his phone here just out of camera shot that I'm watching the draft coverage on. And immediately he had texts from brother and mother and Jack, everyone offering condolences to RJ on the Iginla selection by the UHC.
Poor Arj.
I know.
Poor Arj.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. Real tough.
How many Iginlas do you need? Like, how many do you think you deserve in one lifetime? Like,
there's only one left now.
Wealth.
Yeah, 2026. It's the Joe Iginla sweepstakes. So we'll folks. I know if you were planning on demolishing the partially built Iginla statue, I think you can repurpose it in 2 years, depending on if Craig likes somebody better at that pick.
Well, yeah, and here we go with the hype train. We'll have another 2 years to talk about Iginla that'll be sniped 3 picks before them again.
So you just watch in 2026, he'll go to Edmonton like he did in the Western League draft.
Of a gun. Yeah,
and as expected, they move up a spot to take Zeev Buium from the University of Denver.
Wow. All right.
That's a nice pick.
12th overall.
Nice to catch a guy sliding. So you could have had one of your top 3D at 12 there. So Philly didn't want Buium, or they don't do that. That's what I would parse out of that. And so maybe it is Yzerman. Maybe it's Consta Helenius. Like, you've got Mishkov arriving this year. There's your incredible offensive engine. You can put some pieces around him. They're going to create offense. But what about that next layer? Who's going to defend? Well, Helenius is kind of that second line for a decade and a half, like Backlund plus type player, where you just say, "Yep, that's our number 2 guy."
Yeah, I think the only thing, if you're a GM, that you're gonna get raked over for taking someone like Helenius is just he'll never like it's. I'll say like I think we've well established that we think Michael Backlund is good at ice hockey. Michael Backlund was a late first because Michael Backlund just didn't have exceptional offensive upside.
Right.
He could do everything else really well. It's just the lack of upside made scouts go maybe a little bit lower. And I think he hurt his knee his draft year. So that was really the only knocks on Backlund. Helenius is sort of the same thing. More
very offense, but not much.
Yeah, like very mature. Plays center, plays the wing. He can do a lot. He'll fill a lot of holes for your team. He could be, somebody that's a glue guy for your team for forever, but he might not ever be the best player on your team.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're a team and you have, like, I would say, case in point, we talked about how good Utah's prospect base is. Utah has a lot of guys that are really good offensive players, but maybe the music between the notes isn't quite there yet. Helenius is sort of the opposite, where I think he'd be a really nice complement for an organization with a lot of high-end offensive players, because he can sort of fill in some gaps in a lot of different situations.
Yeah, and then the other thing you talked about, Dean, is do you give Mishkov a trigger man? Because Mishkov is just an offensive wizard. Do you give him a Cole Eiserman to work with? That's probably the other thing Philly's debating.
Doesn't Cole? It just feels like a Philly pick.
Kind of does, yeah.
The American kid that just scores, just an absolute goal scorer.
Cocky Yank that scores 50 that plays in Philly. Like, it feels like ironic, doesn't it? Yeah.
It kind of does. Yeah, kind of does.
Hockey Hall of Famer Jeremy Roenick.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds odd, isn't it? I'm more excited for Hockey Hall of Famer David Poyle, but that's just me.
That is just you. I will confirm that.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got some people that want to jump in on the stream. So, RJ, why don't we invite Kent and Mike to come in and spell us for a moment here? I think after this Philly pick, that might be the time where I have to go hunt beers, Dean, and you can get another adult diaper to slide into.
Yeah, I got lots of beer, so I'm here. So whatever it is we need. Flames do have another pick, gentlemen, before the night is through.
That is true.
Unless we wait right till the end and then Conroy trades it, and then
he'll trade down into the second round.
He's moved 28 for the negotiating rights to Gensel. Oh wow! Oh, he signed in Vancouver. Shit. Don't see.
What are we hearing on that Vancouver? Is Vancouver going to pull this off?
They're trying. I know they got Tyler Myers finally done. That'd been rumored for a while. A really nice low money deal. I think if Tyler Myers slotted properly, he's a really good player. The problem is, basically the entirety of that contract in Vancouver is they wanted to be a top four. He was always a 5 in Winnipeg and a great one. And when he was slotted as a 5 Vancouver, it worked. So they got low money there. They sort out Dakota Joshua yesterday as well. And I think 4 years of term, money lower than he probably could have got, but it's a good fit there. They like him. I think they've said goodbye to Nikita Zadorov, who's now free to go to his 6th hockey club that will finally appreciate him the way he believes he should be appreciated. And, they in
fairness, Vancouver liked him and would like to keep him. It's not like he's being run out of town on rail.
Oh, of course not. No, I'm not suggesting that. I just mean like Nikita Zadorov.
Well, you bring it up all the time.
So,
it's a 6 team.
You talk to people, and Nikita Zadorov is the biggest Nikita Zadorov fan on earth. His agent's talking about how he's the best defenseman on the Flames. Like, listen, he went for a 3rd and a 5th. The same blue line had one guy go for a 1st plus and a 2nd plus. Like, it's just an exhausting thing. And you talk to guys that play with him, like, that's who he is. He's incredibly cocky. He loves himself, and he thinks he's worth 6. So they're going to say no. Like, that's my take on it.
Like, I wonder what the market is and what kind of.
The reason
6.
The reason he came back to Calgary is because his camp thought he was worth so much more. He didn't get it. The market wasn't there for him, and he had to come back with his tail between his legs and take money from Calgary. He thought he was getting the good Branson money.
He also did that in sort of the flat cap COVID era where there was just no money for guys like him. And so if you're someone like him who can move the needle offensively, there's probably going to be a team that'll. I'm not sure if Nikita Zadorov will ever get the money Nikita Zadorov thinks Nikita Zadorov should get. But like, he ain't bad. Like, he's, you put him with the right defensive partner, he can be very, like we saw in Vancouver. Him and the Chaos Giraffe were just a spectacular matchup because just weird stuff happened when they were on the ice. If you're like, I heard from Canucks fans that they were, alternately terrified and excited every time they were on the ice together because weird stuff happened, but it was so much fun for them to watch.
Yeah. And just to get back on topic, they are definitely hard on Gensel, but there might not be a player with more suitors than Jake Gensel. Everyone wants Gensel. Now who can afford him? Does he cost 10 with that many teams chasing him instead of 9 if it was only 2 or 3? I don't know. Is he searching fit? Is he wanting money? Is it a blend?
I know Frank Seravalli
did. Yeah,
I know Seravalli said today that basically he wants the most money.
And
what's the dough?
And if you've got 10, 12 teams chasing you, you can get the money from a good one, probably.
I can live in Vancouver. I can live in Raleigh. I can live wherever.
Pittsburgh again.
This is about getting it done.
Does that feel like a contract that'll age well, though, in that situation?
I don't know what the term would be because he is longer in the tooth, but the money is going to be.
Well, to get the money, you're probably going 7. If it's not right, it's got to be.
What is he, 32, 31? Like,
he's in his 30s.
Yeah, like that's. That's why he's not a Penguin. They just said, look, we don't know that we can give a max term guy to a contract to a guy that's already in his 30s, despite how good he is. We'll see. But yeah, like you think about if you have JT Miller and Besser and Elias Pettersson and Gensel, you can have those two pairs on separate lines, and that's a really, really, really elite top six group.
Gensel turns 30 in October.
Okay, so he'll be 30 to start next season.
Briere is bringing out Philly native Michael Buffer to make the pick for the Philadelphia Flyers.
In Vegas, of course. Yes, Buffer in Vegas.
Because everyone associates Michael Buffer with the city of Philadelphia.
Well, it'd be Bruce Buffer, right? It'd be Vegas, but this will be something. And remember, you can't say his catchphrase or he'll sue you. Because he's got a trademark, right?
You got to give him $10.
He owns those words. It's like three-peat. Doesn't someone own three-peat? Is Phil gonna sue me now?
Yes.
I believe it was Phil Jackson, didn't he, that had it trademarked?
This will stun you. He's talking a lot. He's
the vocal equivalent of Nikita Zadorov. He likes the sound of his voice.
It's a thrill for him.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah. It's time. All right, let us know.
Oh, here he goes. Well, it's taken a long time. I won't lie.
Yeah. Is it Yzerman? Is it Helenius? Is it somewhere off the board?
That's a good question. I'd go Helenius.
Let's see here. How about Mishkov showing up? What a treat that'll be for them next year. 2 years earlier than expected.
They're getting the Russian guys in.
Yeah, everyone is.
I think my feed's ahead.
All right, so what do you got, Pike?
Let me just refresh to make sure I'm not wrong, because I don't want to spread misinformation.
I won't lie to you. I had a hard time making it out because he was doing the whole whoop-de-doo there. I missed the whole thing. I don't even know what the hell he said. Jet Luchanko.
Ooh, wow. That's off the board.
He good.
Yeah, this is a very interesting guy that teams would love to have slid to them later in the teens or into the 20s.
He might have been someone the Flames would have wanted at 28.
Sure. I mean, if he was there, they'd love that.
He's been as high as 12th on some rankings, as low as second round.
Really?
It's that kind of draft.
We're now into that. I think that first ledge has happened, Dean. That top 12. I think we're now into another tier here.
Yeah, Cole Yzerman's like, you sure I wasn't in that top tier? No, I kind of thought maybe I'd be in that top tier. Feels like maybe you're not.
He was in October. He was.
So this guy's calling a playmaker here. Is that what we're talking about? Assists, smart, high skill playmaker guy. Is that what Luchanko? Is that safe to say?
This wasn't a guy I expected to be talking about in the teens, I gotta be honest. But I mean, that's you look at the numbers, that looks like a playmaker, doesn't it? A centerman with 54 helpers and 20 goals. It's about as basic as the analysis can get. But yeah, I don't have a ton on Luchanko.
Yeah, I mean, guys like him. League Prospects Draft Guide says as soon as he steps on the ice, Luchanko increases the pace of the game twofold. 1 second, he's onto the heels of an opponent carrying the puck out of the neutral zone, and in the next, he's piercing right through the opposing formation with the puck on his stick. His speed makes him a retrieval and pressure machine. He skates really well. He moves really well. 20 goals, 54 assists in 74 games for Guelph. Played in the U18s and won gold. Guelph, bless their hearts, have not been a stacked team the last few years. His NHL drafted teammates, Michael Buchinger, Vilmer Alfrickson, and Cam Allen. So he hasn't really been dealing with, a lot of high-end prospects. So he's, to be blunt, kind of had to carry the mail for them this year. And, he's been able to do it. And, he took a big step this year because Guelph would have been in some dire straits without him. I mean, they lost in the first round of the draft, so it's not like he's a miracle worker. But, if you're the Flyers and you need somebody you have some guys like Michkov's a good example. You have guys with some high-end skill ceilings, and you might need somebody who can play with them and bring some pace. I think you could do a lot worse than Luchanko.
Ranked 20th in the North American skater category by the NHL. Trusted in all situations. Smooth skating center. Lots of different gears. Does the little things well. Good vision. Back checks with a purpose. Yeah, I mean, guy. It sounds like a good player. Surprised maybe that it's this spot for that guy potentially. But hey, what the hell do I know? Is that the Golden Gate Hotel right in the background there? I can see the GO of the Golden Gate.
There's a lot. Nice. It might be is the Golden Nugget still open? I haven't wandered around too much.
Sure, but if you go to the Golden Nugget, you'll see two things. You'll see a huge nugget of gold, which stands to reason, but you'll also see some sharks. I believe, at least last time I was there, they have sharks in the pool.
Sharks in the pool? That can't be hygienic.
It's different. It's kind of, I think you take a slide and you can get, it's like the tube goes through the water where the sharks are, something like that. Anyway, are you a gambler, Pike? How's the, you've been touching the felt, you've been winning got some cards. What's been going on there? Because I know you're a madman.
I've been good. I haven't really had a lot of time to gamble because we've been running around a lot,
Yeah.
So thankfully Craig Conroy's kept us busy enough that we haven't had much time to gamble. But we'll see. Sure. We'll see how Saturday unfolds. But no, it's I think on the consensus list, Luchanko is 23rd, which again, I mean, doesn't mean he's not good. Someone he was ranked 12th, I believe, on scrolling up. Jason Bukala over at Sportsnet, his rankings, he had him 12th. So that's about, he was picked 13th and Bukala has him 12th. He's probably feeling pretty good about his rankings.
I wonder now, because we talked about the unpredictable nature of this draft in this first round. I wonder how crazy it gets now. Because, there was some for, Buium falls and Parekh fall potentially, but I wonder now if there's going to be some guys that old Sam Cosentino is really going to be flipping the page. It's okay, where did I have him? 30, 40. How deep did I have this guy? He's been taken in the first round.
I think when Igor Chennikov who got
it was Igor Chennikov, and no one knew who the hell
it was like
just taken.
In the building you could hear like a record scratch. People like
Ooh.
And I mean then there's like the handful of guys who had watched all the Russian guys, and they're like, can't believe you guys don't know who Igor Chennikov is. You can only have so much time to watch so much hockey. You gotta pick your spots, but
right.
It's those kind of reaches make you look either real smart or really silly. So
did Pinder leave you high and dry? What's going on there?
What's
happening?
Yeah, Pinder and RJ. Pinder, I think he basically decided he's going to go get some sort of beverages, and then he sort of shuffled away. And RJ just sort of shrugged. And he's like, "Okay, like it's we've been trying to wrangle Pinder in various capacities for way too long, especially you."
Well, I'll tell you what. If there's one thing I know about Ryan, he's just a great sidekick. You can always depend on him. Lindy Ruff making the pick for the Buffalo Sabres.
Ooh.
Of course, he's coaching there again.
Good for him. Lindy Ruff just always seems to show up when you need him. I'm really curious what Buffalo does here.
It is Consta Helenius, the centerman, going at 14.
That is a very nice pick for the Sabres. I'm sure Consta Helenius will give a shout out to his hero, Rhett Warner. As everybody should.
I'm not sure that will happen, Pike. I'm not sure that will happen, but nonetheless,
RJ, when are we?
Well, I see we've got Mike in the wings. Mike is standing by. He's ready to roll.
Yeah, and I think we're working on Kent.
If I can hang out, if you need to go, do you have to go pee? How's your bladder?
Oh, I'm good.
Have you got a dainty bladder? Is it like the size of a thimble, or are you pretty good?
No, I'm one of those people that can basically, if I'm there for it's a 3-hour movie, I didn't miss any Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. So you're good on road trips? We can count on you not to.
Pull
over.
I think RJ's in my ear saying we're gonna get Mike Gould in.
All right, Mike Gould. How big is your bladder? How's your bladder, Mike? Oh, can't hear you. We're gonna have to unmute.
Sorry, live. We're live, everybody. I just had some caffeine-free Coke Zero. So I should be good for about 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm
caffeine-free, hey? That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't dance with caffeine. Don't dance.
Really?
With caffeine. No.
What's the deal?
It's just it's a little intrusive. I don't know. I just it's I'll tell you, it's a bitch to find. Apparently in the States they got regular Coke that's caffeine free. They don't have it up here. I don't get what it is.
Free Coke Zero.
Caffeine free Coke Zero.
Huh.
Yeah.
So Mike, since you're joining us, we would like you to weigh in on at least 2 topics. The first of which is the crushing disappointment that you feel in your soul that Iginla will be playing in a different market. Although, if of all the organizations for it to happen in, it's Utah HC, the zombified remains of the Arizona Coyotes, which might be the next best place.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know. I think it might have turned my insides inside out there a little bit going to Utah. I don't know. That was kind of the one place where I didn't want him to go, quite frankly. Makes my feelings even more complicated.
He feels like a good fit there, doesn't he? Right? New team, exciting young fan base. They're gonna love him there.
People don't realize, and justly because nobody really paid attention to the team when they were in Arizona, but people don't realize how good their forwards are. And they did have a bit of an archetype under their previous GM, John Chayka, who was not huge on size. They got guys like Keller and Michelli, and they're very good playmakers, and Keller can score, but they kind of needed that sniper and that guy who can play with a little bit more, audacity on the ice. And so it's a great fit for them. I like it. But it, the heart part of it for Calgary is, just, it kind of stings a little bit.
I see Kent is standing by. We'll bring Kent in. I'm going to ask Kent about his bladder, and then I'll duck out. And Pike, you can do whatever you need to do there. And then we'll regroup, and we'll jump in at some point here as we're getting ready. They take the break. Helenius at 14, and there goes Pike. So we're waiting on, I guess it'd be Detroit now coming up at 15. Kent Wilson, how's your bladder? You a good bladder guy?
All right.
You can hold.
I'm good for now.
You're good on a road trip. We're not pulling over all the time for you to have. I got a tinkle. You're not a.
No, I have the constitution to do a road trip. I'm good.
I think I'm not stunned. I'm not stunned at all. That's so, and before I jump out, because obviously you guys are going to take over, I guess, and he brought up Tige. I'll start with you, Gold, and then with Kent. Yeah. What are your impressions? Biggest surprises, shocks? Just, I guess, if somebody said, how's the first round going? What would you tell them?
I'm a little bit surprised. I had most of the top 5 mapped out, and I was honestly surprised that Zeev Buium went as low as he did. I was pretty sure he was going to go to Anaheim because he's an Orange County guy. He's from there, and I thought it would make all sorts of sense, especially after Anaheim traded Jamie Drysdale to Philadelphia for Cutter Gauthier. I thought that was sort of a position of need. And so when that changed, things kind of changed with it. The other 4 picks in the top 5, I had thought ended up going the way that I expected them to. But after that, once Tige goes to Utah, it's just something that was not like with Utah. That's a team that needs a defenseman. They need a defenseman badly. And, they took Simashev last year, but I could have sworn they were going to take Buium or Parekh or especially Dickinson. Dickinson was who I thought. And after that, I don't know if any of the picks have gone necessarily as I expected them. So it's been, but that's what makes the draft fun.
And your thoughts there, Kent, as I prepare to duck out and let you boys take over here for a bit?
Yeah, I had like 4 picks earmarked for the Flames of Parekh, Catton, Iginla, and Buium. And it's like, all right, well, as long as they get one of those guys is going to fall to them. So I was happy when they made the pick, given how the rest of the top 9 had gone.
All right, man. I'm going to, here I am chirping you guys about a bladder. I might go to the bathroom. I'm going to chill out for a bit, and we'll chime in.
All right,
here we go. Mike.
Sounds good.
I guess it's just the 2 of us now. Wow. Okay.
All right.
So
let's talk about whatever we want.
Yeah, let's talk about Boom. I don't know, those sunglasses. Why does he always wear them? No. Kent. I mean, we're about halfway through this round, and I mean, we've been talking about it throughout, but I'm really quite surprised, and I'm surprised at Zane Parekh. I'm surprised they took him over Zeev Buium. I like Zane Parekh. The reason that I was expecting them to take Zeev Buium is, I mean, I don't necessarily care about the handedness. I think the Flames need help on both sides. But for me, you look at these 2 players, Zeev and Zane. They both won championships this year. Zane won the Memorial Cup. Zeev won the national championship in the NCAA. And they were both extremely productive. My only reason that I had Buium ahead of Parekh, and again, they finished so close, was that Buium did it against better competition. That was really it. He was in the NCAA. But the OHL isn't exactly, a huge step down. It is a step down, but it's just going to be interesting to see how those two project and compare against each other.
Yeah, I mean, Parekh had like a 99th percentile season in the OHL. That's crazy. I mean, he scored over 30 goals. He led his team in scoring as a draft year defenseman. That's bonkers. Like Ryan Ellis didn't do that. He's the last guy I can remember who had comparable numbers, right? So it's like, this is a tremendous player to get at 9. Usually guys like that go top 5 most years, right? So
yeah, I mean, you can't deny it. It's I mean, when I watched Carter Yakemchuk a lot with the Hitmen this year, you saw, I think the flaws were more glaringly evident, and he ends up going higher than I pegged him. I thought he was going to go sort of in the teens, maybe in the 11, 12 range. With Parekh, it's so interesting. I don't think nobody is regarding Parekh as, a defensive mastermind. He's not that kind of player. But I don't think at the same time that he is necessarily as prone to error. Like with Yakemchuk, when you watch him, I would bring it up on our lottery show. I brought it up. I said when he's at his best, he looks like Dougie Hamilton. When he's at his worst, he can kind of do the Nikita Zadorov type
Dougie
thing.
Hamilton.
Yeah, and it's going to be so interesting because with Zane, you kind of 10 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to necessarily clock any comparables. There weren't necessarily the players around the league who looked like this. And now it's very easy to see the comparables because 2 of them have won the Norris Trophy in the last couple of seasons, and they are Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar. And it's so interesting to see. Obviously, Makar and Hughes, neither of them came out of the CHL. They were both college guys. Now, Parekh is an OHL guy, and it's going to be so interesting because you look at all the analytical models. We looked at Byron Bader. We looked at Patrick Bacon. There are so many people who look at the point production, and it's like you said, it's in the 99th percentile. It's unbelievable. It's just a matter of, and also the other thing that I look at here is where do you manage to fit in both Zane Parekh and Hunter Brustevitz, who are the top 2 scoring defensemen in the entire OHL last year. They're both right-handed shots. But I don't know. Are they going to be able to make it work? It's another question that I have. But it's really interesting to see them take such a swing on skill.
Well, I mean, the problem of having 2 tremendously productive defensemen is a good problem to have. So I'm not going to worry about that. The guy to think about for me is Evan Bouchard, right? Who was picked 10th by Edmonton and just scored a point per game in the NHL. It helps to play with Connor McDavid, obviously, but we've discussed it in the community we're in a couple times, and I've said, if you want to build a true contender these days, you can't just build a couple of superstars. I think you need at least one on the back end, and I'm not talking like a Tanev level great defenseman. I think you need a Cale Makar. I think you need Quinn Hughes, Evan Bouchard, and I think this is the style of player, if you're building a contender, if he grows into that you need. Absolutely.
Now, the other thing I want to say is I like the Bouchard comp. The only thing is he's quite a bit bigger. He's 6'3".
He's big, yeah.
And Parekh is 6 feet. Now, I did say, 10 years ago, this player might not be as bountiful, as plentiful in the NHL as it is today. But a guy who very similarly came up through the OHL and turned into a superstar, won 2 Stanley Cups. I mean, you look at it, Drew Doughty. This is sort of a similar type of player in terms of where he was picked. And he comes out of the OHL, not the biggest guy, 6'1". He doesn't go first overall. He goes a little bit later, although I think if my memory serves me, he might have gone 3rd or 4th. But like you said, Kent, with players like this who have this level of production, getting them at 9 as defensemen is exceedingly rare. A 96-point player in the OHL, if it was a
33
forward,
goals.
probably
he
goes
scored at a
10.
higher rate than Sam Honzek did in his draft.
Oh man,
right?
Like it's really something
in a tougher league. So that's something.
Yeah, I mean, Doughty ended up going number 2 in his draft year. Doughty was actually below a point per game, which is kind of interesting in the OHL. But scoring was so different, and he had been above a point per game the previous year. But you look at it with Drew Doughty in the 2 seasons before he was drafted, collectively he scored 34 goals, and Zane Parekh just scored 33 in one season.
And he led his team in scoring, right? So
I mean,
Scott Niedermayer is another player to think of. Like that's going back a little while, but that level of offensive talent. He wasn't big.
Yeah.
Niedermayer was not a big guy, but he was that roamer, extremely good everywhere on the ice, and just impacted the game in an interesting way. Look beyond just being big and tough, right?
It's going to be really fascinating, and the way that the draft is playing out, there are still some really good players available. I don't know if St. Louis has made its pick yet. I don't think it has. So I think the most recent pick, still number 15, was that. Detroit picked Brandsegg-Nygard. I didn't see that until just now.
I
had actually predicted that on the Flames Nation mock. It just felt like such a Steve Yzerman type player, and St. Louis is just going up to the podium now. Brandsegg and Nygard. Ian Hurd in the chat saying, "What's going on with Boomer and Pinder buggering off and leaving us with these two unwatchable clowns?" Thanks, Ian. Appreciate the feedback. Hey, you know what? I think they'll be back pretty shortly, but we're very happy to be here, and it's going to be a lot of fun as the draft continues to go on. Brandsegg-Nygard, though, I believe he is the first Norwegian player ever selected in the first round of the NHL draft.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So with St. Louis now coming up at pick 16, they have picked Adam Urich, and that is an interesting pick too because he missed a lot of his draft year this past year with an injury.
He did.
And that's going to be something. I mean, there's been such a run on defense in this first round. That makes it what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that? I can't see if I'm counting right. I think that's 6 now to this point in the first round.
He was a big dark horse too. Like he appeared all over draft boards when I looked at him. Like he could be top 20, top 10. But also 45, so he was all over the place.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like Aaron Kiviharju, sort of the similar type of guy. Not a similar type of player, but just when you suffer that injury, your draft stock can go all over the place. So it'll be really interesting to see what ends up happening with these next few picks. It's worth remembering. So the Flames have a second first-round pick coming up, pick number 28. They've picked a defenseman. Last year, obviously, they picked a left winger. Kent, I don't know necessarily drafting by position is necessarily what you want, but what are you looking at for the Flames, pick 28?
If there's a good centerman available, I think they're going to look at that. But it's such, the draft can go all sorts of ways in the latter half of the first round. So there are some other pretty good defensemen that could be available around there. So it wouldn't stun me if one of those guys is there that they take him. But yeah, if there's a C who's good, I think they might go that way. Yeah.
I'm almost wondering, because they've taken the defenseman, obviously. A couple of years ago, they really mucked up not taking Lane Hutson with the, I believe, 61st overall pick or something around there.
His brother's available.
He is available. And Cole Hutson is coming off a really strong season with the U.S. National Team Development Program. There's a couple defensemen with the National Team Development Program. Hutson had a really big offensive year. And then there's E.J. Emery, and he's a player who is a little bit less on the production standpoint, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him go in this first round. He's a 6'3". I think he's a little bit lighter. I think he's maybe about 190 pounds. And he's a very good skater, but the production hasn't been there quite to the same extent. But he set highs in pretty much every category at the combine, which is kind of interesting. I think his body mass percentage is like 3% or something. It's something crazy. It was him and Sam Dickinson tying for number 1 in that regard. So it'll be really interesting. Other names that I like down there, Andrew Basha is a WHL scorer who grew up a Flames fan, really productive, would be a really interesting pick there. Teddy Stiga is another U.S. National Team Development Program type player. Really good production again. And then Michael Haig, somebody in the chat just mentioned
That's the guy
him.
I was thinking of.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to say him. Somebody in the chat just mentioned Michael Haig, and it will be really interesting to see if he is still available. I don't think he will be, But Chicago
Yeah,
Steel,
you never know though.
really good production. I mean, you know, you look at
33 goals, USHL, and 57 games, I think. Yeah, so that's a solid pick potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, you might have to move up in order to get Michael Haig, but it's hard to say.
It's going. I mean, they have so many defensemen now in the system, given they traded almost exclusively for defensemen recently. It would surprise me if they don't go forward here, but you never know with the draft board, right? So, center is my guess, but you're right. It could be there is a handful of defensemen at that range who could be available to go with.
Oh, look who's back. We got Pike and
Fancy.
Pinder. Pinder looks like he's been freshly watered. Did you borrow Boom's sunglasses?
Mike. Don't know if you can hear me. There we are. Many people have many sunglasses. It's not just one man that has sunglasses. And when you're in Vegas at the tail end of a 5-day bender, you probably just feel a little comfier. There's also bright lights shining in our face. Not unlike the bright light I witnessed as I walked into the hotel at 6 this morning, but here we are. We're live streaming. It's the draft. We're excited. I know you guys have been sort of speculating about what might be around at 28. We got a dozen picks here. Like, this is kind of a fool's errand. I'd rather, if you guys don't mind, first I'm going to say we got the Great Clips inbox coming up when Dino is back in the next 15, 20 minutes. We'll jump into that. But before we get there, I want your thoughts on the Mangiapane swap, maybe the level of surprise you had around it. And now as you sort of zoom out, the first 14 months of Craig Conroy, there's been some massive deletions, but even just Markstrom, Mangiapane, where are we feeling about, the absolute teardown of the studs? There are now just 3 skaters left from the Battle of Alberta series. It's Backlund, it's Coleman, it's Anderson. Isn't that wild? And maybe Shillington if he resigns, but we talk about the change, but maybe let you guys tackle that trade we saw happen yesterday and I guess the overall direction that Craig's pointed this club.
Go ahead, Cam.
You want to go? Okay.
Nope.
Well, I mean, I've been a rebuild maximalist for a long time. I think it's the right move. And I'm a big Mangiapane guy, like more than other people, because, after his goal scoring kind of fell off over the last couple of years, I still felt he was a guy who brought a lot of value at even strength, especially when he was paired with Backlund. Like that was still one of the best even strength lines in the league last year, which is saying something, right? Because they the coach went to them against all the hard minutes, and but he was never going to stick around. Like this was going to be his last year for sure. He wasn't going to be here, so it made a lot of sense to get in front of that, establish a market for him, and move him. I'm in favor of it because I don't think they need him this year, and I do think they need a second round pick. So I like the player, but I still like the move as well.
Yeah, I agree. Just as an aside, Washington just picked Urich Parascak, who I know is a lot of people's perhaps favorite for 28.
28,
from the Prince George Cougars. He's a very good player. Good pick for them.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Capitals, who just made that pick, I was kind of flushed to see some of the reactions yesterday about the Mangiapane trade, sort of painting it as not good for Calgary. I don't really understand it. For me, I don't really understand it for Washington. I don't understand why they're trading a second-round pick for a 28-year-old player. For me, I was kind of half of the mind that Calgary might not be able to get anything for Andrew Mangiapane, quite frankly, after he scored 14 goals last season and $5.8 million. I mean, we saw just a couple of days ago, Detroit traded arguably its second best defenseman in Jake Wallman, and they had to move a second-round pick to get rid of him. So but
that was a terrible trade. So
it was a terrible trade.
Let's not benchmark that. That's a terrible move.
I understand that, and it just didn't make any sense. But yeah, it's you don't know, right? You don't know with the trade market, especially for wingers. Yeah. People are always surprised by how little wingers return. And you look at it, people were saying, you could hold on to Andrew Mangiapane, maybe trade him during the season, and maybe you could get more. I would be shocked if they got more. I look at a guy like Jason Zucker, who did not, the Coyotes didn't want to take on any money, so they didn't retain salary, and the Flames didn't retain salary. So it's kind of a cross. It's kind of a straight across comparable. And in that case, when they traded Zucker with no retention, they got a 6th round pick and Calgary got a second round pick, and Zucker was making 5.3, Mangiapane's making 5.8. So for me, I think it's a clear win, and it's something that the Flames had to do. 7 players gone now in the last 12 months. It makes all sorts of sense. Mangiapane's a good player, but there's an opportunity here for them to maybe go out in free agency and look at a winger who they like, who is similar. I know there's been lots of talk about Jake DeBrusk. I think there's a lot of well-founded reason behind that chatter about Jake DeBrusk. I would not be at all surprised if Jake DeBrusk is a Flame on July 1st. He just bought a house here. There's a lot of chatter about that. But as for what the future holds for Mangiapane, again, like, I just don't get why Washington is giving up a second round player for a player, or a second round pick for a player who, quite frankly, does not fit with Hendricks, Lapierre, Ivan Miroshnichenko, Connor McMichael, and now the player who they just picked.
Fellas, sorry, everyone's waiting for a host to jump in here. So they've got 6 firsts the next 3 years, fellas. They've selected 1. There's 5 to go. Just, you've hammered the Mangiapane trade, but I mean, for a guy that's been yelling rebuild at the top of your lungs for a while, this has to feel like it's actually happening. And there was a lot of time that you wondered if the owner would ever have the appetite for it. I think the building probably helps that decision, but I think Craig Conroy's done what he's had to do. He hasn't been fooled into adding to a group that wasn't good enough, which I think at times Brad Treliving was, when you look at the certainly the Hamonic trade amongst some other free agent moves. What do we see from here? I don't know that I do think that DeBrusk makes sense here. Sell me on why that makes any sense for a group that's going to suck the next 3 years, Mike.
Well, I mean, I think you got to fill out a roster, and I think it gives you a free asset. And I don't really see it as being all that different from when any other team that's in the midst of a rebuild makes any signing, quite frankly, because I don't think DeBrusk is going to be the most highly sought after, for the same reason that Mangiapane wasn't the most highly sought after, and why wingers all over. It's just because they are wingers, and these secondary players, they go wherever they get the most money, and the Flames have that flexibility.
At what number do you say no? Because it's easy to just say, oh yeah, go get guys. Wingers aren't worth much. And I know that DeBrusk has a tiny bit of center in there. I think that you can, I guess, suggest that he could play a bit of the middle, but I just don't why collect someone going into their 30s? Like, you could take an asset with a guy like that, couldn't you? If you're screaming about all this cap space, aren't you smarter to take a Jeff Skinner in a first instead?
Well, Jake DeBrusk is 26.
Okay, so that's a good example then. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I am suggesting that I think there's a very good chance that they get him on like a 4-year deal, something like that takes up the remainder of his 20s.
Okay.
And I think if that's the case, you're maybe paying a premium. I think that's entirely possible, where if this is a player who in a vacuum is worth $5 million, maybe you're getting him for $6 million. But it's something where I just think the fit is there. Kuzmenko is probably gone within 6 months ish, and quite frankly, even though they have not been the most successful team recently, they also don't have a ton of really good winger prospects at this point. I think even without DeBrusk or with DeBrusk or whatever, they have the room for the guys who are on the doorstep already. They have the room for Pelche. They have the room for Coronado, because those guys were already in the lineup at the end.
Mike, not to correct you.
Yeah, Pike, jump in here.
Not to correct you, Mike. He's 27, turning 28 in October. So you're getting if you do a 4-year deal, you're starting to pay for his decline.
28, 29, 30, 31.
Oh, you're right.
A 4-year deal.
The thing I just don't like about, I'm going to push back on you, or they don't have any good forward prospects. They have good forward prospects at the wing. They just don't have great forward prospects. And the best way to block some of your best guys is to sign forward NHL forwards to block their way. I think that the biggest challenge they have right now is that, okay, where the hell's Pelche going to play?
Agreed.
Where the hell's Coronado going to play?
I'm totally.
Where's Sam Hanzik going to play?
And the example is,
the
just hang on here, Mike.
So
the reason they move Mangiapane is exactly what Pike's talking about, is they want to create room in the top 9 for Coronado. You haven't even done that for Pelche if he's earned that spot. And yes, you have to have guys earn it, but I mean, when you look at this group, they're already burdened with too many wingers that aren't dynamic. And if your job is to collect young assets and not be good and make sure you keep your pick in the top 10 next year, where does Jake DeBrusk help any of that? He doesn't, you already have enough veterans that are teaching kids to play the right way. You already have a glut on the wings I could see them spending on a guy whose market caves in a little if they're a centerman or a defenseman. I just see too many wingers already. Huberdeau is a winger forever. Coleman's a winger for the next 3 years. Clearly you've got Sharangovich, who's a better player on the wing. Kuzmenko, is probably a pump and dump candidate. I agree with you on that. But where the easiest thing to find in the league is wingers. I'm not going to go, eat cap space for it. You could get, like a Mikheyev for free with a second. We've seen. And I said Skinner. I'm just using examples of don't go pay the market price for Jake DeBrusk. Get a deal on him, sure, but don't outbid people for a middle six winger of which you already have too many.
Hey, I'm going to jump in here because this is an interesting discussion. And as a rebuild maximalist, I think the team should be as bad as possible for the next few years. So I basically agree with you guys. But the thing that I think that the org is going to go after, aside from draft talent in the next few years, is players that want to play in Calgary, players that want to build a foundation in terms of culture here. They've taken it on the chin in the last few years with guys exiting, get me out of here. Zadorov didn't want to be here. Gaudreau wanted to leave. Tkachuk wanted to leave. They've been kicked in the nuts, quite frankly, as an organization, as a market. So when they have a guy who has, let's say, a brand name to some degree with DeBrusk, who says, I'm picking Calgary as a UFA, and I'm going to be here, and he has to understand the assignment when he gets here. We're not going to be good, man. You're coming here and you're going to be a veteran. You have to help us build a foundation to make this a winning organization. And I'm guessing that if that happens, they're going to have that discussion with him and say, listen, man, we're going to sign you, but you have to want to be here for what's going to happen here.
My other point that I want to make is that, I'm not convinced that they traded Mangiapane solely to make that room. I think they think that room already exists. I just think with Mangiapane, it was an instance of you're here 1 year out from him having his contract expire. And I think both sides realized there was no prolonging this. There just really wasn't a point into going into the season with that player on a lame duck contract. So
okay,
I think
play along with me then. So
go for it.
Which of these players do you put on the fourth line so that Coronado could get top 9 minutes if he earns it? Do you put Huberdeau on a fourth line? Do you put Kuzmenko on a fourth line? Do you put Coleman on a fourth line? Do you put Sharangovich on a fourth line? Do you put Pospisil on a fourth line? Do you put Mangiapane on a fourth line? That was what they were looking at. So which of those players, as we talk about rebuild, can you put on a fourth line to allow Matthew Coronado, the chance to play with skilled players and grow? Tell me which of those vets that's going to go over well with, Mike.
Marty Pospisil. It's the way that it goes.
And they scratch Huberdeau for all I care.
Right, but again,
and I think that sends the wrong message to Huberdeau, though.
I don't care where Huberdeau plays. I don't care where Huberdeau plays. It's fine.
I don't know if anybody boy, we're getting crowded in here. I mean, with Pospisil, this is a guy who a year ago wasn't in the league. I mean, he had a good rookie year, but I think we also have to remember he had 8 goals. I mean, this is a guy who is a good player. He is also 24 going on 25, and he's not a core piece. I mean, for me, it's just something where if you can add a free asset to your organization, I don't really see the downside. And that's also, accounting for the fact that Jacob Pelche is coming off a kind of a disappointing season.
Agreed.
These guys have room there. I think there is going to be room for these guys to play. It's just a matter of you have to kind of keep your expectations in check. And signing Jake DeBrusk isn't going to make or break your team. It's not going to drag you out of the top 10.
It's about what it blocks you from being able to do. I'll say this internally: 1, they love Martin Pospisil. 2, internally, I think they see Martin Pospisil as the litmus test or the prototype for what they want to build as a culture. Because I think he's a guy that he only got called up because when they wanted to make a shuffle, Trent Cull basically said he's the guy who deserves the spot right now. And he basically turned his entire pro career around with a good month in the AHL. And so if you diminish him unless his performance dictates it, you're basically telling all the kids in the organization,
Hello?
Did we lose Pike?
Pike's keeping us in suspense.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
I can
hear you. Hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Am I dead?
No, you're fine.
Yeah. So,
Okay, good.
So Pike's point is just that if you can't have the kind of breakout season that Pospisil had and break into the top 9, what exactly are we accomplishing here? Is this not the exact time in an organization's life cycle where you should be able to reward young players with top 9 minutes?
Yeah, and we saw. Look at the year Adam Klapka had. Look at the year William Stromgren had. You want to be able to, if you want to get this thing going to where they want it to go, you need to have the ability to reward your Pospasils, your Stromgrens, your Klapkas with meaningful NHL reps for it to mean anything. Otherwise, you're basically just twiddling your thumbs going, oh, great work, guys. Great work. Get on the fourth line.
Yeah, I'm liking this camera shot.
Let's go to Dean here because I think we've done the circles here. Dino, how many beers are you in? How you doing with the origins there? Oh, he's muted there.
Oh,
Boy.
Dean's muted.
Oh man.
There we go. All right. It's a very good question you bring up, Ryan, because I'm ready to crack another one.
Yeah.
I've got homegrown. I've got the Mexican lager. I've got another raspberry, the Rockyford raspberry, or everyone's favorite, the Barn Burner Blonde.
Good stuff.
It's quality.
What's the across? What are you thinking, Ryan? You're kind of the beer pig of the
Okay,
group,
so the
right?
order was you went Barn Burner to start, and then the Rockyford Raspberry. I think it's high time for a Mexican lager, sir. You need to.
Yep.
Yeah, there you are. Okay, very good.
So Vegas just picked Trevor Connolly. Which
This is an
was-
interesting pick, and it makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense for the ruthless. We don't care what people
Absolutely.
think. Vegas Golden Knights. Connolly's a guy who, based on skill alone, you could say was flirting with top 10-ish, but there are massive red flags.
Yeah.
This is not a character guy, but Vegas don't give a shit.
No.
They got the culture, they got the room, they want the talent. This is a classic Kelly McCrimmon move here.
I like our shot.
Yeah,
I really
yeah,
don't.
and
Yeah, that's
Do we
I'm
need to
watching the-
get a little pull back a little bit on the?
RJ's doing it right now. It's just
There we
we
go.
go.
Oh, poor Pike. No respect for Pike.
we
Oh,
got
come
another,
on.
we
We're looking
got
at
another-
Pinder's nuts and we lose Pike. Look at your scrotum.
wow, we got
That's
another
a
camera.
shitty trade right there.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
a bad
man.
trade. Pinder's
Lucky I'm not wearing
balls.
swimsuit.
for
Yeah,
Ryan
you should
Pike.
have seen what he was wearing in the pool yesterday.
Look at
Oh,
that
was it
purple
a-
hat too. It's pretty good.
More than I wasn't
Yeah.
wearing. To be fair. It's 42. There's not much to wear.
Just all I know is HR is gonna be getting their usual weekly text from me about Pinder. So
Yeah. Did you
Thanks,
and Boom
Mike.
get your sunglasses on a group deal or something? They're kind of
Mike,
svelte.
do you own
Yeah, what's that,
sunglasses?
Timu or
They're
whatever it is? Yeah.
They're nice.
Yeah.
I like them.
I'm
I
gonna wear
got a
sunglasses
truckload
next time.
full of them.
I
I
want
got like
in on
100
it.
pairs. Yeah, I got a bunch of them. Are we now again? Look, are we shocked Cole Eiserman hasn't gone? Because everyone
Yes,
said
yes.
there's some warts in the game, but he's the best pure shooter in the draft, and we're
Probably
deep
still is.
into a first
Yeah.
round now.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely accurate. You could have suggested he would slide, but to say that he's in the 20s, I don't think people would have said that's legit. I
Yeah,
think
I thought
his
15.
Betway over under was around 14 and a half. So
Yeah.
his slide is now bigger than Buium's slide, which was the biggest prior, I believe.
He is having a better season than Matt Coronado did in his draft year. And Matt Coronado went to Calgary at 13?
Yeah.
And Eiserman,
He's having
was
one of the
over-
best goal scoring
Yeah.
seasons. Period.
Yeah.
But doesn't
like, it is-
that tell you everything though, guys? That
Yeah.
while he scores 57 goals or whatever it is, he slides out of the top 5 into
He's
like
terrible
the
at everything
teens on all
else.
these lists, and now he's into the 20s. Like
We
GMs
love
are
your shot.
dumb. They
It's
like
the
goals.
rest
Yeah,
of the hockey
it's
that
everything
we
else
really
we hate.
don't care for. Did you
Yeah,
see? I broke
exactly.
Cole Caulfield's goal score. I score
Yeah, I
a
don't
goal
care.
a game. We did see that. We also saw
terrible.
everything else.
Yeah.
he's a challenging Google. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a dad and the kid were in the garage a lot growing up, working that shot, kid, working that shot. Maybe the crossovers, maybe some power skating. Now we lost Pinder, and
Yeah.
more of my fat head now.
I'm enjoying watching RJ sweat here. It's keeping his mind off the lack of TJ Iginla in Flames uniform.
Yeah,
Hey,
poor
all,
dog.
all I know is his frame picture of TJ Iginla has been placed face down on his workstation.
Sorry, real quick. Just Eiserman is available, and I believe the Islanders are next. Is that not like scream fit? Like
Ooh, it does,
American
doesn't it?
market, they don't score enough. Like that feels like such a spot for him to land. The Islanders forever have been we're old, we can't score a lot, but maybe we can Sorokin our way to the playoffs.
It reminds me of when they picked Atu Ratu back in 2 or 3 years ago. And he was, there was a point in time where he was expected to go number 1. And the Islanders, I don't think, didn't have a pick until the second round. And so they made that pick because they could afford to take it on a faller.
Was Ratu that highly touted? Jesus.
Yeah.
And
you
know where his
Top
brother
5.
plays.
His brother
brother's
is
a-
Utah.
I had a feeling you'd say that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Very good.
Oh,
Very
boy,
good.
RJ.
Hey,
Oh,
look
we
at
got
us.
all 5.
Look at this motley crew.
Yeah.
You know what's kind of funny is going left to right, we all kind of have it's like the rainbow. Pike's the red one. I kind of have an orange background. Kent's got a yellow one. You're kind of green, Boom. And
Hey,
Pinder's
they-
wearing a blue hat.
Some people just say it's 5 white dudes. It's the same whole way.
Cole
It's,
Eiserman to the Islanders.
yeah. This is the
Eiserman's
diversity
an
of the hockey
Islander.
media.
Okay, nice.
I'm sad I don't have a beer.
That's
Well,
not
that's-
your
that's a
problem.
you
That's
problem.
not an us
Just
problem.
shit
my
planning.
problem,
Kent and I got the salt and pepper in the beard. Pinder does, just he dyes his. He gets
I
it
don't
dipped,
die. I
like
just get it
McLennan
shaved
says.
in here. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I need to go for a dip.
I got the old Jim Benning
turn
black
this on?
ink. Do you remember Benning's dye job at the draft that one year? That makes me laugh so much.
That was rough.
He just came out looking like Count Chocula, like this son of a
There
kid.
goes
That's not
Eiserman, you're
fooling
right.
anyone.
The thing I miss most about Jim Benning is I'd say this, there's some very, very creative, wonderful people in Vancouver sports media, and one of them did that web comic called Benning on Empty.
Yes,
It was spectacular,
it was
and I
so
miss it so
good.
much.
Yeah, it was basically a comic strip where Benning's just like this oaf, and all the people in the org are like just trying to stick handle this idiot that makes all these decisions. Benning on
So,
empty. That's so
I guess
good.
just on a serious note, because like we say, Cole Eiserman does go to the Islanders.
Yeah,
58
that's
goals in 57 games, 89
That's crazy.
points
It's crazy.
with the national development team. He's got all they say NHL goal or NHL shot, NHL goal scorer right out of the chute.
Yeah.
How and we're in the first round. It's not like he fell to the 5th or 6th round, but it feels like a slide. What is it about this guy's game? Because if you can score, you can do the hardest thing in the game. You hear it all the time. We'll teach him how to play D. We'll teach you how to play a 200-foot game. You can't teach what he's already got naturally.
They need to teach him how to play D. The big thing was the term that was used by someone I talked to was glaring challenges defensively. Like
Jeez,
he is a
keyword.
one zone dynamo, but he might be one of the better players in the draft in that one zone.
And I didn't really love his response to the slide. He says, I still think I'm a top 5 player in this draft. And maybe that's just a guy, believing in himself, but I don't know. It sort of plays into my fears of the large egoed goal scoring American at the program. Maybe is there something there? I don't know. We're kind of grasping at straws here, but I just didn't love I got to work at it. He's like, no, I'm still the shit. Trust me on this one. I was like, oh, we'll see.
Yeah, what I heard from about him was like grossly uninvolved. Like unless he's scoring, grossly uninvolved in the play. So it's like, okay, I get
It's
it.
a lot of good descriptors, just not in your
Yeah.
favor.
Yeah.
Right.
Shockingly bad.
I'm trying to think of who the comp is. Like, who are we talking about here? Is it like the
who's the
Jonathan
guy?
Chichu 56 goal year, or what is this?
Who was the guy? And I'm drawing a blank. The Oilers took him. The Oilers took him in round 1. He went to the Islanders. I
Robert
think it was
Nielsen.
a London. No,
No.
In that-
I know what you're
but-
talking about.
but he was a goal
What
scorer.
was his name?
Rob Shrimp.
Rob Shrimp,
Yeah.
right? Tons of skill.
Yeah, Robbie Shrimp.
guy.
That's who it was. Yeah.
Slides down the
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
slides down the trap. But man, this guy can shoot it. And what was it about him? Well,
Yeah.
the defensive side, maybe the skating needs some improvement, and he never was able to take and transform that skill that he had in junior to the
That's
NHL.
right. Yeah.
Josh Hosang vibes? Anyone else? Is that sort of similar?
Maybe.
All I
Sure.
remember is Kent. You probably remember this because you're old like me. I remember the year that Shrimp got drafted. There was that infamous post. I forget where it was, but I know it's been kicking around Calgary Puck for years. The
600
600 goals, 1,300 points meme.
1,300
Where
points.
yeah, it's like basically as soon as Rob Shrimp got drafted, they're like, we see Iginla numbers out of this guy, and like. I feel so bad for like the guys who have these crazy offensive numbers in their draft year. I feel kind of bad for them because pro hockey is so difficult, and if you're going to get kicked in the stomach your first year when you're playing against men, and you don't really know what to do when you're not scoring.
Yeah.
And like I would say we saw that a bit this year with Coronado, where October Coronado, I think he basically admitted to me at the end of the season that his first month in the NHL is kind of a wake-up call for him, to like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing when I'm not around? And we saw he made some progress, but yeah, like just the every time I hear crazy offensive numbers, I think 600 goals, 1,300 points, and just go, oh God, you're hoping none of these kids is a punchline in 20 years.
My one glorious year. No, I was just saying, my one glorious year in Edmonton was one of the years he was trying to break camp, and McTavish did not want him on the team. And I don't know, maybe somebody upstairs wanted him on the team. It just every day was asking these questions to Rob Schrempf, the media. Do you think it's fair to say that players need to go to the American League? Do you need to go and ply your craft? Do you need to learn how to be a pro? All these questions. And he just every day, it's like, no, I think if you're good enough, you should make the team. And then they'd ask McTavish about it, and he wouldn't really. It was like there was just this weird pissing match between the coach and the player.
Jeez.
Like directly almost in front of each other, but just outside of earshot. It was very weird. And it never did.
Berchi, yeah.
It was, yeah, remember Brian Burke's "There's 3 zones on the ice" one-liner about Sven?
Yeah.
He wasn't wrong, but there's nicer ways to say that.
He wasn't wrong. Yeah.
They just needed Niederreiter. It would have unlocked them, right? That's what it was. Got to go get Niederreiter.
Yeah,
I felt for Sven. Sven's a great kid. I was in Abbotsford when he was there, and I think the world of the human. And you know, there was some stuff happening back in Switzerland that wasn't fun that he was going through family wise, and I kept waiting for it to happen. It just didn't.
Guy we talked about earlier, Michael Hage, the center.
Yep.
Out of Chicago, the USHL goes to Montreal.
Wow, that's a nice pick.
Very nice.
Feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Injured
He's called him
20,
Mike.
injured 2022-23 season, elite hockey sense, and then he came back and just was a powerful skater and looked tremendous coming back. Going to the University of Michigan.
So maybe this is our chance to get into the Great Clips inbox. We've got 5 of us here. If you've got any questions or comments for us, you can direct them to Dean Kent Gold or either of the Ryans here. But again, don't be wasting your time, Dino.
It's a Ryan sandwich is what we've got here. we're the meat in the delicious Ryan sandwich.
It's a meaty sandwich on rye. That's what we know. Yes.
Rye whiskey.
It's
that too.
It's the kind of sandwich where every part of the sandwich is white bread.
And thanks to our sponsors, Origin Malting and Brewing.
We told you about Great Clips off the top of the show. I don't need to do the read one more time, but let's get to some questions here.
The app.
Get the app for sure.
Yeah, if you don't have the Great Clips app, what are you doing? You get the app, you go on there, you turn on your location. Oh, look at all these Great Clips. Biggest hair salon in North America. In North America. It's like, oh, look, there's one. And it tells me how long the wait time is at each one. And I could just click on here and I'm already in line. And if I get the ready next text alert, it'll tell me, hey, stupid, you're 15 minutes out. Time to sashay yourself over to that Great Clips. Great Clips is going to be great. Get the app.
Okay. Question. Fire it in there. What do we got? Okay. Who are we hoping for? Let's go around the horn here. Sadly off the board.
I'd love if they get Tige at 28.
Don't know how they could do it, but I would like it too.
There's no rule saying you can't draft Jade Iginla.
I don't know that Jade's.
I think there might be some rules. I'm not sure.
Good luck. Yeah.
How old is Jade?
She's 20. She's still.
Okay,
she's age eligible.
Yeah, okay. All right. Age eligible. That's fine. Don't know that's going to happen, but all right. Is there a pet sort of favorite pick that Kent or Mike that you have at 28?
We talk about like Muse, Basha. Who else is out there? Green Tree still on the board, which is very surprising.
What about Mustard? Because I do like Mustard.
Colonel?
John Mustard.
Right? Like if you draft a guy like Mustard.
I'm going to like that a lot. Yeah.
He goes with everything.
He goes
and then
right?
if he doesn't make the team, we can ask Craig, why'd you cut Mustard?
Yeah, why'd you cut the
great.
mustard?
I couldn't have cut the mustard, yeah.
Oh, if I had a shovel right now, we'd all be getting it. A ting, ting, ting. It'd just be
if we're going to do Baloney Fest, we need mustard on the squad for sure.
I mean, for me, I know you said it was a question for the other guys. We're so deep into it here to pretend that there's a name that
Well, there's just certain guys that you might dream on. I know, Pike, you'd have some that you really like. Hage was one we just talked about. You're 7 picks away from him getting to you there. He's gone now, but there's certain guys you can dream of. I know there's the 6'7" center that plays at St. Augustine College, north of Toronto, is really intrigued a lot of people off to Boston College next year. 2 points a game in the AAA 18 league, and in their collegiate prep school league, he was well over a point a game. There's certain types of players you can covet that come around at 28.
I mean, the other Norwegian kid, Steen Solberg, has been a big riser this year. And the Flames got a toolsy, offensive-minded right shot D, so why not complete the set?
Don't mind that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of defensemen who I like, quite frankly. I mean, I know they obviously got one already, but I like Solberg, I like EJ Emery, I like Jesse Pulkkinen, who is a re-entry, but had really good production in the Finnish U20 league this past season and played a bit in the Liga too. Now, obviously, him being 19, you would kind of hope so, but there are a lot of people who think he could be a late first-round pick. There are a lot of people who think he should be a high second-round pick, but one of those three defensemen, the forward crop is kind of thinning out a little bit. I like Andrew Basha. I like Teddy Stiga, but it's hard to say at this point who the best player available is because everybody has different lists.
Yeah, no question.
And just looking, if you wanted to get specific with centers, oddly enough, John Mustard would fall into that category. But there's kind of been a run. Luchanko went earlier, obviously. Sasha Boisvert goes. Because I just feel like still the Flames feel like they've sure got a lot of guys who are playing center that maybe are more natural.
I agree entirely. You look at the center depth that you like hardcore. I'm an actually center that are NHLers. They have 2. It's Kadri and Backlund. They're both in their mid-30s. They don't have a center in the pipeline that I think you can say will be a top 3 center in the NHL. They have a desperate, glaring need for center to the point where they played Sharangovich there out of position this year.
How many centers do they have right now who have played a full year as a professional at center? Here's the list: Kadri, Backlund, Rooney.
Yeah, and Rooney to me is quad A. Like, I don't know that he makes a cup contending team as their 4th line center. Like, they have 2 centers, guys. They need centers.
Yeah.
One other guy who I like is Marek Vanacker. Sorry, I just he's really interesting because he's a relatively late birthday in April, and he played on a Brantford team this past season that was okay, but not great. He led them in scoring by a lot. He had 37 goals, I think, 36 goals, 82 points in 68 games. That's a full 16 points more than anybody else. So that's kind of the profile that you're kind of hoping for in the late first, but again, could go anyway.
Yeah, and the guy I mentioned, I didn't even mention his name, silly. Dean Letourneau is the kid at prep school who's 6'7", tools for days, like Brian Boyle, but maybe a little more upside. There's your middle 6 centerman who's huge and has some nice offensive touch. And as I said, off to BC next year, that this is a very intriguing project already at 215 pounds.
And when you have 9 picks in a draft and you've already taken your high offensive ceiling defenseman, maybe you can roll the dice on a project guy like that. Like he might not be there away, but
I'm getting Mark Jankowski flashbacks. That's right.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's a bit of a project. He's out of high school, but he's going to college.
Listen,
so big.
Do we need to get the big and local Venn diagram, because he's big but he's not local, and if we're going there, Zane Parekh is neither big nor local. He's not small.
Yeah. And yeah, like that. It screams Jankowski. It's prep school. Most people haven't heard of St. Augustine College, even though I believe was that not where
St. Andrews.
Thank you, St. Andrews. So Sack. Sorry, that's my bad. And then last year, was it not? Didn't the kid that played? They drafted a Penticton in the 3rd round. He played there the year prior. Yeah, Adar Suniev. So
UMass freshman Adar Suniev.
Yeah, so they're starting to churn out some players there. That's one of the more highly touted academies in the country. But yeah, like the Jankowski one is just next level crazy because no one even knew there was high school hockey in Quebec. Like this is an established program with guys that have been drafted the last few years and more coming.
I only really care about Dean Letourneau if there's a fun story about someone driving through a snowstorm, whiteout snow, getting turned around. We need a foundational myth about the player. I mean, he's very good. He's big, and he's the kind of guy that scouts late mid-season were starting to go like, have you heard about this big guy out of Ontario? He's amazing. So there's with the comparisons to Jankowski, I think are very tongue in cheek, not meant to disparage the player, but you can't ignore the similarities.
Okay.
Boy, off the board here for Nashville.
Here they go.
They take
Who do we get?
Igor Surin, who is ranked 22nd in European skaters in the final
Yeah.
ranking.
Wow.
He had an
Igor
extremely good playoff
Yeah.
in the MHL.
Is that what it
That
is?
was-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Because he flashed in some way, shape, or form. He was 20th at the he actually was 20th in central scouting among international players, and then fell to 22. 6'1", 197, a center with Yaroslavl. So I'm not sure if anyone's keeping track. Are we on a run of centers here? It feels like
A bit.
the
Yeah.
center pool is getting a
Luchanko,
little thin.
Helenius,
On,
Page, and you said it's Surin?
Yeah,
Igor Surin on the
Really-
blended consensus list. He's 35th, just outside the first round. He is a first rounder on probably about a third of the rankings. Peaked at 19th by Corey Proman. Second rounder with everybody else, but he's sort of kind of a late 20s guy, sort of in that ledge. So it's kind of a reach though compared to the rest.
And I'd say this: if you had these Russian players going to the U18s and being eligible to play in World Juniors, and you could see these guys more, I kind of think this is baked into some of these Russian guys' lower rankings because scouts are just weary. They haven't seen enough. It's a little bit of video, not enough eyeball. Don't get to see him against the type of competition you want to see, which would be the Americans, the Canadians, the Finns, the Swedes. Russians are tough to evaluate because of that. NHL league is just such an absolute Wild West. Some teams are brutal, some teams are loaded. It's a tough league to evaluate in. And if this guy could have gone to some international tournaments, you'd probably feel more comfortable putting him I guess where Nashville has him here.
This to me is a full instance of just picking for birthday as a big part of it because he's an August birthday. And
So one of the
when you
youngest
get-
guys available.
Yeah, when you get a guy like that who not only has sort of his profile wherein he's a bit feisty, he had over 100 penalty minutes in the MHL this year, in addition to being over a point per game. It reminds me of when Nashville picked Zachary Leroux, a very similar type of sort of piss and vinegar type player. So it'll be interesting to see. Barry Trotz is kind of putting a stamp on this, but
Yeah.
it's an interesting pick.
Should we get to another question here, Dino? Is that a good idea?
Can I ask a question in the Great Clips
Yeah, let's go.
inbox
Yeah,
of the
Let's
crew?
do it.
Yeah, go.
Just upon my perusal today on social, the talk out there of the Flames talking about a Nazem Kadri deal.
Mm.
What's our thoughts? I don't know if it's necessarily the appetite. Does anyone have the appetite? More about the likelihood and what possible fit exists where a trade makes sense for the Flames. I think if you eat enough money and whatever, you can maybe make it appetizing for some other teams. But I just wonder how do we see this trade coming to fruition?
I'll go first. I think
Of course you will. Of course you will. You can't help yourself.
I had
four other fucking guys, and you got to jump. Go ahead. I'll go first. I'll go first. Well, here's the thing.
Chewing my arm off to
Let
get
me tell you.
first in line. If you're looking at where they are in their life cycle, we understand that Nazem Kadri, the reason he signed in Calgary, what you brought him in to do, and when he's going to seriously decline. This does not match what this team is trying to do. We know that. If there's any sort of way you can get out from under the remaining $35 million, you absolutely do it. This is a no-brainer for the Calgary Flames. The challenge is for me trying to find another team that wants to pay this guy until he's 39. I just don't see that. 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. Okay, so he's almost 39. Like, which team is itching for a half decade of mid-30 Nazem Kadri?
So, that's the
Toronto.
question, right?
Yeah.
So we get
No,
so
not
what?
Toronto.
So find the fit, right?
I can't. I don't think there's a GM that's done. It's 5 years that carries you to almost 40. What are we talking
Something's
about?
happening here. I think
the
there might be
NHL, man.
I think there might
Yeah,
be
it
a
looks
trade
like-
going down. Toronto's on the
Trees
call.
working
really?
through.
Yeah.
They got the
really?
guys in suits. The guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's Nazem
Kadri,
Kadri for
this is-
first. Wow.
Kadri getting traded right now.
Someone made the
Guys-
joke today. They were saying, "Oh yeah, like get Tavares out of here. He's washed. He's 33." Same
No.
people. Go get Nazem Kadri. He's 33.
I just saw David Ludwig walking away. He's Utah's assistant GM, so that would be interesting if something happens there. But
Toronto
Tree
needs
doesn't-
D and D in a bad way.
and Tree's not getting up.
Interesting.
Trade alert. Trade
Here
alert.
it comes.
Yeah, there it is.
All right. Well, there's what. Give
All
us-
right,
give us the heads up
predictions.
I think
Is it
Boom's
23
a
to
little bit ahead.
Anaheim.
To Anaheim.
23 to Anaheim.
They have 31.
for 31 and 58.
So Tree's going to get some more picks here. And this is the part of the draft where this feels like the Connor Zary draft year thing where he just kept sliding back because he's like, these guys are all in the same box here. We're now just, everyone's list is different. I'll slide back and get the guy I like anyway.
Huh. Interesting. I wonder what Anaheim's
So
doing
Anaheim, is this just easy enough to, if they have a plethora of picks and they move up, or is there some, I always wonder if it's that wide open, who do they, hey, we'll find out.
Well, you like a guy, right?
The Ducks are on the clock. Okay. Someone who isn't Pinder, talk about potential Kadri.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Before I do, my prediction is this is going to be Solberg to Anaheim. But with Kadri, it makes sense. You bring in a guy who at the time you thought he was signing up to be part of a contending team, and he's 2 years into this contract. And quite frankly, $7 million for what Nazem Kadri brings, I don't think is excessive. I think if Kadri was a free agent today, you might see a team give him 5 years at $7 million. You might even see a team give him more. So it would be really interesting to see, because I think if you're looking, we've seen 2 years ago in the blueprint of how a team builds, Kadri is kind of an ideal number 2 center if you want to win the Stanley Cup.
So give us a team if it makes sense, because you're making a compelling case. Give us a team that would do it.
I would love to see Colorado go for him. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. They've got a whole lot of unknowns, but who knows? I mean, they did get Casey Middlestat, but is he a center? Is he a winger? I don't know. Honestly, Toronto kind of makes sense, but they don't have the cap. That's the tough reality of it.
That's the whole thing. It's the whole thing is the contract. That's the problem for moving them. It's not the player.
Exactly.
He's better than a lot of teams' second line center. It's not that. It's a half decade.
All right.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Boston makes a lot of sense, but I think they're going to go for Elias Lindholm. It's you can't really know without more coming out, and there hasn't really been a whole lot coming out because it's all kind of speculative at this point about even if the Flames will even be willing to trade him. So who knows? But it just makes a lot of sense purely from an asset standpoint.
Kent,
for the
what
Flames,
do you see?
for sure.
I mean, I think anyone over 25 on this roster should be auctioned off aggressively.
Yes.
So if you find a taker who's going to give you something for Kadri, I think you should do it. I mean, Pinder's point is well taken, though. Like, who can do that right now, given the cap? Is there somebody who's like, and they might have to give you a bad contract back in order to make it happen. So does that make it worth it for Calgary? That's the questions. But they should be tendering people out like Kadri and saying, he's available. What can you give us for him?
Pike?
Yeah, I'll say this. One, Colorado has $10.5 million in cap space, and they need to.
Sorry, Pike.
They have 10 spots to fill.
What's going on, Mikey?
Solberg is the pick. Look at this freaking guy.
There's been a guy in the chat who's been kind of ripping me this whole stream, and he was saying,
fuck him.
He hoped I was wrong, so I would shut up. Maybe you should shut up, my friend.
That's right. Maybe you should shut up. Yeah.
There you go.
And all I'm gonna say is we'll send you his personal email for a donation to the Ryan Pinder Retirement Fund. I think for the problem with like a lot of the ones, there's a couple of things. One, if you take Craig at face value on the culture thing, there's a handful of guys you really want to have around to establish how you need to play as a Calgary Flame, and I'd probably put Kadri amongst that list.
You wouldn't have a year ago, but you would after this season.
Especially like I'll give. I'm willing to give him a bit of a pass on year one based on just the cup hangover and the physical toll took on his body. The last year, I think he's been everything you'd hope he would be, especially with the young guys. So I think
go ahead.
And the other thing is just it's I think for him it's basically, do you want to be here? Because if he wants to be here, he could be a really important piece for them. And he's a guy that he can. Backlund's 35. At some point, Backlund's game will fall off a cliff at some level. So you kind of need to have some veteran guys to insulate your kids, especially considering right now we don't think they have a third center in the organization.
Yeah, we just talked about it.
So if you're going to be teaching Zari, Honzik, whoever, you kind of need to have some NHL centers to do that. And you also can't have the team get blown out every night, and having Kadri into the team kind of keeps you afloat.
I mean, you could strip it right bare and have guys that aren't NHLers playing in the NHL, but that's probably not the best course of action. I just want to pick up on one thing that Gold said there, and I'm curious. Cap goes up, percentage of cap, that all changes every year.
Yep.
Is it far-fetched to think someone would sign him to a 5-year, $7 million per deal, July 1?
I'm trying to think of someone his age that's got a deal like that. I haven't seen it in the
Pavelski.
last few years. 3 years, not 5.
Yeah, but what was his AAV and how much
But
older?
took him
was he?
to the
No,
same
but I'm
age,
just saying 5
ballpark.
years. I haven't seen a 34-year-old get signed to a 5-year deal. I'm
But
trying to think.
you don't tend to see these types of guys become available at this specific age. I mean, with Pavelski, how old was he? 36.
Yeah, it's not far off. And it was a 3-year
that's
deal.
2 extra years. So if he's 34.
No, but so again,
He's a
there are
mutant.
players that are good players at this point, but you're betting against aging curves. Teams are smarter than they used to be.
That is
Who
true.
doesn't think there's massive decline coming in the next 5 years for Nazem Kadri? Please raise your hand.
Another trade, man. I'll jump in quick. 24 goes to
Cool.
Utah. So
There's the
Utah is now
conversation
on
you
the
saw. Yeah.
for 38 and
Colorado.
71.
Mike, you want to
Ooh.
forecast the
I-
pick here? To,
But
Well,
yeah, Mike, call
Yeah,
it.
Mike, who are they taking?
I had a
these are
feeling
your
Utah-
boys.
I had a feeling Utah was going to get involved when I saw Ludwig up by the registry, but I don't really know. They need a defenseman. This is going to be EJ Emery. I almost guarantee it.
Okay.
Because
All
I
right.
mean, if
Use
you
it-
get this,
Utah
Okay,
loves.
If you get it wrong, that guy in the chat gets to rip
Yeah,
you again. We take
that's
it all
the
back.
thing,
Well,
right?
and to be
So-
fair, this is Mike's wheelhouse. He's been the biggest Coyotes honk outside of it, maybe even in the
That
state
is
of Arizona. He's been
I-
all over
Coyote
this
lover.
team. Yeah.
This
He
guy-
has a
Enough tweeting about the Coyotes.
What the hell's that all about?
That's
Yeah.
enough.
Jeez.
now
I know,
he's going to
it's
start tweeting about the
embarrassing.
Oilers.
no,
Good news is he now gets to-
Jason Doyle.
the Okotoks Oilers. The Okotoks Oilers. They're a good team.
Emery would be
This-
interesting. That's a guy we've talked about with the 28 hole for the Flames.
I really
Brett
got
had
to think.
some anecdotes there. Rare.
I just saw
Brett
somebody in
knowing
the
a
chat.
drafted player.
Just by the way, I saw somebody in the chat saying, "Is there a retention rule that can kick in only for the first couple of years?" No, it's got to be.
No.
No, it's all
No,
of it.
it's uniform. If you hold
Yeah.
any money, it stays for the entirety of the contract.
Yeah,
You
so
can't just
wanted
eat
to-
half for 1 year or something like that.
Just
And
wanted
if
to
we're
address
talking
that.
about retaining salary here now, that deal becomes so much more complicated when there's 5
Yeah.
years left on a guy. And when you guys get over 35, there's also punishment for retirement and weird things like that.
And you gotta have those retention slots. You get 3 of them a year, but that
That's
doesn't
a
mean you can
long
make
time.
that one trade would take up one of them for all 5 years.
Correct.
Which is
yeah.
a lot.
It's a complicated deal. I do believe that Kadri would upgrade a lot of teams, and I do believe he's worth 7. It's just the term. That is the great hang up for I think GMs.
And to add some context, if let's say by 2027, 28, he's hit the age curve has hit him, and you buy him out. Retained salary transactions also have a split buyout. So
Oh yeah, that could cost you.
so you'd probably want to avoid that if you can for longer term deals.
Now, is he signing bonus heavy or is he uniformly paid? Because if he's a
Uh,
tougher buyout, that makes it even a harder trade. to
He
make.
has $6 million left in signing bonus money over the last 5 years of deal.
Yeah,
So it's
not
mostly
an
salary.
easy buyout, but it's not
Yeah,
impossible.
we saw that happen with Ekman Larson when Vancouver bought him out. Arizona.
Well, that's a
and
really
now
tricky
Utah.
one.
Yeah, that was, and they didn't even retain all that much. It was only about 12%, but
Yeah, they brought him down from
Yeah,
8 to like 6.1 or something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm getting short for being slow drinkers in the chat.
I'm empty here. I got to go get one here.
Yeah, go get
Yeah,
one.
Yeah,
actually,
Go ahead.
I don't have a
I gotta-
drink.
I got to get another caffeine-free
finished
diet.
it.
Yeah,
Coke.
get another caffeine free, whatever. It's
No,
working.
no.
Solberg, go do what you need to do. So, Pike, get me up to speed. What did he do? Did he go and buy a bucket of beer, or because he disappeared?
He literally yeah he went downstairs. And then he emerged with beers for RJ and I. So
Well,
we were saying, Dean, what the hell? We thought there'd be beer, and he provided. So I have no complaints.
he's not completely useless. Mostly, but not completely. All right, so
When it comes to beer,
Solberg goes
boys.
to Solberg goes to Anaheim, and you've got Emery here.
I would not be surprised. It makes sense because they need a right shot defenseman.
And
Really
they went
badly.
forward with Iginla, as we
They
know.
went forward with Tige, and they love their big boys. They got Dmitry
If you-
Simashev last year.
Mhm.
If you call this, you have to do the rest of the show by yourself.
And push-ups.
It'll just be you. Just
Yeah,
go-
we'll just turn
go.
our microphones off.
We'll
and
go.
they'll just all drink.
Yeah, exactly. Just do gold.
Cole Baudouin.
Oh,
Ah,
Baudouin.
man.
There you go. You're lucky.
It's
You're
all his
lucky.
credibility.
Okay,
just like that.
we should drop Gould from the
This
stream
guy's
and add
not so
the
friggin'
add the
smart.
chirper from the comments. We'll see. We'll let him prognosticate some picks.
These
for a little
guys don't know what they're talking about. I got lucky
Idiots.
on that one.
I don't love that for Utah. I don't love it, but it's whatever.
24th overall.
What do we know about Baudouin?
He's kind of a 2-3 type center if he pans out.
Another
It's
center.
it's okay, but it's not the pick that I would have made.
31 on the consensus rankings, mostly late first, early second on the list. His peak was on.
I love the
Mike's
audio.
done.
The audio cut out just as.
At least we
Gold
can still
taking-
see him.
Taking a sip of that delicious
I don't even
caffeine-free
think Pike has
Coke
noticed.
Zero.
Hey, you know what? It's good. It's good. It was on
No, it's
sale at
not.
Safeway
It's
today.
not. No,
It's
It
good.
can't
It's not.
be. It's got no caffeine in it.
it's awful. That's terrible.
Hey, I get
So
it in
it's-
the Wendy's
So no
machines, they
coffee,
got it
no
with vanilla.
caffeine, no caffeinated beverages ever.
No, I try not to.
I don't think Pike knows that we can't hear him.
He's
He
just hanging out.
absolutely doesn't know. He's
Yeah.
it says here on total prospects say that Baudouin has he has size 13 feet, and guys, you know what that means. So he's gonna really pan out.
Big skates.
Oh man.
You guys suck.
Oh hi, Pike.
It's
Pike,
okay,
you know what?
Pike.
Valid
Real quick,
points by
Dino.
you. Yeah.
You mentioned the Colorado to Utah swap there. What did Colorado get back? Was it just more picks? I
38 and
don't-
71.
Thank you. Okay.
So it's
Interesting.
Interesting.
24.
Really
I think
interesting.
that's what it was.
So someone went from 38 to 24, and all they had to do was throw in a third. Is that what I'm hearing? So if the Flames have a guy they like right now, it wouldn't cost much to move up at this point.
Ryan,
just don't
it's
know.
possible I was
4
wrong
point-
about
Okay. Well, they're 4 picks out right now. Is I guess that's the undisputable fact.
Yeah.
Boston, LA, Carolina, Calgary.
I feel like at this point, the best case scenario is Calgary gets a really good winger. And I don't see a whole lot of good centers left. And it just comes back to Basha and Vanacker for me. But we'll see.
Bash is a great story, guys. Glen Lake, his old man owns the Garrison, which is a pub blocks from our
Ooh.
studio. And he played a really gritty checking role as a 16-year-old on this Medicine Hat Club, but has really shown some nice flashes of offense. And that's a really fun team to watch. They have Lindstrom, and then, of course, the megastud Gavin McKenna, who's likely to be the first overall pick in 2026. Give us some more on Basha.
I really like Bash in my viewings of him. I don't know if he has the highest skill ceiling, but he's gonna outwork pretty much anybody on the ice with him. And like he's a guy that I think a lot of scouts showed up to scout Caden Lindstrom and came away going, yeah, Lindstrom was as good as we thought, but what the hell is this Basha kid? You always notice him.
Mhm.
And like he's one of those guys that, you know, he does so many little things well. Like he's not flashy, he's not super high skill ceiling, but there's so many things he does well that by the end of a game watching him, you have like a half dozen, you know, bullet points saying, hey, that's kind of cool. Oh, that's kind of I think he's the kind of player that NHL coaches will really like.
I like him. I wouldn't be disappointed if they draft him. My only concern is when you get these guys who are playing with these generational
Greg
players.
Nemeth? You mean like
Yeah,
Greg Nemeth?
That's
Just,
kind of well, you know, more recently I'm kind of thinking like Dmitry Zavgorodny playing with
Sure.
Alexei Lafreniere. It's that
Yeah,
sort of
that's a good
that
one.
sort of thing.
I would think that the difference here, though, is that this is a guy that doesn't have to be a point producer to be successful. When you
Sure.
drafted a Nemeth or a Zavgorodny, you're probably trying to look for offense. He's proven at a 16-year-old age that he could be a good checking player. And Pike talked about the motor. Like, I feel like that's a guy where if there isn't offense, you still, oh boy, he'd be a great third, fourth liner, which isn't sexy in the first round, but it's an NHL player. This is the range where you can swing and absolutely miss and not have an NHLer now.
This is where I'm
Yep.
thinking, you know, if it comes down to Basha or a guy like EJ Emery, and all things being equal, and I'm just thinking, you know, if you're looking at, you hope a guy is a second, third line winger, or if you hope a guy ends up being a second pair defenseman, I kind of might lean the defenseman, but
I agree.
it's so difficult. And with Emery, the lack of offense is a real concern, and it's something that you can't overstate. He can skate, but it's always going to be a risk. Whereas with Basha, you might be more comfortable with that, but it's just hard.
Some other guys off the central scouting, just kind of looking because with Boisvert going, Liam Greentree
Yeah.
out of
Greentree's a big
Windsor,
one. Yep.
he's at 14. This is a familiar name for Flames fans. Ryder Ritchie Byron
Son of.
Ritchie's kid is in there, and there's a couple names that you've thrown out there as well. Pinder, you're
Yeah, I like the
Dean
Dean Letourneau's an
and-
interesting project/prospect, and will be thrown right in against men-ish characters at Boston College. You can kind of dream on certain body types, and maybe they're never players, but a 6'7" center that's putting up offense, that's really, even if the offense fades away, that's a nightmare matchup potentially. We'll see.
Yeah, Ryder Ritchie played with Iginla, I believe, or he was who you were talking about, right?
Ryder Ritchie, Prince Albert, I think.
Or no, but at the Rink Academy.
Sure, yeah.
I called a few of their games together back when they were playing there. They very interesting player. Going back to Greentree though, he's never been a player who I focused on all that much because I just wasn't interested in the Flames taking him at 9. But the fact that he's falling this far.
Yeah, this is a big slide.
I've talked, on this show already about how players on bad teams who put up numbers way above anybody else on that team are kind of an interesting value bet. And when you look at Windsor this past year, they were awful, like really, really bad. And he had 36 goals, 90 points. His second on the team, 66 points. I mean, it's a huge, huge gap. Like this is the guy who's being elevated by his line mates.
And just for clarity, when we're talking about Ryder Ritchie, I know people, there's a hot poop is very concerned. No more Ritchies, please. This is not Nick Ritchie. This is totally different. I understand why
they can
a cold sweat. I get it.
You got to think of the
Brett
convenience
Ritchie.
though. They can just give the equipment staff you don't have to create new, like they can be using the same gloves and stuff. It's perfect.
Speaking of names, has everybody already forgotten about Kyle Greentree? I mean, come on. There's
Who would forget Kyle
good
Greentree?
farmhand. He actually went on to have a really good AHL career outside of the Flames.
He played for the Flames. He played a few games with the Flames. There you go.
A few, yes.
Yeah, he was. I just remember he was big and not much else.
Liam Greentree's big too, though. Right?
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's
better
6'3".
junior numbers for sure. 211.
Boston still on the board, Dino, or is that where we're at here at 25? 3 picks away?
At the podium.
Okay, let us know when you know.
Yeah, Sweeney's talking now. This is interesting. I have no idea what Boston's going to do.
Damn it, Mike.
No idea.
We're relying on you.
There's Letourneau, the big center.
Letourneau.
There you go.
So he'll go Boston College to the Bruins organization. That's interesting. Right under their nose next year.
Wow.
From BC to the Bees.
I'll be honest. I'm glad the Flames didn't take him. I was. I mean,
at 28, I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah. And he might go on to be a great player, but just the value bet with taking a kid out of prep school in the first round, it's really tough.
I don't know what the audience would be for it, but I would pay to watch like a live stream of the draft with just, not necessarily Mike, but a couple drunk guys just ripping all the kids. Like, oh man, he could be turning to be good, but I think he might suck.
And away from that
that's now? What this could be right now.
Like, yeah, 20 to 32.
Hey, all I know is, guys, expansion is going to make this draft longer and longer. So in a year or two, we might just be like, just well into it by like the 30s or 40s.
Yeah, there's us morphing into Stadler and Waldorf already, and then there's the end of the first round. This is just getting nasty, Dean.
I thought we already you guys are Stadler and Waldorf. I'm Beaker. I believe that we established that Kent is Dr. Bunsen Honeydew, and I don't remember which Muppet we decided on
Mike's
for
Kermit,
Mike.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm Kermit.
Mike could be Kermit. He's got big Kermit energy. That might be it.
There's some Kermit energy there.
Yeah.
Hi hole.
Yeah.
There's no Miss Piggy, so we're fine. Yeah.
And Pinder could be Animal.
I could be Animal. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can see it.
Fancy myself more like Rizzo the Rat or something. I don't know. Kermit's kind of weird.
We've all watched the Muppet Show.
Yeah, it's quality
RJ
program.
has no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Is this video
game?
Not a Disney
product. Mike knows the Muppet Show. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Actually, it is on Disney Plus.
The movies. There were new movies that came out like when I was a kid, when I was like 11. The ones with Amy Adams.
That's right.
It's not the same.
The new
Muppets. It's not the same.
The new Muppet movies. Yeah.
No, RJ could be who's the producer, the guy who like runs the show?
That's Scooter. Scooter runs the show.
Pike.
That's right. There you go.
Wow.
Yeah,
learning some things today.
That's
Pike coming through. Back up. Benson Honeydew. We got a
Dr.
Benson.
Bunsen Honeydew.
Dr. Bunsen Honeydew.
What about the Swedish chef? Is that does that fall in
Borsky
anywhere?
Borsky? You were allowed to
Oh,
do
that's,
that, or is that slandering the Swedes too much?
Hey, I think the Swedish chef is a positive role model for people.
He's very positive indeed.
There's been a request. I'm not sure. We do have a little bit of downtime here. Pinder needs to do his bubbles. Is there a chance we can get a bubbles impression?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Okay, yeah, all right.
I forget how many questions we end up doing in the
You
Great
gotta-
Clips
Do you need a topic? Do you want a topic for bubbles before?
Well,
we get
yeah,
into
like
it?
is Bubbles at the podium with Gary?
Well,
Is
you know what?
Bubbles making the pick?
Bubbles
What are
is
we doing here?
upset. Bubbles is upset that Iginla went to Utah and wasn't there for the Flames.
Boys, frickin' Tej, stupid Utah Hockey Club. He's right there, a couple picks away. Ricky. I don't like it.
Oh man.
You're a little raspy.
It's not my best. He's steamed, though,
Pretty
right? He's
good.
flustered.
Yeah. What
Oh,
kind of
pretty
beer
good.
have you got there? What kind of?
This is a Modelo Especial.
Oh,
Yeah,
of
the
course.
Pacificos,
it's not
Coronas,
strong
and
enough.
Especials. Yeah.
Yeah, not a Budweiser.
Not an Origin, more importantly. That's what we really wish we had. If we
Well,
had
I mean,
Triple B.
That was too good. So who's next?
Oh,
It's, 20
Mexicano.
That's the
we're
Kings.
waiting on Montreal.
No, it's the Kings,
Because Montreal traded out of this spot with LA. LA
Oh,
moved
right.
back to this pick. It was Montreal's. It was originally Winnipeg's, and it went to them in the Monahan swap. Then Montreal moves up and sends it to LA. There we are.
Sportsnet is showing a graphic right now. The tallest forwards drafted since the 70s, and
Where's
Letourneau
Letourneau,
is
my
at the
boy?
top of the. There's like Tage Thompson,
number one.
6'6". It's like you're
Yeah.
the tallest galoot that's ever been taken in the first round.
I'm honestly
Yeah.
surprised. I'm surprised at how good the quality of that list is. Like there were three of those players of the four who were selected before turned out to be pretty good NHL players. And then
Where
they
was
were all
Brian
successful.
Boyle? Was he second
Listen.
rounder? Was he undrafted? What
It
happened?
was Marty Hansel, it was Nick Bukestad, and
Hansel,
the
that
other
big,
one,
wow.
Marty McCarron was in there, and I forget
So
who the other
hot
one
right now.
was.
Michael McCarron.
Is it forwards only?
Yeah, only forwards.
Yeah.
Was Burns drafted as a forward or a defenseman?
No,
He was a defense. Or
Defenseman.
no,
He moved in
yeah,
Minnesota. Yeah.
We switched from
and Tage
forward
Thompson.
to
Tage
defense.
Thompson was the other one,
yeah.
and Tage
Tage-
is
I
amazing.
don't. That
Now he
list
is,
isn't that impressive, honestly.
I don't know. Tage is
Sorry,
very good.
no.
I think
Thompson's good.
Hansel was a number
Hansel.
2 center for a long time.
He was okay. Yeah.
Coyote
It's
lover.
Okay.
He was good. He
Philip
was good.
Forsberg's good too, right?
Yeah. And
So
Bukestad's good.
Bukestad's good. Yeah, that's
He had
fine.
20 goals this year.
So are we?
No.
Are we kind of? We're circling around Green Tree. Is that who?
Or
Could be
Abasha?
Green
Yeah.
Tree.
Those are
Ah,
fun
yeah.
names.
Because
And let's not. Hey,
there's two more
let's
than
not-
Calgary.
don't forget the mustard. All right, man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Just
I
for
will
Let's not
say-
forget the mustard.
just
There are two
strictly
guys-
for entertainment value. We need mustard. You
I'm
can't
so
rebuild
excited.
without mustard. Yeah.
Just want to give a shout out to two players who I like for tomorrow, unless we're going to do that later.
Well, how about the
Oh,
Kings right
Jesus.
now?
Yeah,
Well,
that's-
okay, sure. I guess the pick is in.
How about tomorrow? You tell us about your tomorrow picks.
Are we doing a
just
show
kidding.
tomorrow?
Yeah, I hear you are. Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Gold
Okay.
forecast the third round live on FlamesNation.
Yeah, I'll just say every pick will be EJ Emery, and then none of them. I'll just go over 160.
LA, then Carolina, then Calgary. 3 picks away. There we are.
Liam Greentree to the Kings. He gone.
Ah,
All right. Amongst the
the way it
names,
goes.
I didn't
amongst
like
the
him
names
anyway.
still remaining on the consensus list, Igor Chernyshov,
Mm-hmm.
Teddy Stiga, Andrew Basha, EJ Emery, Nikita Artemanov.
And
Emery
Yeah.
was, I mentioned it, Dino, like this was one of the rare draft eligible humans that Rhett Warner had heard of. He must have like bumped into his father or something. It was wild. But he actually had some insights
read
on
on
the
the
kid.
stream tonight too. So
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I got to
for those.
think
4
there was a
seconds.
couple frames. But a guy that apparently has come leaps and bounds in this last year at the U.S. National Development Team program, and not a lot of offense, stay-at-home guy, but big physical defenseman. All right.
Do we all have a beverage? I don't. Sorry. Does anybody have any more on EJ Emery?
Yeah, let's.
Everyone
Yeah,
has a
well-
beverage.
I do have a beverage.
Okay, so somebody in the chat, Alberta Matt, says, "Why has nobody said anything about the Panthers winning the cup?" I think we should probably all salute our
Yeah.
Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
I'll toast to that.
For just an
Happy with
unbelievable run to the championship. Here's to you guys.
A lot of pressure being Canada's team too, but they found a way, and I am eagerly anticipating the new Matthew Tkachuk
All those
trophy
Canadian
and
boys, yeah.
statue
Did,
outside the new dome in 3 years.
And who else saw that video of Bennett and Tkachuk taking a guy's hat
Pouring
off,
the-
like pouring beer? And who else
2
immediately
stories
had
down, yeah.
who else immediately thought to themselves, well, they learned those skills at Stampede.
Yeah.
Good translation of skills.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
I wasn't
true.
sure.
Stampede would be probably the best training ground for a cup celebration. If you can do 10
why they go
days,
to, that's why they go to the Stampede at development camp. That's what they're
you-
teaching them from
they're
an early
teaching.
age.
It's gonna get
Those
them
are,
young. Okay.
sharp, those are sharp jerseys. The Kings,
They are good.
Yeah, that's a nice.
they're good.
And
White stripes a little big, but other than that,
They are big. They made them a lot bigger. Like they
So
kind
the
of
big
take up the bottom quarter of the jersey.
it really does. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're a referee lying down or something.
Yeah.
One of Gold's sneaky, massive areas of knowledge, and everyone has these. Like Pat Steinberg, for example, you can blindfold him and play any horn from all 32 rinks. He'll know exactly what your unit is. But not only is he a very unusual coyote lover, but Gold's takes on fashion and jerseys is impressively strong opinions on something that's cyclical. I really enjoy watching him tweet about fashion.
We got a trade
love
to
jerseys.
announce.
We have a trade to announce.
Oh, here we go.
Carolina, per Frank Seravalli, Canes are trading this pick to Chicago.
Oh
So
wow.
Hawks will step up for the third
Settle
time. They've
down,
already
Chicago.
taken Boisvert and Levshunov.
And
All right.
Pinder mentioned the nice trajectory that EJ Emery was on this year. Teddy Stiga is one of those guys who's also had a really good year. The Teddy Stiga just took a giant. I think folks were waiting to see who outside of like the tippity top 1 or 2 guys at the national development program would really grab hold of it this year.
Mhm.
Stiga is one of those guys that I think people saw from October to March saw a huge amount of growth. So he might be someone we see, if not at 28, very soon.
Yeah, I like Stiga a lot. I think in terms of the players, he's not a right defenseman, but in terms of the players who are available at this point in the draft, he's probably one of the best bets in turning into a top 6 forward, just in terms of the way that he plays the game. He can play center. He can play on the wing. He's just got all sorts of different tools in his arsenal. He'd be a great pick at 28.
Is there anyone who's not going to want to bolt back to the U.S. in 5 years?
That's the tough part. Tough part.
Yeah.
I
Is
mean,
there anyone
that's
from
a good question.
Lethbridge?
the thing
Hey?
with
Basha,
EJ Emery,
baby, Basha.
the thing with EJ Emery
Mhm.
is he plays for the U.S. National Development Program, but he's from BC. He's a dual citizen, so there's
Really?
maybe less of a thought there.
His,
about
his-
that,
his-
Dino?
his dad played in the CFL.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he
Milt
was a linebacker.
Stiga?
But
Milt
Anyone?
Stiga?
Milt
on.
Siegel?
That's a good line.
Milt
And,
Stiga.
On the great Hall of
And,
Famer Milt
That's
Stiga.
fucking awesome.
and come on, and Nikita Artemanov plays at Torpedo and Nivgary.
Oh, Pike, shut up. It's my
Nobody-
lap. I'm stepping on my laps here.
You're stepping on the laps.
Oh man.
Dean just turns off his cameras. I'm leaving on the high note. I can't beat that.
Good night, everybody. See you, buddies.
Oh man. Milt Stiga. That's too bad. Oh.
That's beautiful.
I'm
Who's
sorry,
the- who's
Pike. Did you have something about a player or something?
Well, I mean, Artemanov basically played in the Lethbridge of Russia. So I mean,
The Lethbridge of Russia.
What the hell is
What's
the
that?
Lethbridge
What's
of
that?
That's
Russia?
not a thing.
Pick him up.
What is it? Windy
Yeah.
and cheap booze? What are you talking
it's
about?
windy and they love wheat. Those are the
There it is.
How would you possibly know that?
can't.
Yeah.
It's called being a professional. It's called doing
That's
the work
right.
in the off season.
That's right.
And
That sounds like bullshit.
The Lethbridge of Russia, is that where Bob Hartley is coaching?
If Dr. Beaker Honeydew can't do his research on the Lethbridge of Russia, he's not worthy of the program.
okay, Ryan.
Ugh.
I've gone through the Mexican.
Yeah.
So it's been the raspberry, the Mexican, and the barn burner blonde.
Yeah.
Now it's the homegrown or back to the blonde or
It's the dealer's choice. What are you feeling? I feel like if you hit all 4 in your first 4, you're in a really good spot.
Is it caffeine free?
it's
Mike?
not. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
There was a small window where caffeinated beverages were allowed to have alcohol in this country. It was not this country, in Canada. It was quickly repealed and changed because people would not fall over and pass out. They just turned into zombies going till dawn.
Remember
all Pinders. It was no good.
They had to change
days, right?
Yeah, they had to change the recipe of Four Loko. It really changed the dynamics of Vegas trips.
Now they just got now the Panera Bread just got the lemonade that kills you. That's all that they got.
Allegedly.
Chicago here, fellas. How long does this take for them to be competitive again? I mean, I think they'll be active in free agency. It's a big market. They've got Bedard now, Levshunov. Not yet.
The tough thing is that
there we go, another one.
Yes.
I just don't know which forwards are going to sign with Chicago, and it's not because they're undesirable. It's just because the good ones all seem to kind of be gone already. Because Gensel might be going back to Carolina, from the sounds of it. Sounds like Florida's managing to keep Sam Reinhart.
Is that what you're hearing on Gensel?
Well, there's been a lot of talk today about Gensel. Okay. Well, we don't know if he's going to accept it, but that Carolina has met his asking price, so it's hard to say. But even then, most of the talk's been about Vancouver for Gensel.
A lot of talk in Vancouver. They get that deal done with Chicago the other day to get Mikheyev out of there. That opens up some cap space. It feels like they're moving heaven and earth to try to get him out there. And then you get it. I mean, that would be a really sexy forward group if you put Gensel in there with the group they already have.
I honestly don't know. You put Gensel there, and it still, to me, kind of just feels like a team with two good forwards. But
what are you talking about? JT Miller, Elias Pettersson.
Sorry. I thought you were talking about Chicago. I thought you were talking about
Chicago. Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
No.
I thought you were smoking
my kind of town.
No.
Send them Kadri. How about that?
Yeah, Vancouver.
Love Chicago. Do you know they don't put ketchup on their hot dogs?
Don't do it, Dean.
It's true.
No.
In Chicago, what?
What
they
put
could I
mustard?
possibly be setting myself up for?
Mustard and those pickle spears.
God, if they take mustard at 28,
that would be a reach. That would be a really wild reach.
Show ends immediately if they do that.
Yeah. Good night.
Are there reaches at this point? Like, really?
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
Yeah. So Flames are 2 picks away. 2 picks away. Come on, Chicago. Let's get going here. Let's get going.
What do we got?
Come on, Kyle.
Aren't they just 1 pick away? Or
well, I mean, Chicago picks them.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Chicago trades to get this pick. Don't you know who you're taking? You traded to get it, for Christ's sake.
It's true.
Up there.
Kent, while you're here, I forget. Did Tulsky ever work for the network, or do we get to claim him as an alum in front offices, or did he not really do that?
Yeah. So when NHL Numbers was still a thing and publishing stuff, he came to me and we published his study on neutral zone work. So it's like,
okay,
he was the one
counts.
who came out. It's like, yeah. So technically, yes.
Okay. So yeah,
claim him. That's awesome.
Love it.
Merrick Vanander. Got to admit,
I don't know who that is.
That's Vanacker, the guy who I like.
Oh yeah, sorry, Vanacker. He's in that.
Yeah, he's.
How do you possibly know every player in this draft? That's impossible.
It's unbelievable.
Them all.
I don't. I only know.
He likes them all.
You didn't like that. He likes everyone else.
I like Vanacker. I mean, it goes back to the production where you are far and away ahead of everybody else on your team. It's just at this point you can't pass up on that kind of value. But that's a player who I would have liked for Calgary. Yeah, he's good.
82 points in 68 games, 36 goals. That's a pretty impressive offensive total. Yeah.
And now the red team is selecting amongst those remaining everyone I mentioned before: Igor Chernyshov, Teddy Stiga, Andrew Basha, EJ Emery, Artem Manov. Dark horse for me is Alphonse Frege from Sweden, who feels like a very flamesy pick. So is potentially Dominik Badinka, who is a Czech who is playing in the Swedish league because he was really good in the Czech league and wanted some competition. I like that kind of.
There's Henry Muse, who is like a right shot defenseman who scored 61 points in 65 games in the OHL this year, right? So,
and of course, John Mustard.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Mustard. And Mustard.
Keep it on topic here, Dean.
What were we talking about?
Leave Mustard
guys?
out of this group.
I think it'll be Basha.
Yeah.
It would be interesting. Really local guy. When was the last time they drafted a
okay.
Calgary kid? Off the top of my head, I can't think.
I can tell you the last time that they picked a Calgary kid at 28 overall. It was Morgan Klimchuk.
Yeah.
Do you know who I ran into at the hotel when I was getting lunch?
Klimchuk?
Yeah, he was in line behind me getting sandwiches.
He might coach an NHL team one day.
Yeah, he's well on his way.
I was working the Hockey Alberta Challenge or Cup or whatever a couple of years ago in Red Deer, and he was there, and he's what, barely 30. Like he's
he's into the coaching thing big time, and there's a big coaching conference actually at the actual hotel we're at. So it's funny how many people are running into.
You know what'd be unbelievable though is if like 10, 12 years down the road, John Mustard is like one of the greatest centers. It's like Joe Nieuwendyk, who is like one of the best centers that this franchise has ever had.
Really setting him up for failure.
Okay, all I know is if they get John Mustard in the second round, he's gonna we basically have to get a jersey for Dean.
It'll be like, guys, the fat one was talking about mustard all night. All night I'm talking about mustard and making mustard jokes. I'm telling you, maybe he knew.
As soon as Cole Eisman was off the board, the fat guy wouldn't stop talking about mustard.
He wouldn't stop talking about mustard. Was he talking about the draft or was he hungry? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe both.
But doesn't really matter.
It'd be both. Yeah.
I'm absolutely being selfish and pulling for the second son of a guy who owns a pub in Calgary to get drafted 28th overall by the Flames, because Yakemchuk's dad, I believe, is the Black Swan down McLeod, and of course the Garrison pub.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
Milt Stiegel.
Stiga.
Oh dear.
Emery's there too. Okay.
I'll be Emery.
Where are we at? They walking up? Give us the visual.
Close forwards. We'll just keep picking defensemen. It's fine.
I hope it's Emery. I think that'd be a good pick.
No.
I know you don't like him, Kent.
No.
I like the dissension in the ranks. This is good.
Ridiculous. Yeah. No. No more defensemen. Stop it.
Kent, what if he was still there at 41?
There's a rule in the Flames hockey department where Craig is only allowed to acquire defensemen or Russians.
Or Belarusians.
Or Belarusians, yes.
We need some forwards here. Come on.
Kyle
can convert them.
is interviewing a bunch of Flames fans on TV right now.
Really quickly, do we have time for a quick chat, or are they at the podium? Where are we at? I don't have visuals on this.
Well, I mean, it depends how long you talk.
Yeah. Level of surprise, Oliver Shillington doesn't have a contract yet. Around the horn. I'm pretty high. I thought this was going to be sewn up months ago.
High.
I thought it would be like an easy putt. 6 inches.
I would give it an 8 out of 10. I don't know, but
very strange.
Yeah.
6 out of 10.
Dean?
I am surprised because not even stuff we were hearing kind of it's going to get done. There's an appetite on both sides. You hear that all the time.
Still hearing it. Yeah.
And it's not like there should be a huge discrepancy between term and dollar from both sides. Flames got all kinds of friggin' money, and how much can he really be? It's not like he's looking for $8 million. It seemed to be a deal that should be fairly easy to nail down.
Pretty automatic. Yeah.
And
do you want to play 20 plus minutes a night? Do you want to play? And I mean, it's the opportunity is unbelievable for him there, but I don't know. Maybe they're playing hardball. Seems odd.
You checked in on this situation today. What's the latest?
They're working at it. I mean, I think, again, we've discussed this in the past. There's a great deal of affection, I'd say, between player and club and vice versa because of just how everything was handled. But I also think, show me a comparable to his situation.
They got Cosentino's top forwards available, and you know who's not there?
Mustard.
There's no Mustard. All right, Craig's at the
talking about.
Greg's at the podium. Walk us through this, Dino.
He's going to put his hands on his hips, I'm sure. Oh, Todd went for the mic.
Do the hokey pokey.
Oh, he is going. Todd Button.
Oh, by the way, we had on the show yesterday.
Okay, from the Muskegon Lumberjacks.
Who is it?
Oh,
what?
A winger, something. I don't know what
a Russian winger.
Matvey.
Oh, Shirvin or Gridden.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right winger. Okay.
I'll tell you what. You tune into this podcast for the guys that really know.
Right winger.
38 goals, 83 points. That's not
look
bad.
at Gold. Gold is like what the H?
Another Russian here, boys.
Yeah.
Sure, what did I say?
What
did I say?
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
An actual right shot right winger? Is this a thing? We haven't seen this since Blair Jones.
Go Blair Jones.
No, I'm pretty sure he's left-handed. He
Okay,
is,
well,
yeah.
he's listed as a right
Yeah.
winger. God damn it! Another
He's
left
listed
shot
as a
right
right
winger.
winger, but he's left-handed.
38 goals,
Sorry,
83
man.
points in 60 games last year for the
So-
Lumberjacks.
And
That's a
committed
good
to the
not at
University
all.
of Michigan next
Is
year.
that right? Yeah.
It's not at all uncommon to see Russian wingers play their opposite sides. It's actually
Mhm.
more uncommon to see them playing on their regular side. So this is really interesting. I like that he's going to Michigan. You know, that's a good telltale sign if they're going to a good program. I don't know much about the player, but you know, he's got good size and he's got good scoring. He scores
And
a
in
lot
fairness,
of goals.
it's not really off the board. I just couldn't friggin' hear his name. I'm across the room from
Wow. You're so horned
he
up
was-
to hear Mustard's name. You didn't
I
hear
know.
it.
21 on Central
It's not
Scouting for
Mustard,
North
I
American
can't hear it.
skiers. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone is fluent in Russian, but is it possible that Gryden is the Russian word for mustard?
Here's hoping.
We'll
I
look
will
that up.
say, I will say
Oh,
this is
fucking Mike, kill me.
this is interesting because I liked Sasha Boisvert a lot as a prospect, and I thought that he would be a
Same
good
team.
fit for the Flames. Same team, and Gradin played one fewer game, scored 2 more goals, and scored 15 more points. And I believe he is younger too. And
He's a merch with
he wears number 92, which is a kick-ass number. So,
I-
Sure is.
If
Yeah,
I
Michael
may go on
Nylander.
small tangent here, how many years have we been talking about the Russia effect, the flight risk, Russia this, Russia that? Like, if you had just loaded up on Russians when everyone said not to, like, how much better of a player have you gotten the whole way through? Like, that's been the marketed efficiency, and we talked about it last week, Dean. Like, the real challenge now is American kids at college because they're not afraid to swing their leverage around.
Yeah,
Russians are
majority
showing
of
up
the
and
latest
performing.
one, right?
Yeah.
It feels like that's the and not for every team, but I'll tell you
No.
what, if Cutter Gauthier is ready to walk out on Philadelphia,
No kidding, eh?
who's
Yeah.
safe, right?
We talked
These
about
kids
Nobody.
are really
Yeah.
willing to flex what muscle they have or they don't have and just push teams. And maybe it's credit to the teams that say, you know what, fine. If you don't want to be here, we'll get you out of here. It's not necessarily because you're so talented. We have to respect your abilities. But yeah, it does not feel like the flight risk to the KHL making so
No.
much more money. It does not seem like that's
No.
at all a concern.
No, you would if you would have had, let's call it a 30% premium on every pick you'd made if you'd just gone Russians. Everyone was scared, and in hindsight, you shouldn't have been. It's interesting.
And
So
people in the chat are
Conroy-
saying, why didn't you trade down? You may not have been able to.
Well,
Because
yeah.
It's
Why doesn't
no-
every team trade up to 18 or wherever you see the ledges? Well, you can't. There's a price, and it's either makes sense or it's too expensive.
Yeah, and he led his team in scoring. Like
he didn't
by-
just lead his team in scoring. I believe he led the entire
lot.
USHL in scoring
Jeez.
last
Right.
season. And
So this
another
is- I
point,
mean,
He
he's
did.
a Dan Milstein client, and the
I was
Flames
gonna
have
say,
there
you
you
go.
a ton of Dan Milstein clients. And I
So-
believe they lead the entire league. I think he's their 10th.
So let's just quickly.
they get a group rate.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
should just be
seriously.
GM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Hey,
Collect
Dan-
7 Russians, get your 8th one free. What are we
Dan
doing here?
can't be the AGM here. He's already the AGM in Vancouver.
That's the whole thing, right? Like they're kind of pulling the whole Vancouver tact because they had a bunch of guys there and now they don't. And they're
So-
all here.
They trade to Foley, Sharangovich, Bell Russian. He comes in. The Zadorov deal was a Milstein client. He went the other way. Then they get the Lindholm deal done. Kuzmenko comes over. Is he a Milstein as well, but a Russian?
He is. He is.
They get
was. I think he
Grushnikov.
switched.
Grushnikov comes over. There's another Russian defenseman. Miramanov, Russian defenseman. They had another Bell Russian somewhere in there. Maybe it was Grushnikov that's the Bell Russian.
Solovyev.
It's just all over the place. Russians, Bell
Russia.
Russians, and Daniel Milstein clients.
Yeah,
Guys,
but-
this is a little off topic, and I don't mean to derail the conversation. But you know it'd be hilarious is if this video gets taken off of YouTube because there's some friggin' soccer game over Pike's shoulder. It has like copyright infringement and this whole thing. Like we've been
Yeah.
doing this for hours, 3.5
Demonetized.
hours. Pew, take it.
I don't
down.
know.
That's
I don't
funny
know why
to you.
they
That's
the
RJ's
chat,
nightmare.
the
It's
chat
like, I
really
can't
does
edit
not
that
like
out. We
the-
just have to delete Dr.
No, the
Beaker,
chat's
Mick
unhappy.
Chat
Honeydew.
does not like the pick. You're
I
right.
Yeah, the
feel
chat
like
does not like the
I feel like I kind of set the tone because I couldn't hear Todd Button, and I think if we go back and listen to it, I do think Todd Button kind of fucking stumbled over it.
I
think
think
he
it's a
kinda
really interesting
stubbed
pick.
his
I think
toe.
it's really interesting.
I like it.
Led the
Yeah.
USHL in scoring. That's not
Yeah.
nothing.
No, that's really
28, That's a
impressive.
good value pick.
Yeah,
The,
I
I'm okay with it.
Give us some intel on him. I know you got a bunch of guides in front of you.
He was so fourth in the USHL in goals. The 3 guys ahead of him were all older players. Led the league in assists, led the league in points. You know, he's not small. He's listed as 6'1", 180. So there's some room to thicken him out. And you know, I think the idea is if you're going to college, especially at a good program, you're going to go there. You're going to learn the nuances of the game. And the cool thing is, you know, if you're looking for like, if you're trying to bet on guys that bet on themselves, like his projection, it's not exactly the same as Idar Suniev, because Suniev had like, to be lack of a better term, a much weirder journey.
Yeah, COVID moved him around a bunch.
And he had like I think the visa stuff where because of the situation in Russia, it became difficult for him. It's a whole other story. But Gridden came over 2 years ago, so he's already played in North America for 2 years. He's not someone that you have to play the flight risk card because he obviously wants to be here because he came over to pursue his dreams. So you know, it's again, it feels pretty flamesy right now.
When you say flamesy, what about it? What do you mean? Like what traits about the player or the pick?
Toolsy, see, you know, you're betting on ceiling, you're betting on the guy developing, and then, you know, you're taking guys with sort of different projections. But I mean, if you look at the 2 picks, I mean, if you're someone going, oh man, the Flames never draft for offensive ceiling, they drafted the leading scorer in the OHL amongst defensemen, and they drafted leading scorer outright in the USHL.
You're making bets on guys that have scored at an elite rate, is what you're talking about. That's
the guys that score a lot at the NHL tend to be guys that scored a lot at lower levels, and these are 2 guys that have scored a lot.
Yeah, there's no Hunter Smith here or Keegan Kanzi.
So. How dare you? Turn Kent's camera off.
Big
That's a 5-minute timeout. Go to your room.
Big keys.
Who did Dallas pick?
They
were, the draft is still going.
Oh, Emil Hemming.
Emil Hemming. Still no Basha.
Yeah, maybe he'll.
That's surprising, actually.
It's actually not surprising to me. I think the players with this profile often fall, and it'll be interesting to see, especially like again, when they. Yeah, I could see it.
He's poised for a monster year, though, in Medicine Hat, right?
Possible.
And to your point, you know, like he's going to be surrounded by 2 of the best players in junior hockey in the country, and Lindstrom and McKenna, who's going to be the god of the 2026 draft. Like, how much is him? How is it a great place to develop? Probably. And how many picks away are we from Calgary's next, Pike? Because they'll have the
41
9th pick in the second round. So,
41.
So yeah, you're
there
just
you go.
10, 11 picks away. Maybe this is the range where everyone's lists are quite different. Like 20 to 45 would be wild variance team to team.
All right, I'll jump in with some sweet musings from our friend Stephen Ellis from Daily Faceoff. He had Greedon at 52. Granted, again, this is the point of the draft where everyone's lists are different. Quote, Greedon captured the USHL scoring crown for 23-24. The University of Michigan product has the most multi-point efforts in the league this season too. His 2-way game needs some work, but he's been more engaged without the puck the final few viewings I had compared to, say, the fall showcase. His offensive upside is interesting as long as he can keep putting up similar numbers in the NCAA, and I do think he'll be a top 6 threat with the Wolverines. Maybe he'll be a nice pickup for someone in the second round. Okay. So maybe a little bit earlier than he suspected he'd be chosen, but you can definitely tell there's stuff that he likes about it. He's basically the second round. It's close to it.
Broke my heart. You just broke my heart. Mustard. Could have had mustard.
Well, Mustard might be there.
Where is Mustard?
Mustard might. I don't think Mustard is necessarily like a guy who you would expect to see in the first round. With all due respect, I think there's a very good chance.
You know what?
No respect.
He's going. He's going next. He's going next.
You calling it or what?
It's the Rangers, and what do we know about New York?
They love their mustard.
Deli sandwiches.
Oh hell yeah! Stack it high.
Katz's Deli. We're gonna get the pastrami sandwiches with some mustard and rye.
Where are you at on the power rankings? Are you used to straight yellow mustard at the top? Are you a Dijon guy? Do you like the grainy stuff?
I don't do Dijon.
No,
I know you don't.
Frenches. Give me Frenches. Yeah.
Although you know what? Too, I don't like that.
Yeah, what do you
Philly
think
at
honey
32.
mustard?
Philly, good sandwich
it's
town.
a mustard city for sure.
Mustard's going tonight. We're getting some mustard.
I'll give a free plug to the sandwich place in this hotel.
Yes.
I've had 2 amazing sandwiches, and
what mustard
before I check out, I might go for a third.
Do you go Dijon yellow or John?
I went. They have like a turkey sandwich with like a honey mustard on it. It's phenomenal.
Honey. Okay, I didn't have honey in there.
God
damn.
What's the name of the sandwich place?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now I gotta look it up.
It's got like Jewish deli vibes, right?
Yeah,
it's really nice. It feels a bit like Grumman's in Calgary. Like
I was gonna say
decor and
similar.
the menu looks similar. Nails.
Saginaws.
Yeah, Saginaw.
Coincidentally, you know who the Flames
Same
drafted?
Parekh.
Same Parekh from the Saginaw Spirit.
Oh,
It's kismet.
well,
It's kismet.
Once you get Saginaw's and Mustard and Parekh together on a
Well,
rye
I don't know if we can wait
sandwich.
till 41, boys. I don't know if we can wait till 41. I mean, it's a long time to wait for
We're
Mustard.
certainly not podcasting until
Indeed.
41. We're up 3 picks to go, boys.
Call Bettman. See if we just keep this thing rolling. We're having a hell of a good time. I got lots of
somebody just pointed
Who
out
has
to
his
me.
number?
Who,
Go
Batman?
ahead.
Yeah,
Oh,
Go
so
ahead.
I was gonna say somebody pointed out to me. Matt Coronado, draft year, USHL, 85 points. Matt Vagreed 83.
So you're saying he's the Russian Coronado?
And he's,
right.
and he's 3 inches tall.
28.
I kind of like it.
Come
I
to
kind of
daddy.
like it. I know nothing about him.
good.
Never seen him play, but I really like it. That's
Rangers at 30, Ducks at 31, the Ducks move that to Toronto 31, and the Flyers wrap around one at 32. We had to record a mock draft, and at that point, it was the day of Game 7. We didn't know the outcome. We confidently told you it would be Philadelphia at 32nd because they own Florida's pick, and the Cup winner selects 32nd. So
No mustard. No
T's a
mustard to the Rangers.
it's Emery. It's Emery. It's EJ Emery.
EJ Emery.
There you go.
Um,
You're close. So close.
That's
Yeah,
an interesting pick. I like it
close.
for them.
He's
Well,
just-
now that they're trading Trouba, they're going to need someone to come in.
Yeah, honestly.
That's interesting. And not a lot of times you hear teams asking for no trade lists from their captains.
Yeah.
You know what?
Jury's been pretty ruthless.
That was a bad playoff because I don't remember hearing anything about trade talk. It was, their captain,
No.
he's punishing hitter, great leader,
Yeah,
all
fights.
of this. As a bad playoff, we're going to need a list of teams.
yeah, we're done. We're done here.
You're getting out of here. I don't know.
Like the freaking captain, one of the heaviest hitters in the league, like tone
In
setter.
fairness, he could be one of those guys that when it falls off in a hurry. Because just because you're a physical punishing player doesn't mean you're not sustaining damage too. You talk to a lot of guys.
Dion Phaneuf, man.
I was concussed from half of the hits.
Yeah.
You don't need I got people crawling behind me. They don't want to disrupt this
This
this high-end production.
We are not a janky outfit. We'll repeat that.
Yeah.
We are not.
When Kyle Pozo won the Stanley Cup, my first thought was that hit that Dion Phaneuf threw on him in the preseason, like 15 years
Oh,
ago.
way back in the day.
The
Was
same
that his
game.
How old
christening
were you?
into the
Like
league, or
12
what?
when that
That was
happened?
that was the same game where Theo Fleury scored in the shootout. That was
Against the
Christopher
Islanders.
Gibson.
against the New York.
Oh,
Yeah. I think that was that long
That was
ago.
the famous preseason.
The
I didn't
famous
realize we
preseason.
had Dion Theo overlap, but that one preseason
We
might have been
sure
it.
did. Yeah,
right.
we sure did.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be really interesting to see what the second round holds. It's also interesting to see that when Conroy was at the Dan Milstein camp for the Russian who went in the top 5. What's his name
Demidov,
again?
Demidov.
Demidov, that's right. He was at but yeah, I was kind of why is he scouting Demidov? But Matt Vagreed was there too. That's kind of interesting. So they would have gotten an extra book on him. He just was talking about him. So gonna be interesting. I'm really I wonder if he'll be a development camp.
They really probably I would argue the big legacy of Brad Treliving in terms of scouting development is he just added extra scouts in the USHL and NCAA and also the NAHL. And
It's a
so
good level.
I don't know what more they would have learned about Greedon they wouldn't have learned during the playing season.
That's fair. That camp was really especially important for the guys that were in Russia proper because they couldn't play internationally. Scouting has become particularly hard in Russia. You're trying to trust video versus your eyes. But yeah, if he's got other clients, he's going to bring them in, right?
Yep, that's good points.
2 picks to go. Toronto, are they heading up? Our boy Treliving, who we saw at a steakhouse a couple nights ago here.
Oh,
That-
nice.
yeah.
Holy name drop.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I heard a story that I'm not going to repeat on the air that made me laugh my ass off.
It
so-
wasn't
Why
me.
even bring
That's
it up?
all I'll
You
say.
It wasn't you.
yeah.
Ooh.
Not me.
Just tell us.
I'm never going
Come
to
on.
speak ill of people who do not have the ability to defend
I
themselves.
will say this: if the
bring
over/under
it
was
up.
on 0.5 drunk people and it wasn't Pinder, you would have got some
Treliving texted me
premium
and said you were a
odds.
fucking puddle.
And I was
You're
stone
running into
sober.
your buddy
The
Pinder
guy I
last
was
night.
with was an absolute bucket of water.
Pinder was just asking which way church was.
They were overserved. I'll say that. That was the report I got.
And again, I was 2 drinks in, which for me, that's my resting blood alcohol content. So dead sober. The other guy was not. He had spent 6 hours in the sun drinking pails of liquor.
He's a lot.
He's a lot of lots.
Hey guys, we should have it. You know what? Because this was the originally Edmonton Oiler pick, right?
Oh yeah.
That they traded away.
You're right.
This was Henrique, and then they traded
the Henrique.
Yeah.
Here's the not using your pick, and it sure paid off in the end. Cheers to you guys.
Adam Henrique sure was a guy that played some.
You know what? I hope whoever this is, straight to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Be okay with that?
Because you know who it's going to be. It's going to be Mustard.
Mustard in Toronto. And Toronto, don't sleep on Toronto as a hot dog city. You can get smog dogs and street meat all over the place. There's vendors everywhere. Mustard's a fit in Toronto.
I got to buy a hot dog cart.
I almost wonder. This is
an old bit he used to do. RJ, do you remember? There'd be a hot dog cart across the street, and every time Dean was wrapping the show and he'd leave at 9,
I'd be out
this
there.
Guy'd be opening up the hot dog. He's like, "No, I'd be great. He'd be talking to people. He'd have regulars."
Hey, Pike, do you know what I'd be like? Insane. I'd be like the Swedish chef of hot dogs. Would you like a?
You do a good job in that too.
I have a report.
Okay.
From Craig Conroy. Okay. I took the gold, so the Milstein camp.
Yep.
I said, you like Gradin at the Milstein camp, obviously. He says, loved him. When I was watching the USA program, he was great. High skill and a great shot, good size. And then he says, and Dan Milstein clients. But that's not here nor there.
There you go.
You love Russians and Milstein clients.
Yeah, he's gotten some great deals on Milstein clients, and he's kind of been driven hard by other ones. Zadorov is a tough one, but Miramanov for $1.25 for the next 2 years. There's no way that's not a steal, even if you're at number 6-7.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a good chance that he's more than that.
I agree. I think he looks like a third pair guy that might be able to run power play too at minimum.
No, Mike's in love with him.
Well, he's not a Coyote yet. But yeah,
hey.
Ken,
there's no such thing as Coyotes.
Mackenzie Weegar light.
Yes. Yeah. Gould loves him, so we'll see.
I like him. I think there's something.
Danford.
No, you love him.
Oh, they took Ben Danford, eh?
Ben Danford to the Leafs.
I don't know who that is.
Ben Danford. Oh, they took Ben Danford, eh?
That guy.
Yes, Mike. That's literally what we just said.
I don't know anything about him, but he's good.
No, the Danfords.
Well, the Danfords, their bloodlines in the sport go back generations.
Yeah.
He called the game with his brother at a U16 camp.
Yeah, this is a bit of a reach from the consensus for the Leafs. They
did that last year too, though, and it worked really well. They love the Cowan kid. Yeah.
Cowan, that worked out. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, they're who's their director of pro scouting? I think it's like Wes Clark or something. Yeah, he really stuck his neck out for Cowan, and it seems to have worked. So this will be interesting. I think there's a couple of defensemen on that Oshawa team. There's another one named Luca Morelli, I think, and I think he maybe took away some of the offensive opportunities. Oh yeah, very good.
I know you.
He loves him too. Yeah,
he's a great player.
Along. If this guy's not getting called the votes, I don't know what the heck's going on with these voters. This Michelli. All right.
Hey, and I was right.
Harass other people about Michelli. What's happening here?
I talked to everybody.
Bedard got hurt. I know.
When I told Gould that I had Connor Ingram on my Masterton ballot, he was over the moon.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
He was very good.
I'll tell you this: we got way too many people watching this thing right now.
What are our numbers at?
We're 530 people. Holy
moly. All in, we're like 4,800. We're just
holy moly.
Flirting
with
I guess there's a bunch on
Facebook too. Yeah,
and you know what we have to say to this, guys. Thank you, but make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Because if you don't like and subscribe often enough, RJ can't afford to fly home. He'll just stay here.
Yeah, if you don't like, comment, and subscribe, they get to take turns kicking me.
Actually, if you meet a certain threshold, then we will.
Yeah, give us 2,000. We'll kick them on
it works the opposite way.
It's the opposite thing. Yeah.
Yeah. They each get to boot me. It's like the Bart versus Australia.
You'll like
Okay.
this because
Booting.
the feed that I just hang on, Pike. Jesus Christ, the feed that I have is kind of like the producer. What do you call it? It's like the administrator. So I'm
Sure.
looking down because I can see all of the. It's like, okay, well, we got this and that. I'm like, so what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are these 5? I just realized about 5 minutes ago. There's 5 of us on this thing.
It's true.
I'm like, why are
Yep.
there? What are all these? Can't
It's
go.
crowded.
What?
So all
Oh,
these people
Jesus.
you were talking to, that's the 5. of
There's
us.
5 on. There's 5 on the thing right now.
That's correct. Yeah.
So how about
yeah.
that, eh?
Is that what the glasses are
guys.
for?
Yeah.
Got a prescription?
Yeah, that's right.
It's our 3rd sunglass commitment, Mike. Are you okay over there?
Hey, you know what?
Hey,
I got
Mike,
perfect
listen. Just get
Yeah.
some. They sell them anywhere.
No, it's really easy.
Tomorrow
on,
morning,
right days.
tomorrow morning when we're here for round 2, you fire them on, and we'll go all day.
I bought a pair of Oakleys the summer before I went off to university, and I lost them on a bus the second day that I was in Ottawa.
That's a tough L, buddy.
I haven't bought a pair of good sunglasses since. I'm pretty upset.
I know.
About it.
Hey, Pike, I know you're dying to get in. I can tell you're itching over there. What
yeah,
do you-
Do you know? Here's a bit of trivia for you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Okay, how many Flames that played NHL games or finished the NHL season with the club is Dan Milston
4.
the agent for?
7.
7. Nope.
I think it's
5.
So you're saying the 23-man roster that they had at the end of the year?
Finish the season with the NHL club.
Yeah, Ohotia, Kamiromanov, Sharangovich, Kuzmenko. There's got to be
Was
a few more in
Soloviev
there.
up at the end?
Kuzmenko is actually Newport. He is
Okay.
not
What-
he is not
time-
Goldguard.
He changed to Newport after the season. I believe he
Okay.
was still in West Team Klein at the time.
This is unbelievable.
Why do you know this?
I
This
wrote
is so
about it.
good.
Yeah.
Why?
Pinder, where have you been?
Why?
What's been happening? Like, what are we doing here?
I'm
Yeah.
blown
What are we
away
at?
by this.
Yeah. So the answer is 7 if you include Kuzmenko, 6 if you don't.
Yep.
The
Yep.
other guy, the other guy he represents
Why?
is Ilya Nikolaev.
Nikolaev.
Coming soon. Origin Malting and Brewing presents Mike Gold Lager, available in 4-packs. This
It's
guy's
caffeine free.
this guy's up and comer. Look at this. This guy's a star in the making.
Oh no.
7
No,
Milstein
no.
clients.
Oh God, are the Flyers done yet?
I was going to say, how's that last pick coming?
Yeah, seriously, what the
we're
hell
not-
is going
They're
on?
trade.
We're not stopping.
Please don't
They were
trade.
Come on now.
They were so upset that Matt agreed and got took that they just had to go for somebody else. There you
I
go.
don't know. Dino's got a good point. It's a mustard city. We're not
It's a
dead yet,
must-
Yeah,
guys.
be mustard.
Let's go.
There's an interesting comment that I'm seeing in the chat. Is Zane Parekh going to play next season?
Yeah, I think
Like
that
in
would be
Calgary?
crazy.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't
No.
think so. I don't
The,
think
the
so.
Oilers
But-
are trading in.
That's a go
Really?
back to junior.
Oilers have traded up to pick 32, so they can pick in the first
Oh
round.
man. Hey, you know what? They
And question for you: who is making the pick for?
yeah,
so
is
they
it
don't
going to be
have
Jeff
a.
Jackson? Is it going to be Connor McDavid?
Well, yeah, no. I guess the point being they don't have a GM at this point, but that's
Yeah,
that's
no.
quite interesting.
Yeah.
Not that
I
Jeff
guess-
Jackson doesn't
Right.
have plans in place. He hired the last coach, but he said he isn't going to be the GM. He's going to hire one. That's just not typical course of business for NHL teams.
They're trying to manifest the Stanley Cup in Edmonton by picking 32nd overall. No,
I see them
not going
working.
to happen.
Good luck with
That's
that.
good.
Not going to happen.
Yeah,
Not
that
going to
makes a lot
happen.
of sense. Yeah.
Huh. Well, I think the last time the Oilers picked in the first round, they took Reed Schaefer, I want to say, and they ended up trading him to.
If they
to
want to
Nashville,
Schaefer again, I'm okay with that.
in the Ekholm trade. The Reed Schaefer pick was not a very good pick.
It was not.
No.
No.
He was on a very good, I believe he was on the Seattle Thunderbirds last year, a very good team that Lucas Siona was the captain of. But he was even then like their 6th or 7th best forward. So I don't know.
Wow.
Like he was behind Dylan Gunther, behind Brad Lambert. Tej was there. I would say he was probably a better player. So yeah. And he was a healthy scratch for a lot of the season.
Putting your neck
So,
out there, eh?
No, probably.
Yikes. Oh, Edmonton.
Yeah. They're doing something at the registry here.
Well, you have to call their next pick then.
Oh
can do
man, me? This is
Yeah, yeah.
tough because Edmonton could do anything here. I have no idea.
That's
but
right.
I will say.
Pick your favorite bust here. Could you, Gold, give us a
Yeah, I'll
line?
do, you know what? I'm going to say Ryder Ritchie just for fun. Edmonton.
Oh, poor
Edmonton.
kid.
Edmonton deserves
Pick your
a
favorite
Ritchie.
bust.
Edmonton deserves a Ritchie.
For Dean's sake, I hope it's not John Mustard.
I hope it's Mustard. That'd be fantastic.
Mustard
You
to
want
Edmonton?
Mustard in
Yeah.
Edmonton?
How dare you, Dean? That's
Yeah.
the biggest
Hey, you know what?
turncoat I've ever seen.
I love him, but I'm not married to the pick. I could, if Edmonton wants him, they could have him for sure. I'm not married to it. Come
You're
on,
not?
Edmonton, hurry up.
The tone change.
You know,
I know
When
I
I-
know it felt like I just need, as long as there's some connection. Although
When I hear John Mustard, I think 600 goals, 1,300 points.
Yeah.
Do it. Let's do
So
it.
the Oilers have traded a conditional future first to get this pick.
That's
Uh,
something
what?
that could blow up in your face. All right.
Yeah, so they've
Okay.
traded. Yeah,
so it'll
it's
be
the-
top 20 protected or something like
They
that.
haven't done that.
They did.
They
How
have
else do they
traded-
get to round one? Like, what are we
They
talking about? They gotta
traded
give them
their
something.
first round pick either next year or the year after that for this.
Wow,
this
that
thing.
has amazing blow
Why
up in
would
your
you
face
do that?
potential.
Why would you do that?
Because they think
Guaranteeing
the
you
pick
get-
will be in the 30s.
You're guaranteeing, but you listen. You're guaranteeing that you get the lowest pick in the first round instead of taking a swing at maybe getting a higher one in the future. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
That's
I hope
pretty
they
funny.
pick someone who's already been taken. We'll take Caden Lindstrom.
They
Guys.
actually have a procedure for that. You just lose the pick. You don't get second chances.
Yeah,
He was
Pike,
like
you
3
you
hours
wrote
ago.
about it, didn't you?
What the
Yeah,
hell? You don't have a
it-
GM. That's that's what happens. You pick
But-
a guy who's already been drafted.
Before the rules were more clearly defined, the Flames drafted a player that they thought did not have a contract in with the I think it was with the Red Wings at the time. He was a European player who left was on loan for something, and yeah, they tried to draft a player who was already drafted under
That's in your
contract.
book, isn't it? Pike?
It is.
Yeah.
This guy here is dead.
My question is this Ken Holland making one last gasp trade? Like, who is making this trade?
No, he's not allowed. He's
Like,
not
ser-
there.
Like, who is it?
What
it
is
Jack?
He's in
happening?
Edmonton. He'd have to
Yeah.
fax it in.
It's got to be a terrible pick. Come on.
Come on.
From the
Come
London
on.
Knights.
It's got to be bad.
It's not Ryan
Sam,
Ritchie. Sam
O'Reilly.
O'Reilly. It's Sam O'Reilly.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Who's that?
He was below a point a game this year, but I think he rose because of a good playoff.
56 points in 68 games. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
and
very-
of course the younger brother of
that's a
Ryan,
thing.
Yeah, very. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the
He's not.
grandson of Terry O'Reilly, the famous Bruin,
I will
Alrighty.
say.
and his
All right.
dad, a part of the O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Yeah.
And the Flames will be back up at some point early tomorrow morning when the draft begins at 9:30 in the morning or 8:30 Pacific time, where we are in this current state.
I
You
will
don't
say
know where
Enjoy.
I am.
if the Flames
you
had
don't
picked, if the Flames
You
had
know
made
where
this
I am.
pick at 28, I don't think I would have been very happy with it. So
no.
yeah, it's but hey, who knows?
Okay, who would you have been happy with
I like Matt Greedon. I think he's great. He looks
outside
good.
of Green? What other pick would you have been like?
Oh.
Hot damn, Craig, that's some nice
I
work.
like DJ
Muse.
Emery. He went 2 picks later. I
Yeah.
like Henry Muse. It looks fine. There's a bunch of guys. There's guys who are on the board who I expected to go in the first round who are still there tomorrow.
Yep.
And we see this every year. I mean, last year the Lane Hudson going to the second round was surprising. The year before that, Logan Stankoven going to the second round was surprising. There are always surprises.
Yeah, that was a good big one.
Don't mention Stankoven around Pike, but it'll be really interesting. There's lots
Or
and lots of
Kent,
good players.
apparently.
Or Kent.
Yeah.
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 Anyways.
Yeah. I'm amazed the Oilers made that trade to get that player. I mean, maybe he'll turn
That's
out,
nonsense.
but I'm really surprised.
Yeah, I'll be curious to
Oh,
hear
I like
exactly
it.
what the fine print is on that deal, but to
Yeah.
That's
give up a
terrible trade.
future
That's terrible
first for
trade.
the absolute last pick of the first round
Yeah.
Like,
feels
the
The guy
best
who's
you can do
definitely
is-
going to be
is break
available
even.
the second round.
Yeah.
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 For
Yeah. All you've done
I
is
love
just
it.
basically delay the pleasure. Or well, no, not even. It's the opposite.
No,
It's the
no.
it's
It's
the
the
opposite.
exact
You have
opposite.
basically traded the future for the now, which is just a
for not
yeah.
the now. No, that's
and
a
not
bad
and not
trade.
even the now. That's the thing,
Yeah.
right?
No,
like
it's
yeah,
bad. That's bad. I
like,
love it.
Do we
like
know,
even if
Do we know
Sorry,
where
go
Pinder
ahead.
went?
yeah, I have no
I
idea.
I think he's
Well, you're-
dead.
you're in the same room as him.
No.
How are we supposed to know?
Yeah,
I got headphones. He just sort of
Like,
gets
you're
up
there.
and-
you have headphones on.
Yeah.
Do they cover
I
your
got
eyes?
lights in my face. I got RJ doing.
Yeah, I couldn't see. I got
making
my
arm-
headphones on.
Yeah, you'll have to speak up. I'm wearing a towel.
Oh, man.
There's always
All
a
right.
line.
Oh
Sorry.
dear.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Who did they take with their first pick again?
Zane Parekh.
There you
Zane
go.
Parekh.
Yeah.
So we got the
Yeah.
Saginaw Spirits, Zane Parekh, and the Muskegon Lumberjacks, Matvey Greedon.
Pike, there's somebody in the chat asking if you're hammered, and I will say your face is now the same shade as your shirt.
I
it's
may or
all-
may not. I might. This might
I
be the
drink.
most sober I've
yeah,
been
he
all
does.
day.
Yeah.
So
Oh
P-
dear.
Did
He's got a
Pinder just
beer there, I
leave?
think.
Like it
Yeah.
just that's
Where the
it?
hell is he?
I have no idea.
Let's just
I-
talk about him.
He's
Yeah.
he's he had to go take care of something. I don't know.
Pretty amazing with that
Fair
Parekh
enough.
kid. How many people do you know? And it means nothing necessarily towards translating the hockey skills, but how many guys graduate high school 2 years early?
Not
Nerd.
me.
Who's
There you go.
who's taking university courses at 15, 16 years of
It's
age?
really impressive.
I know
It's a
lot of people
special
don't take
kid. I don't know if it
university
means-
20-year-olds.
Right? Like I don't know if it means he's a good hockey player, but that's crazy
Smart
stuff.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy
Yeah.
stuff.
It's really cool.
So, I guess
right.
just
I think we're
before we
done.
wrap, because we're not doing round 2 tomorrow.
No.
And
No.
July 1st, Frank Seravalli Daily Face Off, they're doing their thing. And some of us will reconvene on the 2nd.
And I believe
Also-
I'm part of the Western Conference panel
Yeah,
or the Western
of course
Canada
you are.
panel for that show.
For sure you are.
Oh,
For sure
lucky
you are.
guy.
Is there a name? Is there a prediction? Is there a chance the Flames do nothing day one, which doesn't mean they don't do anything in free agency, but do they sit tight on day one? Kent, what's your read?
It's DeBrusque or nothing on day one. I
Really?
would say
eh?
that. Yeah. Yep.
See, I came in as Pinder was like browbeating you and giving you guys shit about even
Yeah, that was
thinking
weird.
about DeBrusque, so I didn't. Oh, he's back. We'll hear from him here shortly.
Oh, great.
Okay, I'm gonna tag out then.
I think it makes some sense, but we'll see. I think there is a very high level of interest. I think it
Let's
is
fight
very-
about it if it happens. How about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I do.
Which debate are we reigniting here, fellas?
DeBrusque.
Yeah. What is the player? Like, are we talking about a middle six winger?
I think
Yeah.
he's a second line winger. I think
Sure.
and it's not. I see everybody on this team, with very few exceptions, as a stopgap player. And the way that I look at this organization is the same as if you're trading Rasmus Anderson. The way that I would handle it is I would sign a player to a 2-3 year deal, and then you keep trading until you have a prospect ready. And that's how I view Mangiapane. If
So you think you're going to get DeBrusque on a 2-3 year deal? It feels like he'd need more of a commitment than that.
I think
It's
it'll
gonna
be
be
4.
5.
I think it'll be
5.
4 if it happens. That's
Okay.
but that's.
I just
sort
don't know
of
what it accomplishes. Like, can he be a second liner? Yes. Now
I don't
what?
know if you necessarily have to
Side.
accomplish anything in terms of the on ice product right away. And I don't know if there's necessarily an immediate need. You're not saying, oh, the thing that's stopping this team from being competitive is we don't score enough goals like right now with the players who we have on our roster right now. That's not the equation. You're not looking at trying to make the playoffs. I think it's just a matter of you have that guy who kind of exists as the benchmark. And if Coronado outplays him, great. And I just don't know. But I think in terms of, I think they'll go after a defenseman. I'm not
Yes.
sure who it'll be. Maybe it'll be Matt Dumba or somebody of that ilk, or maybe it will be something a little bit better. I think it'll be short. And in terms of tomorrow, I like Jesse Pulkkinen. I like Justin Poirier. I like Jeremy's brother. I like.
That's a good pick.
There's a few other guys who I like.
Oh,
Justin Poirier.
huge goal scorer
Yeah.
though. Right?
5'7", but he scored 50 goals in the queue this year. That's something
right.
interesting there.
I see glaring needs in this organization, and middle six wing isn't one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just to get back to it, DeBrusque could be fine, and you could probably get him on a contract, or if it didn't work, you could move him. There's just so many things they need more than a second or third line winger. Like, they don't have centers, they don't have enough top 4 defensemen.
But which center are you signing? That's
They're
the
not
whole
signing
thing.
anybody they
Yeah.
need in an unrestricted.
Yeah, I think it's mostly
Nothing's
just a
happening.
signing. I think
So-
it's
so-
mostly just a signing to fill cap space, to be honest with you.
Yeah, in which case I'd rather take a contract off someone.
I think you can do both.
I agree.
I think
you can't do
think
both. You can't add another top 9 winger if you get DeBrusque in here. Like,
No. I'm not talking. I'm taking on a contract. You don't necessarily have to take on a winger contract. I think you
but
can take on a defense contract or something else.
So many wingers, like good players, go for almost nothing. I
Ryan,
was stunned by the.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah.
Are you on board or
I was to get a second for Mangiapane might be Craig Conroy's best deal.
It might be.
Like
The fact that they got more for Mangiapane than Zadorov is crazy to me.
Much more. Like the third.
I don't know what Washington's doing. We did the thing
I don't
last
either.
night.
It's insane.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's a guy for a year
Bizarre.
for a lot of money, I guess.
Yeah, too much money.
I don't know.
And we see better wingers or comparable wingers making less money that are almost impossible to move. I mean, we saw twice last year, Anthony Beauvillier got moved for a fifth.
Yeah, but Beauvillier stinks. It's
Well, but so does Mangiapane. 14 fucking goals playing on the best checking line on the team, and the other winger got 30. Like, what is Mangiapane good at now? I love the player. He had a great year a couple of years ago. He's hit 20 once in his life. What are we talking about here?
Put your sunglasses on.
It's a good point. It's a good point. But no, there's anyway. There are lots of good players tomorrow, and I think with their 2 second-round picks, I think they can do something really interesting here, and I'm very excited to see what they can do.
I'll tell you what. Aside from Ryan, this has been tremendous. I've had a hell of a good
That's how he feels about most of our shows, to be fair, though.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys do Monday to Friday at about 10:15, 10:20, but you've got some time in your hands. Ryan, run us through the sponsors. Run us through the sponsors, and we'll call.
Well, just a big shout out to the people that allow us to do this, and we don't have more important sponsors than Betway, McLeod Law, and Village Honda. They're a crucial piece of us being able to do this. We also have our good pals at Origin Brewery out in Strathmore and now in Calgary at that new location in the Northeast that they've been supplying Dean the Venom to besmirch his co-host here. And on top of that, we also on today's show did our weekly mail inbox, I should say, the Great Clips inbox. So we want to say thank you to them as well. It's been a heck of a time down here in Vegas, Dino. Now we just have to see if this WestJet mechanical strike is real or if I'm going to go home.
I was going to say, so now what happens?
Yeah.
Because essentially you're
dark, but
tasks are done in Vegas, right?
It's getting light when I go. Okay.
Yeah.
I would suggest it's not a green light night for many of the NHL folk because of how early tomorrow gets started and goes, but it is still Vegas out there, Dean.
Yeah, what about for you, Ryan?
Some bottle service and
yeah. What about for you? You're not doing round 2 tomorrow.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
certainly not. I'm getting on a flight. I got to check in and see what time I need to be at the airport, and we'll work backwards from there. If I can give myself a 2-hour cushion between getting in and getting to the airport, that's probably enough, right?
That sounds good. Adam wants to know as well. Can we end with some alligators?
I got some Croc stuff, but I didn't get to
not the same.
Jack.
These two guys are awesome. Kent, Mike, thanks for jumping on tonight. That was awesome.
Thank you, fellas.
And we appreciate you. And to everybody who jumped in on the stream tonight, hope you enjoyed it. We should probably do more of these things.
This was fun. I'd do it anytime.
Nice.
As long as people want to hear me talk.
As long as we can drink.
That's right.
Hey, I got 10 more cans of this.
No.
So.
Get rid of that.
Disgusting. All right. From from Vegas and points beyond. That'll do it. See you, buddies.
Thanks.